786 cities worldwide lose power at the same time. Only one house remains brightly lit. 1 month ago, Victor stayed home and prepared 99 emergency power sources. But that was only the beginning. He prepared enough for 10 lifetimes of endless food and supplies. He even built the ultimate doomsday bastion. Everything he does now is to survive the frozen apocalypse. This apocalypse is exactly like his previous life. In that life, a supernova impact hit blue star Earth. It triggered a global Cambrian blizzard. Temperatures dropped to -70 degrees. Heavy snow fell for an entire month. The blizzards buried the entire city. Humans and most species went extinct. Victor barely survived the disaster, only to be butchered for food by the girl he loved for 18 years. Even his neighbors helped tear him apart. Now reborn 1 month before the Great Frost, he awakened the dimension void to store massive resources. He plans to stock up on supplies and weapons. First, to survive the Great Frost. Second, to get revenge on those who tortured him. The first thing he does after rebirth is go to a luxury hotel for a massive feast. A poor guy like him entering the Grand Celestial Hotel, running up a bill of $450,000. This caught the attention of Crystal. To get revenge on her for cooking soup with his ribs in his previous life, Victor invited Crystal and her friend to go shopping. Having more free labor is always useful. At the market, he ran into Beatrice and her grandson. The grandson tried to steal a bar of chocolate, but Victor immediately snatched it back. He showed them the payment code on his phone, telling them to either pay up or buy it themselves. Beatrice was furious at his behavior. He didn't care, as food is vital for his future survival. Afterward, Crystal asked him for a meal at the Grand Celestial Hotel. He brushed her off and sent them away. He had more important things to do. He needed to store his supplies in the dimension void. The next day, he realized the void couldn't store living things. So he called the hotel. He paid $1 million to order 500 banquet tables of food. Now his food supply was secured. Next was the second step of his plan. He needed to turn his home into a fortress that could withstand the cold and any attack. But first, he needed a lot of money. He had to find a way to fund the project. He took the deed to his house worth $5.5 million. He mortgaged it at the bank for cash. His total balance reached $6 million. This would just cover the food and the renovations. He also needed to buy plenty of medicine and weapons. He decided to get the money from loan sharks. He went to a lending agency to meet the manager. The manager offered a $5 million loan with $7.5 million interest. Victor agreed and signed a contract immediately, but the manager went back on his word right after. He claimed the house could only get him $4 million now. After some negotiation, they settled on a $4 million loan with $7 million interest. The managers were happy to have found a sucker. Little did they know, Victor was the one playing them. Soon, Victor received the $4 million from the agency. His bank balance now reached $9 million. His funding problem was finally solved. Next, he went to the country's largest security firm. He told them he wanted to build a special home. It had to be a safe house that could survive the apocalypse. The manager showed him designs and explained the materials. The technology was top tier, and Victor was very satisfied. He had only one goal in mind. He wanted to turn his home into an absolute, impenetrable iron fortress. They closed the deal for $8 million. After leaving the security firm, he went to buy a large number of melee weapons. When he got back home, the 500 banquet sets he ordered had arrived. They were delivered to the entrance of the complex. Seeing this strange sight, the neighbors thought Victor had lost his mind. After the banquet sets arrived at the underground warehouse, he used the same trick again. He stored all the food into his dimension void. He also planned to empty the Walmart warehouse. Once he gets those supplies, he won't have to worry about food for 10 lifetimes. After this incident, the neighbors mocked him behind his back. You'll see in a month who the real joke is. A week later, it was time to inspect the safe house. The house was now reinforced with 200mm thick alloy plates. The insulation system was completely redone. It could prevent 99.5% of heat loss. Besides that, 300 cameras were installed in the building. He can now monitor every single floor. Victor was very satisfied with the renovation. The manager asked him to pay the balance within 3 months. Victor knew he would never pay it. It's uncertain if they will even survive the apocalypse. In the following days, Victor spent every last cent he had to buy more supplies. He spent his remaining time exercising and learning how to use firearms. All this was to prepare for the coming Great Frost. Soon, it was only 3 days before the apocalypse. It was time for the final step of his plan, to empty the Southern Regional Warehouse. That day, Victor went to work early. He put sleeping pills into everyone's drinks. Half an hour after drinking the water, all the employees fell fast asleep. Then, he went to the Southern Regional Warehouse. He began storing every single item from the warehouse into his dimension void. Soon, the entire warehouse was completely empty. He then returned to his office, drank some of the drugged water himself, and fell asleep on the sofa. This way, he created a mystery regarding the missing supplies. No one would ever suspect him, because no one would believe that in just half an hour, supplies for thousands of people could vanish into thin air. He was a damn genius. Only 2 days remained. It had already started snowing. The sudden cold caught everyone off guard, but everyone thought it was just a normal cold snap. 2 days later, the supernova impact arrived as expected. Temperatures plummeted worldwide and a blizzard began. Yet, people still didn't realize the severity of the situation. Some were even taking photos outside with the snow. Soon, the snow outside was already waist-deep. Normal heaters could no longer keep up with the dropping temperatures. Unable to bear the cold, Crystal sent a message, asking Victor for help. Without a word, Victor sent her a photo of the feast he was eating. In this life, don't expect to get anything from me. To be toyed with and die miserably is your only value, Crystal. Soon, she received a message from Victor. She recognized the top-grade Wagyu beef and the expensive French wine in the photo. Damn, he is living the dream life. So nice. I want steak and wine too. If you want some, go buy it at the store. Crystal was fuming after his reply. Victor tossed his phone aside. A real man never acts like a simp. Suddenly, his surveillance tablet rang. He checked the cameras. The residents were crowding at the front gate. They wanted to go out and buy supplies. But Beatrice blocked the entrance, forbidding them from hoarding goods. The conflict with Beatrice grew intense. Victor suddenly appeared in the group chat. If this blizzard lasts a long time, and everyone has no food, how will you handle it? Instantly, Beatrice became the villain. Everyone turned their anger toward her. This started the grudge between Victor and Beatrice. A few days later, Victor was playing Genshin in his warm room. He received a message from Beatrice. She told him to bring tools to clear the snow outside. Beatrice specifically called Victor out in the group chat. Her revenge came quickly. In this freezing weather, anyone going outside would be frozen solid. Snow clearing should wait until the storm stops. Victor knew the truth. This blizzard would last for at least 3 months. It was falling faster than anyone could clear it. After seeing Victor's reply, everyone else in the group refused to go out as well. Beatrice took the moral high ground and criticized his behavior. She used the neighborhood committee's name to order him to clear the snow. Victor understood her game. Beatrice was using her small amount of authority to act like a bully. Victor decided to stop being polite and confront her. He asked why she only bullied honest people. He noticed she didn't call the thugs or rich kids living upstairs. They were the ones with power and influence. You only pick on the weak, don't you? Victor's response was very satisfying. The honest people in the group cheered for him. Victor continued his attack. Since Beatrice was so capable, she should tell Slade and Chad to clear the snow. Slade was a construction foreman, and Chad was a wealthy rich kid. In Victor's past life, Slade was the first person to break down his door with an axe, and the rich kid Chad was the first to use a knife on him. As for the rest of the neighbors, with very few exceptions, they all shared and ate his flesh after he died. Victor poured a glass of 1982 French wine. He swore to torment and punish them all in this life. Beatrice was now stuck in a difficult position. To save face, she could only go to the group chat and tag Slade and Chad, telling them to go out and clear the snow. When Slade saw the message, he immediately lost his temper. He gave Beatrice a brutal scolding. Chad refused to clear the snow, using the excuse that he didn't have to work or leave the house. Beatrice was nearly exploding with rage. She blamed Victor for the humiliation she suffered. Victor thought, "You old hag who bullies the weak. Watch your life." Beatrice could only swallow her pride for now. She planned to make him pay when she had the chance. Just then, someone began banging loudly on Victor's door. Slade hated Victor's attitude in the group chat. He came to demand an explanation and threatened to kill him. Victor quietly picked up his crossbow. He aimed it at Slade, who was kicking the door. He didn't intend to kill him yet. Instead, he aimed the crossbow at Slade's leg. With a whoosh, the bolt pierced his calf. The bolt went straight through his lower leg. Slade collapsed to the ground in agony. Victor watched everything through the peephole. Everyone knows the consequences. If a leg is pierced at -70 degrees, without immediate treatment or proper medicine, it will get infected, leading to a miserable death in a cold. Slade dragged himself back home in agony. He had to pull the bolt out of his leg. With a scream of pain, he successfully removed the bolt. He is a ruthless man to do that without anesthesia. Then, Slade called his men for backup. He ordered all his lackeys to bring any weapon they could find to attack Victor. They arrived at Victor's door and shouted for him to come out. When there was no response, the leader struck the door with a 40 cm machete. But the blade snapped, failing to scratch the door. While the men outside were frantically attacking the door, Victor was casually playing video games. Dull blades and weak men. How do you expect to fight me? Then, Victor came up with a wicked idea. Victor connected a water hose and pushed it through a hole in the door. Taste this. The men were instantly soaked like drowned rats. The moment the water hit the air, it turned into ice. The men collapsed, frozen to the ground. Slade was helpless against Victor's iron fortress. Slade had no choice but to swallow his rage. Outside, the residents shoveling snow also realized something. Their efforts were useless against the heavy snow. They decided to give up and head back home. It seemed everyone finally understood. Human effort alone was no match against a natural disaster of this scale. Just then, Victor received a text from Crystal. She was demanding food from him, facing the request of his former goddess. Victor was more than happy to satisfy her. He took a photo of the Australian lobster that he had just finished eating and sent it to her. This made Crystal and her friend grit their teeth in envy. The two of them tried to play good cop, bad cop. They worked together, trying to manipulate him. They thought they could still control Victor this way. But things were different now. No longer a simp. He only replied with a single word, "Oh." Seeing this, the two women were helpless. They had to rely on their other simps for food. Victor, I'm the woman you'll never be able to have. 3 days later, Victor checked the time on his phone. He knew the real show was about to begin. Shortly after, there was a loud click. Every light in the entire building went out. The massive blackout had begun. The residents rushed into the hallways to see what happened. They soon realized that the water had been cut off as well. But for Victor, none of this was a problem, because he had already prepared an emergency power source. Moments later, only Victor's house had power restored. At that moment, people realized the apocalypse had truly begun. Fear and anxiety triggered Beatrice's wicked thoughts. My grandson and I must survive, even if I have to sacrifice everyone else. She then posted a message in the neighborhood group chat. She proposed that all residents in the complex should be managed by the neighborhood committee to help everyone get through this crisis. Starting now, the committee will collect supplies from every household, then distribute them equally. Using Victor's role as a Worldmart manager as an excuse, she asked him to lead by sharing his food first. Victor saw through her scheme instantly. In his past life, this was how he let the wolves into his home. He was eventually butchered alive by his malicious neighbors. He pressed the voice message button. Beatrice, if you collect any supplies, remember to share some with me. I need my own supplies for myself. Beatrice saw through his deflection immediately. She knew Victor was a warehouse manager. He could always get many discounted goods. His house must be filled with supplies. She quickly calmed herself down. She knew if she could catch a big fish, like Victor, his supplies could last them at least another week. She continued to put pressure on Victor. She told him he must obey the organization's orders. But Victor was no pushover. He said he only had ice cream left to eat. If you want ice cream at -70 degrees, I can give you some. Beatrice was furious at being teased. She threatened to punish him if he didn't cooperate. Representing the organization? You're just a neighborhood committee clerk. You're not even a civil servant. You don't even have a permanent position. It's fine to delude yourself normally, but you really think you're important. Do your worst. I'll be waiting for you at home. Beatrice hung up the phone in a rage. Because every word Victor said was the truth. Her priority now was to scam as many people as possible. All her schemes were right under Victor's nose. Surprisingly, some residents actually gave her supplies. The outside world had already fallen into chaos. Only those with supplies could survive. Otherwise, they could only wait for death. Soon, the residents realized something was wrong. They all demanded that Beatrice return their supplies. They crowded her, asking for their food back. But Beatrice was not a kind person. She had worked hard to scam these supplies. There was no way she would give them back. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was the contractor calling. He knew that Beatrice had taken everyone's supplies for herself. Seeing she couldn't hide it, Beatrice made excuses. But the contractor didn't buy it at all. He warned her to hand over all the goods. Otherwise, the dozen men in his room would come with weapons to take them. That is what the contractor said. But after hanging up, he broke into her house with his men. He immediately gave Beatrice a hard slap. He said it was for the neighbors she had tricked. After teaching Beatrice a lesson, the contractor ordered his men to take every bit of supplies. With a bruised face, Beatrice grabbed his leg. She begged him to leave some food for her family. I don't care about that. Get your dirty hands off me. He then kicked her away. Seeing his grandmother on the floor, the grandson grabbed a tool and told them to get out. He then stabbed a lackey in the rear. You little brat, do you want to die? He then kicked the little boy away. The others stood by and cheered. They were truly a bunch of thugs. They didn't even spare a child. Beatrice rushed to check on her grandson. The contractor showed no remorse and said they deserved it. He said this was the price for scamming the neighbors. He claimed to be delivering justice. Everything that just happened was broadcasted by Victor to the neighborhood group chat. The neighbors cheered for Chad, calling his actions swift and heroic. While they were celebrating, Victor had a different perspective. Since the contractor could rob Beatrice today, he would eventually break into everyone else's homes too. Victor simply shrugged. He knew that no matter what happened, no one could ever break into his fortress. Just then, Beatrice sent a message to the group. She asked if anyone had medicine. Sarah needed it to perform surgery on her grandson. Victor looked at the message with confusion. Suddenly, Victor's phone rang. The caller was the woman from his previous life. It was Crystal, the one who had led the mob to butcher him. It seemed she had run out of food and was seeking help. When the video call connected, Victor intentionally showed the fried chicken behind him. It was a luxury feast they could no longer afford. Crystal's mouth watered at the sight of the food. They asked why he was wiping sweat when it was -200 degrees outside. Victor pointed at his fireplace. He said it worked so well that he was uncomfortably hot. Crystal immediately said she had a new swimsuit. She asked to come over to his house to try it on. She continued to shower him with fake flattery. But Victor only felt disgusted by her. I don't know exactly how cold it is outside, but looking at all of you, the temperature must be very low. Crystal was furious that he didn't show her any sympathy. Victor replied coldly, why would anyone care about rotten fish and shrimp? I think even Beatrice downstairs is better than you. He then immediately hung up the phone. Who do you think you are? How dare you insult a goddess? Crystal slammed her phone on the floor. Her friend blamed her for not securing Victor earlier. Now Victor is a hot commodity. He is much better than that arrogant rich kid. The two of them then officially ended their friendship. It was a ridiculous and shallow relationship. After a scuffle, her friend asked if there was any other way. They wondered what they could do next. Crystal suggested getting rid of Victor. Then they would take over his house. But they couldn't achieve this on their own. So she called the rich kid living upstairs. When Chad arrived, Crystal immediately started her Oscar-level acting. She cried and falsely accused Victor of trying to humiliate her. Chad was furious after hearing this. He wanted to teach Victor a lesson. Crystal proposed that if Chad could seize Victor's house, then she and her friend would both belong to him. No man could refuse an offer like that. He agreed to the plan. The three of them took weapons and headed to Victor's house. They arrived sneakily at Victor's front door. Chad knocked on the door. "Victor, are you home?" "It's me, Chad." Victor watched him through the surveillance camera. He knew that such sudden kindness always came with a hidden motive. Sure enough, the monitor showed two other people with him, all carrying weapons. "You think the three of you can kill me?" Chad lied, saying they had run out of food. He claimed he wanted to trade fever medicine for food. Inside, Victor was already connecting a water hose. He was ready to give them a miserable bath. Then, something caught his eye. He found something even more interesting. It was some old sewage in the corner of the kitchen. Victor came up with a plan. While answering Chad, he poked the hose out through the door. The three outside heard movement and thought they had succeeded. They prepared to rush inside, but in the next second, they were hit with a blast of old sewage. Crystal got a taste and realized it was wastewater. She immediately threw up everything she had eaten. Chad pounded on the door, screaming for Victor to come out. Inside the room, Victor called them three stupid pigs. "If you're hungry, what's wrong with drinking some water?" Hearing this, Chad immediately grabbed a machete. He struck the door hard, trying to smash it, but the steel door numbed his hand from the impact. Chad fell to the ground, screaming in pain. His hand was completely paralyzed by the shock. Suddenly, a loud gunshot rang out. Victor picked up his tablet. He checked the surveillance outside. The monitor showed a foreman and his men. They were carrying supplies out of a room. Victor saw a water basin on the floor. He finally understood the situation. Due to the apocalypse, the city's water supply was cut off. Residents usually went out at this time to collect snow to melt for drinking water. The foreman and his group used this moment to ambush them. The third-floor residents were doomed. Their food was stolen and they were shot. Even if they survived the wound, they wouldn't last long. Meanwhile, the foreman took photos of the supplies they had just stolen. He posted a message in the owner's group chat. "This is what happens to anyone who stands out." He declared himself the building leader in charge of everything. He warned that if anyone dared to resist, he would send them to the king of hell. Seeing the message, Victor was quite impressed. This guy really had some skills. No wonder he thrived in the outside world. His bullets and the number of men were limited after all. He couldn't fight the entire building alone. So he used both threats and persuasion to keep everyone afraid to act. Then, Victor noticed he had been added to another group chat. It was a resistance group formed by other owners. They were angry that units 302 and 401 had surrendered their food and drinks out of fear. The owners in the group discussed how to deal with the bully, but most of them were just keyboard warriors. No one was actually willing to step up. Nobody wanted to take a bullet from Slade. However, at that moment, a brave man stood up. Arthur said he was willing to lead the group and teach those bullies a lesson. The others quickly agreed, giving him their moral support. Arthur said, "They have 5 or 6 men, and they have a gun in their hands. I can't go there alone. I need at least a dozen young men to join me. It's safer if you come with me." However, a disagreement arose. A girl stood up. She opposed Arthur's idea. After the lesson they learned from Beatrice about being tricked for supplies, she feared Arthur would take all the able-bodied men to surrender to the foreman's group. Then the elderly, women, and children left behind would have no way to defend themselves. The group split into 2 sides and started arguing. If the men are gone, who will protect our families? When Victor saw these messages, he could only sigh. Even now, they are still fighting among themselves. Most of these people deserve what is coming to them. In this world, you can only save yourself. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. The foreman personally killed one of his own men. His followers complained about his cruelty. "How can you show no mercy to your own people?" The foreman told them to shut up. "The sick will die sooner or later anyway. It's better to end his life now, so he doesn't waste our food." His men were too afraid to resist. They could only pile the body outside the door. Since he was dead, they decided to make use of him. "They can help us survive a bit longer." To them, this was a lucky break. Slade knew his power depended entirely on the gun in his hand. Only after everyone ate the meat would they truly be in this together. Victor saw this and realized Slade was a cold and ruthless man. Keeping the bodies at the door meant that if food ran out, he would use them as emergency rations. Victor decided that if Slade ever dared to cross him, he would find a chance to kill him. The next day, a desperate text message appeared. "Everyone, we must unite," caught their attention. Slade had already turned his focus to the girls living on the lower floors. A girl living alone could only beg for help in the group chat. "If anything happens to me, the rest of you will be next." But it was already too late. Her front door was forced open. She was dragged away in total despair. The horror was spreading. You don't feel the blade until it cuts you. Crystal panicked when she heard the news. She knew that now that he had started, Slade would eventually come for her too. Without a plan, she would end up exactly like that girl. Crystal decided to incite the others to help her seize Victor's house. Meanwhile, Victor was added to a group chat called Mutual Aid. Crystal invited him to join them, saying they needed his secure home. to help the group resist Slade. Victor saw the messages and knew exactly what was happening. Crystal had clearly leaked information about his secure house and massive supplies to everyone in the building. Her scheme was painfully obvious to him. Victor sent a message to the group. I am living very comfortably alone. If you are looking for a place to stay, you should look somewhere else. The neighbors immediately tried to guilt trip him. You could save us all by letting us in. How can you watch Slade kill your neighbors? Victor replied, survival depends on your own ability. You have no value to me. He then immediately left the group chat. His blunt response shocked everyone. Crystal continued to complain, wondering why he refused to help his neighbors. The people with her grew restless. They asked Crystal what to do now that the plan had failed. They wondered what to do next. A man with glasses suggested a plan. He said if they took precautions, they could force the door open and take the place. Then, a blonde guy claimed. He used to work for a locksmith. He boasted that he could pick any lock. Soon, they all gathered in front of Victor's door to pick the lock. Crystal believed that Victor had no other way to defend himself besides splashing water. She thought if they were prepared, the blonde guy could pick the lock safely. Once they got inside, Victor would be outnumbered. If everyone rushed him at once, they could easily take him down. But these petty tricks were nothing to Victor. He was confident. Because his door had 5 layers of defense, it was as secure as a bank vault. If it were that easy to break into, his money would have been wasted. High-voltage defense system activated. The blonde guy let out a scream. He was being fried by the high-voltage door, and the shock was incredibly intense. When the shock finally ended, the blonde guy was cooked medium well. His hand was still stuck to the door handle. The people outside were shocked by the scene. They began shouting at Victor in a rage. Victor calmly loaded his crossbow. He replied to them while reloading. Stop acting so righteous. If you had broken in, I would be the one who ended up dead. This is my home. Yet you acted like you owned the place and tried to divide my belongings. You are all looking for death. He pulled the trigger. An arrow shot out through the door slot. It hit the man with glasses right in the shoulder. Seeing that Victor was really trying to kill them, they decided to retreat for now. They wanted to live to fight another day. But since they had come all this way, Victor wouldn't let them leave without a gift. With 2 whistles, 2 more arrows were fired. The remaining 2 men were both hit. The woman nearby turned and bolted for home. She was terrified of becoming the target of the next arrow. Back at their place, the wounded men collapsed. They lay on the floor groaning in pain. But what was even more terrifying was when the woman noticed the arrows were rusty. These were tetanus arrows. They realized Victor had used them intentionally. He used those rusty arrows on purpose, in temperatures of minus 200 degrees, and with no antibiotics available. An arrow wound is a death sentence. Everyone was paralyzed with fear. Suddenly, Beatrice stepped forward and slapped Crystal across the face. She blamed Crystal for everything. Crystal's original intel only mentioned a reinforced door. She never mentioned hidden arrows. Crystal stammered in fear, claiming she didn't know about them. They weren't attacked by arrows last time. Chad stood up to testify that she was innocent. Beatrice realized her own negligence and called Sarah for help. Sarah arrived to examine the injuries. She looked at the deep wounds. The situation was critical. She wondered why there were arrow wounds again. She explained the injuries were too severe. Without professional equipment, she couldn't guarantee their survival. If they handled it poorly or pulled the arrows out, infection would set in. Without antibiotics, they would all likely die. Beatrice began to curse Victor for his cruelty. She claimed they only wanted his house. They didn't expect him to try and kill them. Sarah thought to herself, you all deserve this. Then she said, without medicine, I am helpless. I hope you understand. Then, Crystal spoke up. She said Victor must have medicine. She remembered a month ago. Victor started hoarding supplies like crazy. Every day she saw trucks delivering goods, including medicine. Sarah said that antibiotics are common drugs. If he knew the disaster was coming and stockpiled goods, he must have plenty of antibiotics and anti-inflammatories to save the wounded. Someone must get medicine from Victor, but they had just suffered a defeat. They were in a terrible state. Who would be best to go? Grace remembered Victor once pursued Crystal. Since it was Crystal's idea to target Victor in the first place, she was the most suitable person to go. Chad also agreed with this. Facing the pressure from everyone, Crystal had no choice but to try. Beatrice asked Sarah to remove the arrows first. They left the antibiotic issue for Crystal to handle. Crystal then called Victor. She sobbed and said that the people he shot were about to die. Victor replied, so what if they die? Death is a release. Everyone dies eventually. Do you really think you can survive this blizzard? The snow has blocked the city. This building is now a lonely island. What is the point of struggling to live? Once the supplies run out, even if Slade doesn't kill you, you will freeze or starve to death. Crystal cried and begged for Victor's forgiveness. She said it was her fault for betraying him and wasting his sincere feelings. Now they were all wounded. With no medicine to treat the injuries, they would soon die from infections. She promised that if he gave them medicine, she would never bother him again. Beatrice grabbed the phone from her. Victor, we are all neighbors. I suggest you leave us some leeway, so we can still face each other later. One day, you will also have a time when you need our help. Don't be so heartless. Heartless? Guess why I did it. Guess why I used rusty arrows to shoot you. I wanted to see you all get infected, to suffer in despair and pain. and die a miserable death from disease. That man who tried to break into my house, his body is still right outside my door. If I help you now, won't you just try to kill me later? Then Victor had a suggestion. He said because of their history, Crystal could come to his house alone. Victor, honey, I love you most. I'm all yours now. I'll do whatever you want. I'll listen to everything you say. Love you, moi. Victor told her to come over quickly. Her friend begged to go with her. She said more people would be more fun. But Victor said he only wanted Crystal. He told her to stay away from shady people. Don't let those people hold you back. Crystal nodded her head repeatedly. Victor, I'll do whatever you say. She immediately turned to run to Victor's house. She even pushed away her friend, who was trying to stop her. Then Grace stepped up and slapped her. You shameless brat. You made us suffer so much. Now you think you can just walk away? Not a chance. Chad also questioned her. She previously said she was his woman. Why was she running away now? Is there something wrong with me pursuing my own happiness? Staying with you guys was only temporary. Once the supplies run out, we will all just die anyway. Then she started manipulating Chad. You are a good man. The best way to love someone is to want them to be happy, right? You did help me in the past. But Victor offers so much more. Then she turned and prepared to leave. At that moment, her friend got angry. She lunged forward and pinned Crystal to the ground. Everyone in the room began to condemn Crystal's selfish behavior. Sarah emphasized again that without medical treatment, they would likely get infected. She told them to be prepared for the worst. Desperate to survive, the man with glasses proposed a plan. He deduced that since Victor has a fireplace, he must have a large amount of fuel. Also, in the photos and videos Victor posted, it also proves he has plenty of food. They clearly cannot take down Victor on their own. Instead, they decided to leak the news. They wanted everyone in the building to know. There are hundreds of people in the building, combined with Slade's gang of mad dogs. They can tear down his house together. Then they can all share the spoils. It was a desperate, all-or-nothing plan. Crystal was unhappy when she heard the plan. She claimed she was about to be with Victor. If they destroyed him, what would happen to her? The cousin couldn't take it anymore. She stepped forward to slap her. But Chad the simp shielded her. He said his love for her was real. He claimed she was only being tempted by Victor. If given some time, she would definitely change her mind. He told Crystal not to be afraid because he was there. This simp is truly beyond saving. Then, the cousin followed the plan and posted Victor's situation in the group chat. While everyone else was struggling to survive, Victor was at home, living a life of luxury. It was absolutely shameful. She asked everyone to suggest ideas on how to handle him. Victor immediately became the target of everyone's anger. The foreman, who hadn't eaten in 7 days, drooled at the sight of the food. This kid has so many good things in his house. This is the perfect time to settle all our old and new scores. Grace, save us. My baby and I are starving. You said my baby was cute before. I'll let him call you Godfather. I'll even do anything. Others in the group chat also protested against Victor. Chad, I'll give you everything. Just let me stay at your house, and I'll give you all my assets. Victor saw this and coldly replied, oh, why should I? Are we even close? It wasn't just out of coldness. Only he knew the truth. In his past life, these neighbors treated him like meat on a chopping block, cutting him apart and eating him piece by piece. Why would anyone try to reason with a bunch of irrational animals? When the crowd saw Victor's attitude, they were completely baffled. Is this guy really not afraid to die? We could drown him with our spit alone. Bah, this kid is a scumbag. He's still enjoying a life of luxury while we suffer. What a stubborn brat. Once I survive this blizzard, I will definitely deal with you. Everyone acted like a victim, standing on the moral high ground. They all began condemning Victor. Barney, some use their children as an excuse. Barney, some even offer their bodies for food. Barney, Victor, we are like real brothers. You have to help me. These words didn't affect Victor at all, living a comfortable but boring life. Victor felt like going out for a bit. He remembered his warehouse. He had several snowmobiles stored in his dimension void, although he couldn't leave yet. With these vehicles, once things settled down, he could go out for some fresh air. Suddenly, a message caught his attention. It was a text from Sarah. Sarah, Mr. Victor, my food and medicine are completely gone. As expected of a doctor, she was rational. She didn't beg for charity, but offered to trade instead. Victor remembered in his past life. Sarah died because she gave her last meal to a mother and daughter. She was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. A truly kind and beautiful woman. He began to consider letting Sarah move in to take care of him. As the saying goes, a beautiful woman is trouble. The smarter the woman, the more likely she is to betray. In this apocalypse, survival is more important than anything. Victor could indeed consider Sarah, but without being 100% certain, he would not let her through his door. He then replied to her message. An exchange is fine, but you must offer something that is useful to me right now. Sarah pleaded piteously, suggesting it as a prepaid medical fee. She hadn't eaten for 3 days and was about to reach her limit. She felt deeply ashamed after replying, because she had never begged a stranger like this before. I can give you food and medicine, but you must do me a favor. Victor said the neighbors would soon lose patience and attack him. He needed her to monitor the neighbors' action plans and report to him at any time. Dr. Sarah, betray them and join me, or stay on the sidelines and watch. The choice is yours. It all depends on your decision. Not long ago, everyone was condemning Victor in the group chat. Facing these greedy people, Victor showed no mercy. Even if I burn everything I own, you won't get a single piece of it. The man in glasses cursed in rage. He teamed up with the foreman. I want half the supplies. Let's take his house. Invading Victor's house became everyone's primary goal. Sarah immediately warned Victor. He wasn't worried at all. A house full of weapons was his greatest security. He told Sarah not to participate in the raid. She only needed to stay home and watch the show. Everyone gathered and shouted slogans while rushing to Victor's door. We won't stop until Victor is finished. The lead man held a sledgehammer to break the door, but notably missing were the man in glasses and the foreman. They wanted the others to be cannon fodder, so they could take the spoils later. The man slammed the door with his hammer. Victor turned on the high-voltage defense system. The man with the hammer was instantly electrocuted. The current also hit those touching him. Every one of them was electrocuted. They were killed instantly. The survivors were stunned. As they were fleeing home in a panic, they ran into the foreman. So, where do you think you're going? The man in glasses used this incident to further fuel the crowd's hatred for Victor. The crowd became extremely riled up. They all vowed not to give up until Victor was dead. Soon, the second wave of attacks began. This time, several men used a tree trunk to ram the door. They rammed the door with all their might. Inside, Victor was getting annoyed. How long are these pests going to keep this up? How long will they keep making this noise? Keep going. I'll play some music to cheer you up. After 2.5 hours of ramming, the men were completely exhausted, but the door only had minor scratches. Then, a man in a suit used a magnifying glass to inspect the door. He realized the door was the same model as those used in bank vaults. The crowd asked if there was any way to break it. The man in the suit shook his head. Forget about using a log. This is a top-tier security door. Even a bomb wouldn't be able to blow it open. Victor walked toward the door with his crossbow. He opened the shooting port in the door. He aimed the crossbow at the crowd outside. With a whistle, an arrow pierced the suit man's throat. The man clutched his neck in agony. Seeing this, the crowd began to flee in panic. Anyone who was too slow would be next. They would be turned into human pincushions. Moments later, several unlucky people were killed by the hidden arrows. Inside the house, Victor showed no sign of stopping as he ruthlessly reloaded his crossbow. The man in glasses spoke up again. Don't panic, everyone. I have a plan. Even if the door is made of alloy, the walls surely aren't. The crowd saw a glimmer of hope after hearing this. They believed that with their numbers, it wouldn't take long to smash through the wall. Everyone picked up sledgehammers. They struck Victor's outer wall with all their might. The man in glasses cheered them on from the back. After striking the wall dozens of times, it felt as if they were hitting a steel plate. The man in glasses looked closer and saw it was indeed steel. No one wanted to believe the truth. They continued to smash at different spots on the wall. Victor had already anticipated their every move. The outer walls of the house were made of. It was reinforced with 20 centimeters of refined steel. Even artillery shells couldn't break it, not to mention their hammers and pickaxes. Victor then turned on the house's noise reduction mode. He let them keep smashing away outside, but every single spot they broke open was steel plate without exception. Everyone finally realized that Victor did this specifically to keep them out. Everyone present at the scene was fuming and cursed his entire family. Some even gave up in complete despair. The foreman then suggested that the ceiling and the floor couldn't possibly be made of alloy. He ordered the group to split up and smash them. Victor admitted the foreman was quite clever, but they were going to be disappointed again. Sure enough, the floor upstairs was steel plate. The ceiling downstairs was also steel. Victor's home was an airtight iron box. After all that frantic smashing, everyone was exhausted and starving. Some even started thinking about cannibalism, but their remaining humanity made them dismiss that thought. They each made excuses to hide their shame. At this point, the man in glasses was completely powerless against Victor. He kept complaining about Victor's actions. He could only curse Victor for being so heartless. Then, someone suggested another idea. They could try to enter through the balcony. During renovation, the balcony was converted into floor-to-ceiling windows. Since it was mostly glass, there might be a chance to break in. Hearing this idea, hope was reignited in everyone. They believed the balcony was the weak point. They used wooden planks from the neighboring unit to reach Victor's balcony. This time, they actually succeeded. This was the closest they had ever been to Victor. Most of them were armed, crowding onto his balcony. But Victor was calm, still sipping his coffee. If zombies really existed, they would probably look just like these people. The crowd outside tried to smash the glass to get in. Seeing this, Victor slowly stood up. He walked into the kitchen. Surprisingly, he took out a Molotov cocktail. After lighting it, he threw it into a small hole in the kitchen. I'll help you freezing ghosts warm up. Don't forget to thank me. Unexpectedly, on the balcony ceiling, there was a hole connected to the kitchen. The Molotov cocktail fell through the hole above the balcony. Instantly, someone was set on fire. Raging flames erupted instantly. The crowd finally realized that Victor had thrown a Molotov cocktail. Unable to endure the intense heat, the person on fire jumped from the 27th floor. Falling to death was better than being burned alive. But inside the house, Victor had no intention of stopping. A second unlucky person was set on fire, screaming for help. I'm not going to save you. The burning man begged those next to him, crying out for someone to help. But he was only met with rejection. You're already beyond saving. Don't drag us down. They even blocked his path back. Eventually, some fell from the heights, while others collapsed on the bridge. They became fuel for others to keep warm. People reached out their hands with smiles, gathering around the burning bodies. So warm. Next was the pity group, led by the contractor. They also used temporary wooden planks, stepping over the bodies of the previous failures, to reach Victor's balcony. However, they did not use violence. Instead, they approached Victor and fell to their knees. They wailed and begged Victor to give them some food. Seeing this, the others followed suit and also knelt down. They cried about their struggles, hoping to move Victor. Victor was so moved that he cooked a bowl of instant noodles for himself. Everyone, please don't do this. It's so hard to watch. When I feel bad inside, I really want to eat. He picked up the steaming noodles and slurped them down. Watching him eat, the crowd started drooling from the corners of their mouths. Then, Victor proposed a deal. He set a condition. Victor set a condition to get food. Whoever brings him the foreman's head can eat their fill of noodles for an entire week. After hearing this, everyone simultaneously turned their gaze toward Marcus. People on the other side were confused, wondering if Victor had brainwashed them. Marcus felt a murderous aura coming from behind him. The people standing around him approached him with ill intent. He was backed into a corner. He checked his phone and saw Victor's message in the group chat. Whoever kills Marcus will receive a week's worth of food from Victor. Realizing the situation was bad, Marcus immediately retreated to his home. He obtained temporary safety. Unexpectedly, by the next day, people were already ambushing him near his house. They felt Marcus deserved to die for his many crimes. Also, a week's worth of food was too tempting. Trading a villain's life for food was worth it. Later, when it was time to go out and collect snow, Marcus held a gun and gave orders. He told them to move faster. Two men rushed at Marcus with kitchen knives. By the time his men reacted, it was already too late. The two men were already behind Marcus with their weapons. They launched a sneak attack. They charged at Marcus. It is well known that a gun is fast beyond 7 steps. Within 7 steps, a gun is even faster and more accurate. After 2 gunshots, both men fell to the ground. What was even more shocking was that Marcus ordered his men to chop them up for food. Then, another henchman reported that he had been stabbed in the back. In the apocalypse, any injury can lead to a quick death. So, Marcus called Dr. Sarah to come and treat him. After the treatment, Sarah asked for her medical fee. Marcus offered to give her 2 pieces of fresh human meat. Sarah replied she would rather die than touch that. Meanwhile, Marcus's men were eating it with great appetite. Her defiance was about to bring her trouble. Marcus touched her face and teased Sarah. Don't worry, if I ever have to sacrifice you, I will save you for last. Having a doctor around is too important at a time like this. Sarah expressionlessly brushed off his hand and tried to leave. However, Marcus's men stopped her. Marcus pulled out a pistol to threaten her. He told her she couldn't leave until everyone's wounds were healed. Sarah was forced to sit in the corner. Meanwhile, the group began discussing their plan to break into Victor's house. Someone suggested that Victor must come out eventually. They planned to take turns watching from the neighbor's house. They believed this would give them a chance to capture him. Sarah overheard every detail of their plan. She stood up, intending to report to Victor. Her movement caught Marcus's attention. Where are you going, doctor? He asked. To the bathroom, she replied. Marcus let her go and told her to return quickly. Sarah reported the entire plan to Victor. Victor told her to stay there and keep observing. Next, Marcus went to the neighbor's house and demanded to move in, facing his forced entry. The owners were angry but too afraid to speak. They knew if they showed any dissatisfaction, they would be killed by his men. To them, losing the house was fine, as long as they could stay alive a bit longer. But as the owners turned to leave the room, Marcus's lackey struck them both in the head with a blunt weapon. The two died at their hands just like that. Without a doubt, these 2 bodies would soon become their next meal. In this apocalypse, they were a vital source of protein. They wouldn't let such easy prey escape. At a time like this, they had to stock up on food to avoid starving to death later. Am I right, Dr. Sarah? Anyone who has been hit by an arrow knows that if the wound isn't treated quickly, it will lead to a severe infection, and you will eventually die in agony. This was the situation for the man's family. The fear of death hung over everyone in the room. But in this frozen world, they couldn't even find food, let alone medicine like antibiotics. Having no other choice, Chad decided to go to Victor and demand an explanation. He arrived at Victor's door, crying and cursing him loudly. This was exactly what Victor expected, as he planned to use Chad for something big. Victor asked through the door, "How does the infection feel?" "Your blood is a breeding ground for bacteria. They will multiply and eat your flesh from the inside." After hearing this, Chad completely lost his mind. Chad vowed to take Victor down with him even if he died. Victor pointed out that his infection was terminal and untreatable. "Since you're dying anyway," Victor said, "you should do the things you never dared to do before." Chad heard this and began making his own plans. Victor returned to his room to check the surveillance cameras. He saw Slade using brute force. Slade was forcing the other residents to work for him. He made them risk their lives as his pawns. Slade knew he was running out of bullets. His food had also run out while waiting for Victor. Now, he had to watch out for outsiders. He also had to worry about a rebellion from his own men. Facing these threats, he was forced to use extreme measures. He did this to stop everyone from turning against him at once. Just then, Sarah called Victor. She reported that Slade and his thugs were gathering everyone in the building who could still fight. They were breaking into the homes of the weak to rob them. They were searching every house for survivors. Once they found someone, they would storm the room. They killed the residents and turned them into food to eat. Sarah mentioned she hadn't eaten for 3 days. She felt like she was starving to death. She begged Victor to save her. Victor knew Sarah's value. As a top surgeon from a major hospital, her skills were invaluable during the apocalypse. He couldn't let her die of hunger. After observing her for days, he saw she was loyal. It was time to eliminate the bully foreman. Victor then gave Sarah a mission. Do something for me. If you succeed, I guarantee you will live. Although it was dangerous, Sarah knew if she didn't do it, she would surely die at their hands. Sarah offered to help in the kitchen. The foreman was pleased to hear this. He thought she had finally submitted to him. I don't want to die. I want to live. She then received permission to enter the kitchen. At first, she only did manual labor like chopping wood. Then, a henchman asked her to watch the stove. Sarah knew this was the perfect time to act. She took out the drugs she had prepared and poured them all into the pot. The drugs mixed with the smell of the meat. It was truly nauseating. Finally, she served a bowl to everyone. The foreman was feeling smug. He was glad Sarah had joined them. He thought even a beauty would resort to cannibalism when starving. Sarah asked to return to her room to eat. Now all she could do was wait and pray. She hoped they wouldn't notice the soup was tampered with. She had added an entire bottle of sleeping pills. Just a few pills could make someone fall into a deep sleep within 30 minutes. Everything went smoothly. The drug took effect on time. Everyone in the room fell into a deep sleep. Then Sarah sent a message to Victor to ask for the next step. His reply was, drag them all out to the balcony. After receiving her orders, Sarah took the 8 strong men and dragged them all to the balcony. Seeing this, Victor was very satisfied. Good. Everyone is here. The show is about to begin. Sarah asked if he was going to kill them. Victor gave a wicked smile. He threw over 7 bundles of rope. I won't be the one doing it. Victor ordered Sarah to find their handguns and hand them over to him. Then, use the ropes to tie their hands to the railing. This meticulous plan really shocked Sarah. You are being way too cautious. Better safe than sorry. I won't take any risks. Not even a 1% chance. Sarah didn't think much more of it. First, she ties them to the railing one by one. Then, she finds the foreman's pistol. Victor monitors her through the cameras. Remove the magazine. Throw it over with the gun. Then he tells Sarah to go inside. Sarah asks if she can really trust him. What if you turn on me? Victor replies, besides trusting me, you have no other choice. Sarah quickly removes the magazine. Then she throws the pistol over. Victor catches the gun. He examines it carefully. He compares it with the image from the surveillance footage. After confirming this pistol is indeed the one the foreman had, he silently goes back inside. What is he planning to do? He pulls a water hose to the balcony. He turns on the water. The stream arcs across the gap, directly onto the foreman's balcony. He intends to freeze them all to death. The method is cruel, but it is safe and effective. The sudden cold wakes everyone up. They are all confused about their situation. Why am I here? Where is this cold water coming from? The foreman finally realizes that he has been drugged. He turns his head in anger and says, Victor's name. Victor is on the other side, having fun with a water hose. You've caused enough trouble. It's time for you to go. Victor turns the valve to the maximum. A burst of water sprays directly at them. Slade is completely soaked. The water on his body instantly freezes in a low temperature. The water turns to ice in a matter of seconds. Moments later, everyone is frozen into ice sculptures. The bully gang is officially finished. It is a satisfying sight. Finally, Victor calls Sarah. Congratulations, you passed the test. You can come over now. Relieved, Sarah falls to her knees. That's great. I'll be right there. A moment later, Victor aims his weapon at the door. Sarah has arrived at the entrance. The security system scans her. It confirms she is not carrying any weapons. Victor signals for her to enter. The door unlocks with a loud click. Sarah slowly pushes open the 400-pound alloy door. Victor quickly pulls Sarah inside and locks the door. The indoor warmth makes Sarah immediately take off her heavy thermal gear. Compared to negative 200 degrees outside, the 26-degree temperature is a comfort she hasn't felt in a long time. Suddenly, Victor points a gun at her back. He needs Sarah to prove she is harmless to him first. Sarah blushes and asks how to prove it. Victor says it's simple. She must show she isn't hiding any weapons that could harm him. Since they are in the same boat now, they should be completely honest with each other. Sarah nods understandingly. She removes her outer clothes until only her underwear remains, to prove she has no hidden weapons. Victor sees this and is satisfied with her attitude. He hands her a towel and tells her to shower. He then leads her into the bathroom. He tells her to wear the clothes he chose for her. While Sarah is showering, Victor searches her clothes and finds a medical syringe. He can't be too careful. Victor decides to confiscate the syringe. Time passes quickly. After her shower, Sarah walks into the living room. She says the clothes fit her perfectly. The outfit Victor chose highlights her figure perfectly. Victor pats the sofa, signaling for her to sit, then picks up a hairdryer. He begins to dry her hair for her. Even during this simple act, Sarah can feel Victor's cold nature. While drying her hair, he begins to set the rules. Remember, I am only letting you stay because you are still useful to me. This is a privilege. He demands that Sarah obey all of his commands. If he senses even a hint of betrayal or bad intentions, Victor will show no mercy and kill her immediately. He then points to a door and says, "The guest room is yours. There are cameras everywhere. The bedroom door is as strong as the front door. You may only come and go at scheduled times. If you have any objections, you can leave right now." Hearing this, Sarah becomes like an obedient kitten. She promises to follow all his rules. Victor continues to play with her hair as he listens. Victor is pleased with her choice. He knows that given the current situation outside, Sarah has no choice but to rely on him. There is no better way for her to survive. Since trust is mutual, Victor speaks up. He tells her to stay sharp and listen carefully to what follows. He is about to tell her a secret. He explains that the root cause of the blizzard was the supernova impact, which caused a gamma ray burst. These rays not only changed the weather, but also granted superpowers to a small number of people. Then, Victor pulls some bread out of his dimension void. This completely shatters Sarah's understanding of reality. It means the supplies currently in the house are just the tip of the iceberg. Most of the resources are kept in his dimension void. If he dies, those supplies will disappear with him. Only if he stays alive will Sarah have the chance to enjoy them. Victor then throws the bread onto her lap. Now Sarah truly understands how important Victor is. "Eat, this is yours." Having starved for 3 days, Sarah grabs the bread and devours it. Victor tells her she must handle all the housework. He wants her to trade her labor for food. A maid must work to earn her keep. "What else can you offer me besides that?" Sarah understands his meaning. As for what happens next, minors should skip this part. She slowly slides the straps down her shoulders. They begin to kiss passionately. They spend an intimate night together. The next morning, Victor is already making breakfast. Sarah is still asleep after the exhausting night. Victor asks if she wants to come out and eat. The knocking on the door wakes her up. She picks up her clothes from the floor. Then she starts devouring the breakfast. The scene looks like Victor is raising a well-behaved kitten. After breakfast, Victor says he is taking her to do something important. He tells her to put on her winter gear and leads her to the balcony. What he wants to do is smash the ice block on the balcony. Victor thinks scumbags remain scumbags even after death. Keeping them there is an eyesore. Smashing their frozen bodies will also serve as a warning to others. It will make the survivors realize exactly who they are dealing with and who they should never provoke. For his own safety, Victor let her complete the task alone. Sarah walked across the wooden planks they had built. Once across, she immediately smashed the frozen bodies into pieces. Standing nearby, Victor took out his phone to record everything. He wanted to show this video to any troublemakers in the building. Victor wanted them to know exactly who the boss is. Once the upload was finished, he sent the video to the group chat. The residents who suffered under the foreman saw the footage and began to cheer. Victor sent a voice message stating that the bullies were now dead. From now on, he is in charge of this building. Just then, Crystal called him. She asked Victor if he was staying with Sarah. She demanded to move into his house and jealously told him that he wasn't allowed to be with other women. She clearly didn't know her place. "You're actually not dead yet?" Victor asked. Crystal smiled happily after hearing this. She thought Victor was worried about her. She thought that was why he let Sarah stay with him. She told him to kick Sarah out immediately. Then the two of them could sleep together. Her friend in the room heard everything she said. Her friend heard every word. Then, from the other end of the line, only the sound of a violent fight could be heard. Seeing this, Sarah hugged Victor tightly. She said she would never be like those women. She told Victor not to worry. She would stay loyal and take good care of him. Hearing this sudden confession, Victor felt a bit shy. But then, a wicked idea came to his mind. If Crystal saw how he and Sarah were together now, she would probably lose her mind. Then, Crystal received a text. "You are a good person, but unfortunately, you are too late. I have found someone better now." Crystal picked up her phone. She saw the message Victor sent, along with a photo of him and Sarah together. The caption said, "You will wish us well, right?" Crystal became hysterical. She screamed that she was the one who loved him most. She begged Victor for a chance to prove it. But Victor's reply was colder than the minus 200 degrees outside. "No need. Sarah and I are truly in love. She is much better than you. How could I ever give her up for you? Do you think you're even worthy? We shouldn't contact each other anymore. I don't want Sarah to misunderstand." Crystal still couldn't understand it. Victor used to be so kind to her. He was devoted to her for 2 years. Why did his attitude suddenly do a 180-degree turn? It was because she didn't know the truth. In the previous life, when the apocalypse began, she led a mob to break into Victor's home. They chopped him up alive and ate him. Now, she was simply reaping what she sowed. Victor decided to ignore the woman completely. He knew she wouldn't survive this apocalypse for long anyway. He took Sarah's hand and asked her if she thought he was being cruel. Sarah's response showed her high emotional intelligence. "I believe you have your own reasons for doing this. A smart woman is truly precious." Soon, it was time for lunch. Sarah took the initiative to cook and serve the meal. But Victor made a demand. He told her to taste every single dish before he would eat any of it. She wondered if he suspected her of poisoning the food. At that moment, Beatrice sent a message to the building's group chat. She was acting tough and demanding food. "Did you hear me? Bring me food right now. Bring food now, or once this is over, I'll have you all dragged out and shot." Victor was also surprised that Beatrice was still alive, since Slade, the foreman, raided her home for supplies first. Sarah mentioned that when she treated Beatrice's grandson, she felt sorry for them and gave them some food. Victor was skeptical of her kindness. Noticing his doubt, Sarah explained, "It was at the very start of the blizzard. She thought the disaster would end quickly, so she helped. Now that she knows the reality, she won't be so reckless again." Victor poured a glass of draft cola. He said that wasn't the main point. Those supplies should have run out long ago. What has she been eating to survive until now? Sarah's reply was terrifying. She said the grandson likely died 10 days ago due to a lack of medicine. Victor suddenly realized the truth. Beatrice must have turned him into a meal. Suddenly, a figure in the building across caught their attention. Someone was jumping off a balcony with a smile. They even performed flips in the air. They were laughing as they fell. Seeing this, Sarah sighed at the horror of the blizzard. When will this finally end? Victor said natural disasters are not something they can stop. All they can do now is try to survive. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was a call from Arthur. "Hi, Arthur. How can I help you?" From the other end of the line, Arthur greeted him and asked for a favor. "Victor, huh? Are you doing okay lately?" He called Victor to seek help. Victor readily agreed. He said if it was within his power, he would help because he knew Arthur was one of the few good people. He was honest and a martial artist. Winning him over now would be useful for the future. The reason for the call was Grace's daughter, Bonnie, had a fever. They had no medicine and the child was crying. He wanted to know if Victor had any medicine. Victor suddenly understood. Arthur was a 45-year-old virgin. Grace was young and attractive. She likely approached him first. Arthur probably couldn't resist her. Victor replied to him. Victor said he could come pick up some medicine later. Arthur thanked him repeatedly. He said if Victor ever needed his help, he would definitely be there. He would never refuse. Victor told him not to be so formal. He told him to come quickly. After hanging up, Victor felt that Grace was quite a sharp woman. In the entire building, only Arthur had stocked up on supplies after Victor's warning. Out of everyone, she was the only one who found the best person to rely on. Later, Sarah wondered if Victor and Arthur were really that close. Victor noted that everyone is driven by profit. This is especially true during the apocalypse. Arthur is a kind man, and he is also a very strong fighter. Making Arthur owe him a favor might be useful in the future. Plus, few people still have their humanity now. A moment later, Arthur knocked on Victor's door. But something unexpected happened. Grace had followed him while holding the child. Victor said nothing and threw the medicine through the door slot. He told them to give it to the child quickly. Getting sick at this time is a serious matter. Arthur was extremely grateful to get the medicine. He thanked Victor over and over. But Grace, who was standing beside him, stepped forward and said emotionally, "Victor, I beg you, can you let Bonnie stay at your place for a while? Your house has a heater. It's warm, but our home is too cold. Bonnie is sick right now. I'm worried she will freeze. Please, show some mercy. Help us." Victor was speechless at Grace's shameless attitude. He knew if the child moved in, the mother would follow to enjoy the comfort. Victor made an excuse and said his coal was almost gone. The temperature inside wasn't much better than outside. He rejected her request. Arthur told her that Victor had already done enough. He tried to pull Grace back home, but she said Arthur didn't understand anything. She put on a pitiful look and continued to beg Victor to let Bonnie in. She told him to do it. For Arthur's sake, Arthur shouted at Grace. He said Victor had already been very kind to them. He asked her if she knew how hard it was to get medicine now. Unexpectedly, Grace argued back. "Doesn't Sarah live in his house too?" "Sarah is my girlfriend," Victor replied. "Is there a problem?" Sarah felt warm inside. She was very happy. Then Arthur gestured for them to leave. "Victor has been kind enough to us. Don't be too greedy." Grace was still complaining. "This is all for the baby." Arthur apologized to Victor. Then he took Grace and went home. Victor knew she was a big trouble. He then lay down on Sarah's lap. He said he and Arthur were close, but he had to watch out for Grace. He couldn't let her ruin his plans. Back home, Arthur scolded her. He blamed her for being so greedy. She said it was all for the baby. "If anything happens to the baby, I won't want to live." Arthur sighed. He said one must have a conscience. You must repay kindness. Without Victor's warning, he would never have stockpiled supplies. They wouldn't have survived until now. This was a massive favor to him. He had to find a way to repay Victor. But Grace was a wicked woman. She was full of bad intentions. She tried to ruin their relationship. She said Victor still doesn't trust him, so there was no need to be so grateful. "You're just being sentimental. It was only a box of medicine. He didn't lose anything. He just threw it out through a slot in the door. Maybe he did it on purpose, to give you small favors, hoping that one day you would become his muscle. If he were a good man, would he be so ruthless? Would he kill dozens of his neighbors? Besides, his house is so big. There is plenty of room for us. What's the big deal?" Arthur interrupted her. He told her to never say those things again. If he doubted his own benefactor, he wouldn't even be human. The child was startled by his loud voice and burst into tears. Seeing this, Grace apologized quickly. She explained she was only thinking of Arthur. "It's better to be careful these days." Arthur's expression was grim. He said he would sleep in the living room. and let the mother and daughter have the bed. But Grace still hadn't given up. On her plan to move into Victor's house. To make sure they survived, she would pay any price. Heavy snow has fallen for over a month. It has reached the 3rd floor. Strangely, people are still outside shoveling. Soon, in Victor's building, a tunnel was dug through the entrance. A group emerged from the tunnel. They were armed with tools and had gone through great trouble for one clear purpose. Victor's home on the 24th floor. They were ruthless and silent. If they met any residents on their way up, they would swarm them, strike them down with shovels, and take the bodies back to use as food reserves. They arrived at Victor's door. The leader signaled his man to open it. Without a word, the man began setting up explosives. Once the explosives were set, they retreated to safety. The blast was powerful enough to kill a large elephant. Suddenly, the explosives detonated. The massive blast woke Victor from his sleep. He immediately grabbed his pistol. After checking the living room and bedroom, everything was safe. He checked the security cameras. Victor looked at the monitors. He saw many unfamiliar faces outside. He realized they were intruders from other buildings. Their weapons included steel bars, boards, and axes. They even had construction plywood. He realized who they were. They must be from Building 26. They were the construction workers living there. It was clear that this time, they were all coming for him. This meant information about his house had leaked out. After the blast, the workers checked the door. The explosion was powerful, but it couldn't blow the door open. Since they couldn't blow it open, they decided to smash it down. In Victor's eyes, they were incredibly foolish. Then, from the dimension void, he took out a bottle of white phosphorus. He lit the phosphorus and a firebomb, and threw them both outside. The crowd outside saw the firebomb. The leader told everyone to scatter. But against a white phosphorus bomb, it was useless, because as it burns, the heat exceeds 1,000 degrees Celsius. The fire from the white phosphorus bomb swallowed the crowd instantly. All that remained were the screams of people on fire. To spare them from the agony of the burns, Victor shot at them from inside. The crowd panicked at the gunshots. They couldn't tell where the bullets came from. When the last person fell, all the burning men were dead. Victor was glad he didn't use a machine gun. He would have wasted hundreds of bullets. Now he needed to find even more powerful weapons. The frost had already wiped out most of the weak people. Future enemies would only be tougher and more ruthless. Against these prepared groups, he had to kill them all to feel safe. Victor went back inside. He found Sarah wrapped in her blanket and shivering. She cried when she saw Victor. Then she quickly regained her composure. She claimed she wasn't scared. She thought it was an earthquake and was just hiding in the corner. She asked him what had happened. Victor explained the recent events. To Sarah, she felt those workers were more dangerous than Slade. To Victor, Slade was just a bully with a handgun. But the workers were physically strong and very united. He was glad he killed their demolition expert. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sleep in peace. He decided to take revenge on the remaining workers. However, he didn't need to do it himself. To ensure a peaceful life, he needed others to act as cannon fodder. The explosion also alerted the other residents in the building. Victor posted in the group chat that workers from Building 26 had broken in. They wanted to kill people and steal supplies. He told them Marcus on the 10th floor was dead. The workers had used explosives and dug a tunnel through the snow to enter the 1st floor of the building. But Victor discovered and drove them away. The neighbors all praised him, calling Victor their hero. Victor mentioned that fighting them had used up many of his weapons. From now on, you are all on your own. Just then, Arthur called Victor. He asked Victor if he needed any help. He said he knew those people quite well. He knew that under Darius's orders, they had killed many people recently. Victor said that for safety reasons, he had no plans for revenge yet. But since Arthur was familiar with them, Victor wanted to know more details. He wanted to plan how to deal with them together. Arthur suggested sharing this idea in the building's group chat. But Victor stopped him and said that if they did that, the neighbors would suspect their motives. They might even try to take advantage. Victor noted they both had enough supplies. Since Victor killed many of their members, the Sky Unity gang would surely return. At that time, the neighbors would naturally beg them for help. For now, they just needed to wait. Then he asked Sarah to do something very important. The neighbors were praising Victor publicly, but they secretly feared and hated him. There were things Victor couldn't do himself. He needed her and Arthur to gather intel. They had to collect information in secret. They needed to map out the combat power in the neighborhood. They needed to understand the situation as soon as possible. Sarah was full of confidence after hearing this. 2 days passed quickly. Sarah changed into her maid outfit. She began reporting the intel to Victor. The most troublesome group currently is the Sky Unity gang in Building 26 next door. They are centered around a construction team from Sky Unity Group. Every one of them is a fierce fighter. Their main weapons are shovels and steel bars. They do not have any firearms. The other major threat is the group in Building 21. Their leaders are Kane and Silas, who were unemployed before the disaster. Their followers are mostly strong young men around 20 years old. They call themselves the Mad Wolf Gang. Not many residents are left in the other buildings. Most committed suicide out of despair. Others killed each other once they ran out of supplies. This led to a massive reduction in their numbers. They are no threat. Victor was satisfied with her report. He told her to continue gathering more information, especially to confirm if they have any guns or ammo. This point is very critical. Less danger means a higher chance of victory for them. Meanwhile, the Sky Unity gang was not idle. They headed toward Victor's building again. They cruelly murdered the defenseless people in the building. They left warnings in blood on the walls for Victor. If he didn't come out, they would kill all his neighbors. The Sky Unity gang knew exactly what they were doing. Once the neighbors couldn't take the pressure anymore, they would naturally beg Victor to come out. Then, the women in his house. And all his food would belong to the gang. Things happened exactly as they expected. Soon, the residents of the building turned all their anger toward Victor. Seeing these messages, Victor felt that these people turned on him in an instant. He told the group that the gang's killings had nothing to do with him. Why was he being treated like the villain? Why should he go out if it was so dangerous? Victor reached his limit and could no longer bear it. He started blasting them in the group chat. I don't care what happens to you. Your lives mean nothing to me. Did you forget when you all attacked my home? Every single one of you was involved back then. None of you are innocent. Do you really think I'm afraid to kill you myself? Now, the entire building was consumed by fear. They thought they would be safe after Slade was gone. But the Sky Unity gang was even more ruthless. Their methods were far more brutal. Everyone realized that the blizzard wouldn't end soon, and that they were all going to die. They all knew they were going to die eventually. Victor felt that the timing was now perfect. He called Arthur. Arthur, it's your turn to play your part. Arthur had been ready for a long time. He promised Victor that he would handle it. Arthur then replied to the neighbors in the group chat. He told everyone not to panic. The Sky Unity gang only has about 20 people. The neighbors replied, Arthur, tell us what to do. We will support you. Arthur said that as long as they stayed united, they could fight back against the gang. His words gave everyone a boost of confidence. But then the main act began. Arthur claimed he was too hungry and weak to lead. He pointed out that Victor had plenty of food and weapons. He also mentioned Victor had the best fighting skills. He argued that Victor was the most suitable choice to lead them. Arthur mentioned he had a good relationship with Victor. He offered to talk to Victor and ask him to step in and help. After hearing this, the residents all agreed. They supported Arthur's suggestion. After Arthur finished speaking, Victor felt the heat was just right. Arthur only needed to back him up from now on. He wanted to make these people follow his orders. Only by using both carrots and sticks could he ensure the safety of their building. After coordinating the plan, Victor finally replied to Arthur in the group chat. Out of respect for Arthur, I am willing to talk to you. So you had better be sensible. State your terms clearly. Otherwise, you are on your own. Victor, wait, they cried. From now on, we will do whatever you say. Is that okay? Oh, you will do anything I say. Does everyone agree to this? As long as you don't send us to our deaths, we will agree to any condition. If I tell you to take up weapons and fight the Sky Unity gang to the death, would you go? Everyone fell silent. Seeing this, Victor continued. So you just want me to risk my life for you? Why should I care whether you live or die? When Darius brings his men here, you can just stick your necks out and let them kill you. Goodbye. Arthur quickly told him not to hang up. We will definitely listen to you. We are dead either way. Fighting back is our only chance to survive. I am with you. Arthur shouted. What are you all waiting for? Fighting together is our only way out. Do you want to wait for them to come and butcher you one by one? Fine. From now on, everyone follows my orders. If anyone slacks off, thinking of hiding to profit from others, then don't blame me for making an example of you. After those words, the people hiding in the corners finally started to show themselves. Everyone became active and united against the enemy. Victor stated that the situation was now critical. If anyone cowers in the back, it is a betrayal to all the residents, and they will be killed. He also showed his sincerity. Victor promised he would not let his followers starve. As long as they are obedient, he will go out to find supplies for them. He knew he had to keep his cannon fodder strong enough to fight. Plus, he needed to find more supplies and weapons to increase his firepower. As for transportation, he didn't have to worry at all. In his dimension void, he had snowmobiles and snow scooters. Transporting goods was a piece of cake. In this apocalypse where going outside means death, only he can move freely through the city. When the residents saw Victor volunteering to go out, they were all confused. But Victor's words made them completely loyal to him, no matter how harsh the environment is. For everyone's sake, I must go out and try. His words sparked everyone's desire to survive and sense of duty. They all responded to Victor in the group chat. Don't worry, I've worked in warehousing for years. I know where the warehouses are in Skyline City, and I'm familiar with all the major malls. Since I have become the building leader, I must take responsibility for everyone. My own supplies are also running low. Going out to find more resources is our only way to survive. With the perfect coordination between Victor and Arthur, everyone eventually followed Victor's lead. They all looked up to him now. He was very satisfied with the result. It was time to start the next phase of his plan. He then went to prepare for his departure. Sarah was still worried about him. Leaving the building for the first time, Victor told her the supplies at home were more than enough to keep her fed. He was just looking for a good opportunity to scout the situation outside. Sarah feared Victor might abandon her, so she asked to go along. Hearing this, Victor pinched her cheek and asked her, since we have this kind of relationship now, do you think I would still doubt you? I trust you 100%. Wait for me. Then, he snapped his fingers. All the important supplies were instantly stored in his dimension void. What a hypocritical man, making empty promises. Then, he looked around and went down to the 4th floor. He opened the window at the end of the hallway and leaped out onto the snow. After walking a short distance with difficulty, he first looked up to confirm if anyone was spying on him. Then, from the dimension void, he took out a snowmobile. But man proposes, God disposes. Everything he had just done was witnessed by someone, hiding in the dark. Just like that, he drove the snowmobile toward his destination. He knew that in the future, people would target him because of this snowmobile. Going out for the first time, Victor felt like a turtle that had lost its shell, feeling exceptionally refreshed. He floored the accelerator and arrived at his destination, the Skyline Police Bureau. He smashed the glass with a blunt tool and entered. The environment was now terrifyingly quiet. Then, he found a group of frozen police officers. They were likely here when the storm began. They must have been working the night shift. They didn't even have any warm clothes. Victor covered them one by one with white cloths. No matter the outcome, they all deserve respect. But something on the ground caught his eye. It looked like a bunch of keys. Victor felt a surge of excitement. Whatever they guarded until their final moments must be related to the armory. He pulled back the white cloth. It was indeed a set of keys. Which room did these keys belong to? He reached the armory door. As expected, the keys unlocked it. Inside were all kinds of weapons and gear. There were bullets, pistols, and rifles. There was even a 98K sniper rifle. When he used a pistol against Darius, he never missed a single shot. Now with a sniper rifle, he could kill from a great distance. He could take out enemies from miles away. He felt proud, thinking he was a natural sharpshooter. He took all the weapons and put them into the dimension void. With these, he could supply a powerful combat squad. After emptying the armory, it was time for the next step. He rode his snowmobile toward the outskirts of the city. Suburban malls were more likely to still have supplies. After speeding for over 2 hours, he stopped on a field of snow. He brushed away the thick snow, and beneath it was the glass roof of a mall. He broke the glass and rappelled down to the floor. He was here to find fodder for his cannon fodder. He saw RTX 4090 graphics cards he once couldn't afford. Now, they were just worthless junk. But he hadn't traveled this far for things like these. As he walked toward the basement supermarket, he took any useful items he found along the way. He soon reached the supermarket. As expected, there was plenty of food. But because of the disaster, most of the food was spoiled and rotten. No sane person would ever eat this. Victor claimed he didn't want it, but his actions said otherwise. He collected all the edible scraps and packed them away. To deal with those people, this was more than enough. After scavenging the supplies, he rode his motorcycle back to his building, but he didn't know danger was approaching. The workers next door had already targeted his snowmobile. Victor looked at the figures crowded upstairs. He knew that transportation was their only hope. Now that it was exposed, everyone would be targeting him. Luckily, he had secured weapons and equipment this time. Arthur was waiting upstairs. Seeing the supplies Victor brought back, he was shocked. Supplies were getting harder to find. I've searched every supermarket and mall nearby. This is all there is. Now, the real show begins. The residents had been waiting for a long time. Sarah took out a bag of supplies and poured it out. When they saw the food, they saw hope for survival. Everyone cheered for Victor. Victor spoke up. If you eat this food, you must take up arms and fight. Speak of the devil. The neighbors found out and came to steal the supplies. Victor pointed at the enemies outside. Kill one of them, and I'll reward you with 5 portions of food. Everyone was stunned at first. Then they picked up their weapons. They rushed outside like madmen. The enemies outside were baffled by this. Are these people insane? A great reward brings out the brave. To get the food, everyone's fighting spirit was at its peak. They all wanted more kills, to trade for more food. Arthur stood by and boosted their morale. Soon, the enemy leader was taken down by an axe. The others saw this and realized they were no match. They immediately turned and ran away. Everyone cheered loudly for the victory. Sarah looked at the 2 men on the ground. Repeated line. She knew that if they were treated in time, they could be saved. But she knew Victor would not waste precious supplies on them. After a while, everyone gathered together. Victor praised them for their bravery just now. He said as long as they stay united, there is nothing to fear from these people. Then he signaled 2 men to step forward. Then he gave them supplies for 5 people. He patted them on the shoulders. He told them to keep up this spirit. He said he would never mistreat them. The 2 men were very moved. They said Victor was like a brother to them. They promised to work hard for him from now on. The people standing behind them felt regret when they saw this. They regretted not working harder just now. Otherwise, those supplies would be theirs. This clear system of reward and punishment was very effective. Then Victor told them to get into a line. It was time to distribute the food. Victor began handing out supplies to everyone. Besides the 2 men who charged forward, who received 5 portions of food, the people behind them only received enough to fill their stomachs. But then something even more ridiculous happened. It was Benny's turn next. He knelt on the ground and begged. He asked where his food was. Victor's expression turned cold. He kicked something to Benny's feet. It was just a single piece of candy. Benny asked Victor why he only got 1 candy. Victor explained that just now, you slacked off from beginning to end. You didn't even touch the enemies once. Giving you this 1 candy was an act of charity. Benny explained there were only 4 enemies. Everyone else had them surrounded so tightly. He never had a chance to get close. Victor waved his hand dismissively. He said the process didn't matter. He only cared about results. Benny stood up. He pointed at Victor and said this was unfair. He accused Victor of clearly targeting him. Victor asked if he wanted fairness. He asked who Benny thought he was to demand fairness from him. Victor asked if Benny thought he was being reasonable. He then gave a signal. His men stepped forward and pinned Benny to the ground. Victor declared his words were absolute orders. Disobeying meant facing punishment. The men then turned to Benny. They began to punch and kick him repeatedly. Victor told the crowd this was the cost of disobedience. He added that if anyone present thought he was being a tyrant, they could put down their food immediately. They were free to leave with their pride. He promised not to cause them any trouble. No one in the crowd dared to speak up. Victor clapped his hands. He said it seemed they had reached a consensus. Benny, after his beating, Benny still thought Victor was being too harsh. Victor then stepped on Benny's hand. Victor picked up the candy that had fallen. He grabbed Benny's head and told him to learn his lesson. He gave the crowd a thumbs down. He emphasized once again that this building doesn't need useless freeloaders. Then he told Sarah to put the supplies away. He announced that the distribution was over. Just then, a voice came from the back. "Brother Victor, I haven't gotten mine yet. I haven't received anything." Then Crystal and her friend crawled out from the crowd. Crystal said pitifully, "Brother Victor, you were always so good to me. You wouldn't want me to suffer, right?" Her friend also begged not to be forgotten. Victor squatted down in front of them. He said he definitely wouldn't forget them, because there was never a share for them in the first place. They refused to accept this fact. Crystal looked at Victor. She asked if he used to like her. Victor pushed Crystal away. He shoved her aside with one hand. He admitted that he did like her once. "But you didn't actually take it seriously, did you?" He said they were both just playing around. Besides, he already has a girlfriend now. He then pulled Sarah into his arms. He praised Sarah in every possible way. He said she was 10,000 times better than certain people. He told Crystal to never come near him again. Victor's cold behavior made Crystal burst into tears. The onlookers watched the drama unfold. He told her to stop daydreaming. Then he did something even more soul-crushing. Victor pointed out that she was just trash, yet she still thought she was a goddess. She only cared about chasing rich men. She dreamed of climbing the social ladder. Then he asked Benny, "What are Crystal's nicknames?" "The Mobile Universal Socket, the 5-seater public bus, Russian Roulette." Benny listed all of her nicknames at once. Furious, Crystal screamed at him to shut up. Everyone was shocked by what they heard. They realized she was a real piece of work, with her true nature exposed. Crystal ran away in total shame. Victor was pleased with Benny's cooperation and rewarded him with some supplies. Crystal's friend was then grabbed by 2 thugs and dragged into a dark room. Now that the trash was gone, it was time to discuss the next plan. How to properly defend this building, excluding children who can't fight. We have 47 people left, aside from Victor, Sarah, Arthur, and Grace. The rest will be split into 6 groups for 24-hour shifts. This will prevent attacks from other buildings. Once an intruder is spotted, bang on the stair railings or any other metal objects to alert everyone. He also stated that the rewards mentioned earlier will remain valid. For killing one enemy earns a reward of 5 portions of food. If you only stay on guard duty, you can only eat what others leave behind. Then he asked Arthur to arrange this matter. A few days later, the blizzard outside became even heavier. Sarah asked with concern, "What is the situation outside now?" "The city is buried under the snow. Low-rise buildings are completely covered." She pointed out that if this continues, even if the snow stops and temperatures return to normal, it would take at least half a month for the snow to melt. But winter is coming, and it will only get colder. But for them, none of this was a problem. He stood up from the sofa. He opened his arms, and a large number of firearms fell from the dimension void. He knew that in the apocalypse, what is more terrifying than demons is never the environment. The most dangerous thing to deal with is always humanity itself. He then picked up the Barrett and walked to the balcony. Victor thought to himself, "This is a masterpiece for assassination." He had to try it if given the chance. Coincidentally, he spotted 2 figures. Through his scope, they were heading toward his snowmobile. During the day, he pretended to park it in the garage. Now, greedy people have taken the bait, but they are destined to fail, because the snowmobile was already stored in his dimension void. Just then, Arthur called him. He thanked Victor for the instant noodles. He also apologized for what Grace had said to him earlier. Victor said he didn't mind, but told Arthur to think twice about raising Grace's child. He pointed out that in the apocalypse, a strong man like Arthur, who can fight well, is very much in demand. Arthur said he was getting old and was satisfied to find a woman like her. After hearing this, Victor still gave Arthur some advice. Although Grace was decent, he should make sure she carries on his family line. After all, he didn't want his efforts to end up benefiting someone else. Arthur replied that in this environment, having a child would be too much suffering. He would wait until things settled down. Victor quickly smoothed things over, telling Arthur not to take it to heart. He still had great respect for him and Grace, and sincerely wished for their happiness. Then, the 2 hung up the phone. Victor then caressed Sarah's blushing cheeks. Some things are better taken slowly. The 2 began to kiss passionately. Although it was -200 degrees outside, her body was still a warm 37 degrees. But the happy moment didn't last long. Down in the first floor lobby, a group of armed men appeared. As they prepared to head upstairs, they heard the sound of clanging metal and were hit by bricks thrown from above. The residents guarding the stairs had spotted the Sky Unity Gang's sneak attack. They banged bricks against the metal railings and shouted loudly for the others to come and fight. Facing the counter-ambush, the Sky Unity Gang decided to strike back. And so, both sides began a life-and-death struggle. As casualties for the Sky Unity Gang grew, their leader decided to retreat. Soon, every one of them fled in total disgrace. The people inside the building chose not to pursue them blindly. Meanwhile, Victor, who had finished his meal, walked onto the balcony, feeling exhausted. He remarked that those starving dogs really picked the right time for a sneak attack. He estimated the distance with his hand, wondering if a sniper rifle could take them out. He took a sniper rifle out of the dimension void. He wanted to take this chance to see if this big gun worked well. Looking through the scope, he spotted the fleeing enemies. This scope was very powerful. It could see an ant clearly from 10 kilometers away. Then, he pulled the trigger. The bullet hit an enemy 100 meters away. Seeing their companion suddenly fall, the rest were completely shocked. Victor couldn't help but feel that he was a shooting genius. The survivors didn't linger and fled for their lives. Victor decided to keep going while he was on a roll. With every gunshot, another person fell to the ground. After 7 shots, Victor stopped, feeling satisfied. This performance meant he could simply hide in the future and pick off any tough intruders. There was no longer any need for him to go outside. The gunshots also caught the attention of the other residents in the building. Seeing Victor's powerful weapon and his precise marksmanship, they became even more certain that they should remain obedient. They didn't dare to have any rebellious thoughts. Victor saw figures watching from the building across. He knew that after tonight, many people would be unable to sleep. The next day, Sarah prepared food for Victor as usual. After tasting it, Victor suggested she should cook more often for a change of pace. Sarah then asked about the gunshots from yesterday. Victor confirmed it was him. He had fired 7 sniper shots and killed 1 person with each bullet. Hearing this, Sarah turned into a fangirl and showered Victor with compliments. Victor asked why she wasn't curious about his sniper skills. Sarah replied that curiosity leads to death. She was determined to follow him now. It was better than dying outside. Victor was very satisfied with her answer. A lack of unnecessary curiosity was a virtue he appreciated. Meanwhile, the leader of the Sky Unity Gang saw his men shot dead. Their bodies were lying in the snow. A subordinate asked him in confusion, "Boss, what should we do? We lost half our men. Should we keep going?" The leader was furious, but they only had clubs and iron bars. They could not compete with Victor's heavy firepower. The boss ordered his men to bring back the dead bodies. He wasn't doing this to give them a proper burial. In this apocalypse, bodies were just another source of food. Soon after, Victor prepared to go out again. Everyone he passed bowed to him. In this building, you must never provoke him if you want to live. Victor's purpose for this trip was a lead from Arthur. Arthur gave him the location of a military camp. He wanted to see if there were more supplies. Every time he went out, people from the neighboring building watched him closely. Although they had already sent people to search the garage, they couldn't find where Victor hid his snowmobile. A man there secretly decided that this vehicle must be seized by the Mad Wolf Gang. It was a vital tool for finding resources. In the apocalypse, controlling resources means controlling people's hearts. Then, expanding their team and forming a bigger gang would be easy. Meanwhile, Victor was speeding on his snowmobile. He knew very well that in this environment, unless the snow melted, the only places left to find food would be those few, large, independent supermarkets. Then, the South City Warehouse District came to mind. He remembered that although he had emptied the Southern Regional Warehouse, there were still goods from other companies nearby. He decided to go check it out immediately. He might be able to scavenge some leftovers. Soon, he arrived at the South City Warehouse District. He broke through the glass on a warehouse roof. But this time, things didn't go as he hoped. All the supplies in this area had already been moved. Even so, he decided to see if anything was left. Heavy trucks, excavators, and even Rolls Royces. Not a single useful thing was left behind. He stored it all into his dimension void. Soon, everything in the warehouse was taken. Though they were useless for now, they might come in handy later. Leaving the warehouse, he realized something. Fuel was an equally important issue, since snowmobiles would be his primary mode of transport. He then drove toward a gas station, but he was disappointed once again. The entire gas station was completely buried under the snow. He knew that gas stations didn't have any tall buildings. If that was the case, where could he possibly find fuel? He lay down in the snow, feeling helpless. He was worried about his future fuel supply. It was impossible to dig it out by hand, but with heavy machinery, it would be a different story. Suddenly, a bold idea flashed through his mind. The snow had only been falling for a month. It hadn't turned into hard ice yet. He raised his hand and summoned an excavator from the dimension void. He planned to dig until he reached an entrance like a door or window. Then, he could break his way inside. Next, he filled the excavator with 98 grade diesel. I believe every man knows how to operate an excavator. He drove the machine to the front of the gas station. Relying on his years of driving experience, he began the excavation work. After 2.5 hours of digging, he finally found the entrance. After discharging the static electricity from his body, he entered the fuel storage warehouse. He used a crowbar to pry open the door. He followed the stairs down to the basement. Finally, he found them in the warehouse. The massive fuel tanks he had dreamed of. With these 3 tanks of gas and 1 of diesel, he wouldn't have to worry about fuel ever again. Then he unscrewed the pipes connected to the surface pumps. He sealed them with plastic wrap to prevent any leaks. At that moment, he had an even more exciting thought. After successfully using the excavator, it meant that despite the freeze, all supplies under the snow were now his for the taking. All human civilization buried by the snow was now his to take at any time. Both the fuel and the supply search issues had been solved at once. Victor decided that tonight, he would first get some rest here. He would wait for daylight to check out the defense garrison Arthur mentioned. He wrapped himself in a sleeping bag and fell asleep. Meanwhile, Sarah was treating a child with a fever, but she could not work without supplies. Although Victor left food behind, all the emergency medicine was still taken by him. Without any medicine, she had no way to treat the child. Then, Arthur brought out the medicine that Victor previously gave to treat Grace's child. He told Sarah to use it for this child first. He then comforted the child's mother, saying Victor would be back soon. He promised that everyone would have a better life then. But will things really go as Arthur expects? After the child received treatment, the mother thanked them for their help. After a brief conversation, she turned and left. But this warmth in the apocalypse would soon be shattered. Beatrice charged at the woman with a sharp knife. Before anyone could react, the sharp blade pierced the woman's artery. While still conscious, the woman threw her baby to Sarah. With her last breath, she told Sarah to take her son and run. After the murder, Beatrice turned her focus to Sarah. She demanded that Sarah hand over the child. Beatrice felt that since her own grandson was dead, then this baby had no reason to live either. Sarah immediately tried to run away with the baby, but she was quickly caught by Beatrice. Beatrice claimed that since Sarah failed to save her grandson, she should also die. She swung her knife to end their lives. Suddenly, Arthur appeared and blocked the attack. Arthur stopped the strike and snatched the dagger away. He asked Sarah if she was injured, if anything happened to her. While Victor was away, he wouldn't be able to face Victor. Beatrice became hysterical. She called Arthur a coward who feared death. She asked why he didn't go kill Slade back then. She claimed he also owed her grandson a life. She even yelled that everyone in this building deserved to die. Arthur replied that if Victor hadn't killed Slade, she wouldn't even be alive to cause trouble here. Then, Sarah said, it was an unacceptable truth. She explained that Victor had actually tried to give her the medicine. Beatrice flatly denied this, claiming her grandson only died because he had no medicine. Sarah said she had begged Victor for help, but just as he was about to give it to her, Beatrice had already killed her grandson. She was already heating the oil to cook him then. The fact that she was the real killer was something Beatrice couldn't accept, but it was the undeniable truth. The nearby onlookers were also disgusted by her actions. Then, one of them suggested that, since Beatrice had done so many evil things, they should help her out. Omitted. However, what they really wanted was the fat on Beatrice's body. Because the winter was too cold, they didn't have enough fuel for the fire. After a night of rest, Victor woke up and prepared to head to the defense garrison. He took an excavator out from his dimension void to search for the entrance. 2.5 hours later, he found the entrance to the camp's dormitory. Victor decided to enter first. It should be close to the armory. But after entering, he noticed something strange. In this place, there wasn't a single soul. He wondered if they had all left in advance. Did those who knew about the disaster move the troops and supplies early? He realized they must be planning to use those resources to wait for the blizzard to end. Then they would emerge to restore the old world order. If that were the case, Victor would be in big trouble, because at that time, some armed forces would appear. They would surely become a major threat. Thinking of this, Victor decided to prepare in advance. He used the excavator to smash through a steel door. Finally, he found the armory, but it was different from what he imagined. Although it had the usual weapons, like various ammo and sniper rifles, and even some grenades, something was strange. More than half of the supplies were missing. There were no heavy weapons either, but he didn't dwell on it further. After looting the weapons, he drove away. When he returned to the complex, he was met with skepticism. It was because he didn't bring back any food. Having starved for 2 days, the people began to complain. Victor's face darkened. He questioned if they were getting too arrogant lately. They seemed to have forgotten who they begged to save their lives. Since they were being so ungrateful, he decided to part ways with them. They would have to find their own food from now on. Someone stepped forward to try and calm Victor down. He knew that without Victor, they would eventually starve to death. Will Victor really turn against them? Victor stood by his decision to split. He did not change his mind despite their apologies. He declared that this was the end. He told them to go home and part ways. His actions made everyone feel very frustrated. They felt they risked their lives working for him, yet they still had to walk on eggshells. Chad suggested Victor take more people with him next time. However, his true intention was he wanted to kill Victor when he wasn't looking. He kept talking to Victor to distract him. The people behind him realized Chad's intention and followed his lead. But at that moment, Victor's hand shifted into a shooting stance. He instantly pulled a pistol from the dimension void. He aimed at Chad's forehead and fired a shot. He told them he would never believe a single word of their lies. It seemed he had been too generous, making them bold enough to betray him. They wouldn't learn to obey without some bloodshed. He pulled the trigger repeatedly. The people in front of him fell one after another. Only a few managed to jump out the window and escape. The rest were all shot and killed on the spot. Sarah arrived at the scene and worriedly asked if Victor was hurt. Victor held Sarah's hand to reassure her. He said it was just a minor conflict. Since he was always a kind person, he chose to forgive them. However, Grace had a different opinion about his definition of kindness. On the way home, Victor was thinking. Everything was almost ready. Now, he just needed to find the right time. It is time to clear out the remaining cannon fodder. After returning home, Victor asked Sarah if anything had happened in the neighborhood while he was away. He also asked about any movement in the other buildings. She mentioned that to avenge her grandson, Beatrice killed the child's mother. Beatrice was later dealt with by others. Victor said she brought it on herself. He felt she deserved that miserable end. Then Sarah continued. Vivian, the leader of Building 9, asked her to set up a contact with Victor. She wanted to discuss some matters. Vivian, what does she want to talk to me about? Victor rejected her without a second thought. He lacked for nothing, while they could only helplessly wait for death in their building. Therefore, she had no bargaining chips to negotiate a deal with him. Sarah understood Victor's intention. She was about to inform Vivian of the refusal, but Victor told her to wait. He wanted to learn more about Vivian and the specific situation in Building 9. Sarah said they only had a doctor-patient relationship. She only knew some basic things about Vivian. She is the CEO of a $200 million cosmetics company. It is said that the company is actually a micro-business enterprise. Although she is nearly 40, she has maintained herself well. She is not only shapely, but still very charming, due to her strong personality and iron-fisted methods. Building 9, under her management, has only had 10 casualties so far. According to reliable sources, Building 9 is now completely controlled by her and her men. Victor found this incredible, that a seemingly weak woman could manage an entire building at a time like this. She definitely has some skills. Sarah asked him again if he wanted to talk to her. Victor also wanted to negotiate with her first, to find out what the other buildings were planning. To his surprise, besides Vivian's friend request, there was another from someone he had only met once, Sterling, the warehouse financial director. He accepted both friend requests without much thought. Vivian's first message got straight to the point. Vivian's first message was very direct. Victor asked her what she wanted to discuss. She suggested having a voice call. Victor refused her request immediately. He told her to stop wasting his time. Spit it out, he said. Vivian realized that Victor was a truly ruthless man. Rumors said he had killed half the residents of Building 25 by himself. It was even said he was so heartless that he wouldn't spare a pregnant pig. He not only had a snowmobile, which was a vital means of transport, but he also possessed a Barrett sniper rifle. Therefore, Vivian knew she had to be very careful with him. She finally stated the purpose of her contact. We know you have a snowmobile, she said, and that you can go out to find supplies. She wanted to propose a partnership. She hoped the two of them could work together. Victor asked what she could offer in return. Vivian proposed providing 60 to 70 men. With his snowmobile and her men, they could expand their territory. It would be much more efficient than working alone. However, there was one condition. Victor had to provide food for all those men. That way, her men could become his primary labor force. Victor felt like she was treating him like a fool. Did she really think she could trick him? But Vivian's next words revealed her true ruthlessness. She said Victor was already a target for everyone. Only by providing food could he keep her group neutral. The thousands of residents hadn't attacked yet, because they were still weighing the risks. Once they are driven to desperation, they would rather destroy everything than let him live in peace. Her words were filled with threats. Victor responded, "Are you saying you'll attack if I refuse? I believe you won't choose to make us your enemy," she said. "Even if you win, you gain nothing. Cooperation is the wisest choice." Victor said it was his first time seeing a beggar act so entitled. He told her he would consider it and give her an answer later. After the talk, Victor fell into deep thought. He was now facing the threat of everyone left in the community turning against him at once. No matter what they do now, they can't touch him. But if they all attack at once, it might be a different story. Victor wondered if thousands of people could actually demolish his building. As he considered if they could destroy the whole structure, he quickly found his answer. The people outside have no electricity or fuel, so they can't use heavy machinery. Trying to destroy it by hand is nothing but a pipe dream. He concluded that, as long as he stays inside, the entire community combined still couldn't do anything to him. But this raised another problem. How long would it take to kill thousands? If left alone, they would surely attack. While he was still worried, his phone buzzed with a new message. Victor checked his phone. The message was from Sterling. Sterling first described the situation in Building 18 under his management. Just like Vivian, he offered to cooperate and provide manpower. His leverage was offering manpower in exchange for food. Additionally, he could coordinate for Victor with the other residential buildings to prevent any potential conflicts. Victor then asked Sarah if she knew anything about Building 18. Sarah said she had heard some rumors. Apparently, their building leader was a very charismatic man. He united all residents after the frost began and implemented a unified rationing system, which allowed most people to survive until now. Victor admitted that the man was a talent, but relying solely on this to survive the apocalypse long-term was still nothing but a fantasy. He replied that he would consider the offer. "I'll think about it. Wait for my answer." He told Sterling to wait for his reply. Then, he looked at the friend requests from the other building leaders. He knew they all had the same goal. He held Sarah from behind and said, there were only two choices, war or peace. Killing everyone would not only waste his precious ammunition reserves, but most of them had no grudge against him. Killing too many would also affect his mental health. Hearing this, Sarah felt lucky that she had chosen Victor, because at this moment, everyone's life and death depended on his decision. Victor then held her tighter and asked Sarah, from her perspective, what choice he should make. Then he began to get restless with his hands. Sarah's body trembled as she stuttered her thoughts. If victory was certain, war would be best, but providing supplies to the small teams, controlling the building units, would be an unbearable expense. Victor asked if there was a way to have it both ways, to get rid of these troublesome people, without having to kill them all. Victor reached out to the opening and decided to help clear the pipes. In her irrational state, Sarah suggested an unrealistic idea. She suggested Victor move to another neighborhood. Victor pushed harder at that moment. Moving would be too difficult. His hard-earned safe house was integrated into the building's frame. Even his power couldn't take it away. Yet, the idea of leaving his current base planted a seed in his mind. The next day, Victor asked Sarah to take apart a bulletproof vest. He planned to strap it to his legs for protection. Since I'm preparing, I must be thorough. People from nearby buildings are jealous of me. They are threatening to attack our building. They demand that I hand over my food and motorcycle. If I refuse, they will launch an attack on us. They want the motorcycle given to them. Otherwise, they will raid this unit. But our building only has about 40 people. The neighbors are worried they can't stop the attack. Victor told them there is only one snowmobile. If he shares it with the other buildings, there won't even be scraps left for them. This food belongs to us. Why should we give it away to others? His words successfully riled up the crowd. They were now determined to fight to the end. A smirk appeared on Victor's face. He had achieved his goal of inciting them. Suddenly, he received a group invite. It interrupted his good mood. He took a closer look at the notification. Vivian had invited him to a group called the Building Leaders Negotiation Room. It seemed they were done pretending. They were ready for a showdown with him. Kane, the leader of Building 31, was the first to speak in the chat. He immediately started criticizing Victor. "Victor, I heard you've been living well lately. You eat well every day while ignoring your neighbors." Then the others joined the chat. They asked Sterling to present the terms they discussed. He summarized the group's demands. These were the conditions decided by the building leaders. They demanded that the snowmobile become community property. All resource points must also be shared with everyone. The leaders reached a unanimous decision. If Victor does not accept these conditions, he will become an enemy to all 29 buildings. Every survivor in the area will be against him. First, Victor must provide enough supplies to guarantee their basic survival. In exchange, they promise not to attack Victor's home in Building 25. Second, the snowmobile is now community property for everyone to use in turns. Third, Victor must share the exact locations of all the resource points he knows. Victor was furious at these shameless demands. He was tempted to just kill them all at once. He considered finding a way to wipe them out, but he quickly dismissed the idea. Doing that would leave his own defenses vulnerable. To end this threat permanently, he had to be smart. He needed to take them down one by one. A better strategy started to form in his mind. This method would be much safer for him. A direct confrontation was far too dangerous. It was better to capture the leaders first. The next day, Victor packed his equipment. He strapped on his Damascus blade. He had devised a detailed plan. Since the enemies underestimated his firepower, he would lure them out with fake peace talks. Once all the building leaders arrived, he would catch them off guard and throw a bomb. They would either be killed or severely crippled. Everything was now ready. He just waited for the fish to take the bait. On the other side, Arthur distributed food to the residents. They were preparing for the upcoming negotiations. This was their best meal since the apocalypse. Everyone was eating burgers and fast food. Victor appeared at that moment. He answered their questions. They asked if they could return to normal life after the talks. Victor said if the negotiations were successful and the food problem was solved, there would be no more bloodshed. He continued to boost their morale. Work hard today, be the boss tomorrow. He told them his lifestyle would soon be theirs. He urged them to fight one last time for this. These weren't just empty promises, because once they were all dead, they wouldn't have to worry about the future anymore. Soon, under Victor's lead, they went outside and saw the aggressive crowd. Everyone was armed with clubs and weapons. It didn't look like a peaceful negotiation at all. The enemy's formation was truly massive. It startled Victor's group. Seeing this, Victor sent a message to the group chat. He told everyone to back off immediately, or else they wouldn't need to show up today. He then ordered Arthur to step forward to help keep the crowd under control. Victor stayed behind with his sniper rifle to provide them with fire support. Currently, the owners from all the other buildings had mobilized in full force. Arthur stood at the very front. Victor hid at the very back. He set up his rifle like a hidden camper. At this moment, everyone, including Arthur, was certain about one thing. This was not how a negotiation should look. They clearly intended to wipe them out. What will be the final result of this negotiation? Will Victor be able to escape safely? A man nearby asked Arthur. Looking at this situation, it seemed like everyone in the residential area had gathered. How should we fight? Arthur told them not to worry. Their target isn't you guys. They want to force Victor to make concessions. After all, we have nothing. There's nothing for them to take from us. Arthur's words. His words put everyone at ease. The 5 building leaders stood at the front. Vivian looked very confident. She planned to take charge of the negotiation. She wanted to ensure no one was left out of the talk. More importantly, she couldn't let anyone contact Victor privately. If necessary, she could even use some of them as human shields. Vivian then suggested that they go inside to talk with Victor. They would inform him of what was decided yesterday. He just had to accept it, and it would be over. Darius from Building 20 SIXS Sky Unity Gang spoke up first. He demanded to know where Victor was. He said they were all there to negotiate with him. Arthur said Victor was waiting for them upstairs. He asked why all the building leaders didn't come together. Sterling said they decided it wasn't appropriate for everyone to go. Instead, they chose a few to act as representatives. Arthur signaled for the representatives to enter, but he told them they must be searched first. Their expressions changed immediately upon hearing this. They felt that given Victor's current situation, he was courting death by still making demands. Seeing this, Victor called Arthur. Arthur ignored Kane's provocation. He listened carefully to Victor as he gave his instructions over the phone. After hanging up, Arthur told them to wait a moment. Arthur signaled that he understood the plan. While the others looked on in confusion, he ordered everyone to step back. Victor had a reason for this instruction. He was about to teach them a lesson. A moment later, Victor blew a whistle. The sudden sound caught the enemies off guard. As they stood dazed, Victor pulled a pin. He threw a grenade toward the crowd with all his might. The grenade landed right in the middle of the group. Before they could react, the explosion blew those nearby into the air. Only severed limbs remained after the blast. The enemies finally realized that Victor possessed grenades. Arthur turned on his speakerphone. Victor's voice rang out from the phone. "How's that? You think having more people makes you tough? Does anyone else have any objections?" The crowd was now terrified. Not only did Victor have a sniper rifle, but he also had powerful grenades. Kane desperately tried to make excuses. He claimed they were only there to negotiate. He argued that Victor shouldn't treat them this way. Victor retorted, "What kind of decent person brings 1,000 people to a negotiation?" He said he simply found them to be an eyesore. He was just helping them clear the area. He added that it was almost 2:30 p.m. 5 minutes left. "I won't wait a second longer." Vivian immediately stepped forward to inquire. She asked which floor Victor was on. She insisted they had come in good faith. They were there to negotiate sincerely. She asked him to wait. They were coming up. "I'm on the 13th floor," Victor replied. That single grenade had served its purpose. It achieved exactly what Victor wanted. It had taken out at least 20 people. Grenades were indeed very effective. However, now that they were on guard, it would be difficult to deal that much damage again. He decided to use his grenades more sparingly from now on. After all, he only had 20 boxes left. Moments later, the floor leaders arrived at the scene. They entered the negotiation area. "You're all here. Is it just a few of you?" Sterling explained that they were the representatives. Victor's tone sounded disappointed. "That's a pity," Victor muttered. "Well then, let's talk." He knew he couldn't take them all out at once right now. He would have to use his backup plan. They began by explaining the circumstances. They described the hardships of the apocalypse. They claimed they weren't specifically targeting him. Finally, they proposed their conditions. They wanted Victor to go back to the previous arrangement, providing food for everyone. Victor wordlessly pulled out a pistol. Everyone stood up, immediately on guard. They told him to calm down and just talk. Victor told them not to be nervous. He said the gun was just in his way. He just wanted to take it out and set it aside. He tapped the table with the pistol. He motioned for them to sit and continue. Victor addressed their conditions. He said he couldn't provide for thousands of people. No one can afford that level of consumption. Besides, you all have the power to rule a whole building in this era. You must all be smart people. As far as he knew, no one present was kind enough to starve themselves, just to help their neighbors. Victor finally proposed his own terms. If they didn't accept, it was war. First, he would provide food, but the amount was limited. Each building only gets rations for 10 people. Who gets that food is for the building leaders to decide. He would be supporting 300 people daily. This was his absolute limit. Vivian immediately rejected the offer. Food for 10 people was far too little. She still has 76 survivors, just among her own group. There are over 20 employees. How are they supposed to divide that? Victor felt there was no point in continuing the conversation. But the others stopped Victor from leaving. They argued that Vivian couldn't represent everyone. Darius said that regarding the supply amount, they could still negotiate further. Kane pointed out that food for 10 was indeed too little. They couldn't justify that to the other residents. But then, Victor began loading his pistol and asked them sarcastically, "Providing food for 300 people every day. Do you really think that's not enough?" Sterling quickly raised his hand and said they would consider it. He asked Victor to state the other conditions first. Victor then said that next, they needed to talk about what they must do. No one knows how long this snow will last. If they want sustainable development, relying only on scavenging won't last forever. So they must become self-sufficient. Every single person must work. Then he poured a bag of seeds onto the table. He had found these while he was out. He believed they could grow crops to obtain a steady, stable food supply, just like their ancestors did. Food must be earned through hard labor. Darius immediately protested after hearing this. He argued that in such freezing weather, all the crops would freeze to death. Victor countered his point. No matter how cold it is, haven't we still managed to survive? Who can you rely on at a time like this? Supplies and fuel will eventually run out. He then gestured toward the window. Isn't there land everywhere outside? If everyone clears the snow away, there is hope for self-sufficiency underneath. He pointed out what they needed to do. They must send people out to work every day. He needed to see real progress in the farming. If they agreed to do this, Victor promised to provide them with supplies. He guaranteed that the quality would be high. In the near future, he would even provide cigarettes, alcohol, and clothing. Even medical supplies would be no problem. Both men's eyes widened in surprise. Darius asked if he really had cigarettes. He asked Victor for one to try. He had been craving a smoke for a long time. Victor then took out a pack and held it out in front of them. He offered them a smoke. He handed the cigarettes over. While they were enjoying their smoke, Victor was confirming their thoughts. He said his conditions were on the table. It was up to them to accept. Sterling, who didn't smoke, was about to object. But before he could speak, the two smokers agreed. As long as Victor guaranteed them cigarettes, they wanted at least 2 packs a day. Victor offered 1 pack a day. He said he would not give any more. The two agreed immediately. So, it seems we have reached an agreement for today's negotiation. Right? Victor asked, because they received the cigarettes. The two smokers agreed without a second thought. Sterling was embarrassed by their recklessness. He felt ashamed of them. He thought these two were starting a conflict right in front of Victor. They were such idiots. Vivian also suggested further discussion, but the two were already lost in the tobacco. They kept speaking in favor of Victor. Just then, Victor noticed something was wrong. The people waiting downstairs were preparing to attack him. Victor immediately pointed his gun at everyone. He asked if they had planned this beforehand, to have their men launch a sneak attack during the negotiation. Kane explained that since they were all here, a sneak attack would put their own lives in danger. Victor told them that once they returned, they must find out who the traitor was. Meanwhile, the people downstairs began to attack. The building leaders could no longer control them. Victor ordered the leaders to sit down. Arthur led a group of residents and burst in. They pinned the leaders down to the table. Victor took out his Barrett sniper rifle, ready to teach these fools a lesson. He aimed at the man leading the charge. With a loud bang, the bullet pierced the man's head. Before the first body hit the ground, the second bullet arrived as expected. The crowd began to flee in panic. After all, no one wanted to be the next target to be picked off. Some people even lay flat to hide in the snow. But these petty tricks were worthless in Victor's eyes. He fired the Barrett like a submachine gun. One bullet after another flew continuously from the barrel. The gunshots and screams combined into a tragic symphony. The leaders upstairs were too terrified to even breathe. A moment later, Victor turned to the building leaders. He asked if they had considered the 2 conditions he proposed. Under Victor's intense pressure, Kane and Darius were the first to raise their hands. Then, Vivian and Silas also raised their hands to show they had no objections. Finally, Sterling raised his hand and accepted the terms. Seeing that everyone agreed, Victor announced that labor would begin today. Tomorrow afternoon, Victor would notify them to collect their supplies. He patted Sterling on the shoulder and told them they could leave for now. He warned that he would be watching them, so they better not try any tricks. Everyone walked downstairs with heavy hearts. The crowd outside asked how the situation went. As they left the building, Victor appeared to answer their questions. He told them that their leaders had compromised. They gave in after he used just a little bit of force to threaten them. He then explained the specific conditions to everyone. From now on, Victor would provide food for 100 people. In exchange, all of them were required to clear the land for agricultural planting. Everyone became worried after hearing this. Giving out food for 300 people every day? What will we eat then? Victor explained that without this agreement, they would be at war with over 1,000 people. He said he didn't mind personally. No matter how many there were, he wasn't afraid. But the people in this building wouldn't be able to hold out. Then, he thumped his chest confidently. He told them not to worry too much. He would do his best to find more food. No matter what happens, he would never let his followers starve. Everyone was moved to tears by his words. They felt they had finally followed the right leader. From then on, they would support Victor fully. In this way, Victor won everyone's absolute loyalty. However, Victor's unusual behavior caught Arthur's attention. Being straightforward, Arthur pointed out that Victor was acting strange today. Victor explained that cooperation was only a temporary measure. He then put his arm around Arthur's shoulder. He detailed his plan as they walked home. Originally, he planned to gather the building leaders and wipe them all out at once. Without leaders, those buildings would fall into chaos again. Then he could take them down one by one. But things didn't go as expected today. In fact, only 5 building leaders showed up. Killing them wouldn't have changed much. It's better to act weak and compromise for now. I can strike later when the time is right. Arthur finally understood after hearing this. This explained Victor's recent behavior. Victor continued to explain his reasoning. Simply put, the reason is this. Their food supply is limited. As long as the distribution is unfair, internal conflicts will definitely break out. When some people get no food, They will start killing each other. Arthur praised him after hearing the plan. He thought the move was brilliant. He called it using a small force to move a ton. Then, Victor explained the core reason he would win. It was because he had plenty of supplies. He could just wait and watch his enemies wither away. Besides having his basic needs met, he has firepower and a solid fortress. Meanwhile, those people outside are starving and freezing. They can't even guarantee their own survival. How could they possibly be his match? Even a world-class boxing champion, after starving for 30 days, would lose miserably in the ring. Starving for 30 days? Wouldn't they be dead by then? Victor nodded confidently. That's why I say, how can a bunch of dead men beat me? Then Arthur raised a very important question. Why make them plant seeds in the snow? In this freezing weather, the chance of success is 0. Victor explained that this is just to drain their energy. It is a strategy to wear them out. While they tire themselves out, we will just wait and rest. Arthur said, his whole family depends on Victor now. He will do whatever Victor asks. Victor told Arthur to keep their conversation a secret. Just follow the plan for now. But he had to watch out for more than just outside enemies. There were also traitors inside this building. Victor returned home after parting with Arthur. Sarah was doing yoga and smiled when she saw him. She wrapped her arms around Victor's neck, asking about the negotiation results. She wanted to know how it went. Without a word, Victor picked Sarah up and threw her onto the bed. He then told Sarah to stay at home for the next few days. Don't go anywhere. He promised that soon the trouble outside would vanish. The next day, a crowd gathered outside with farming tools. They were discussing how to earn more food. With the peace agreement in place, this was the life they wanted. The people worked in the snow, while the building leaders supervised. Just then, Victor walked out. Cain and Darius knew he was going for supplies. They asked if he needed help. Victor said he had a snowmobile and could handle it alone. He told them to wait for his return. He then warned the workers not to slack off. He would check their progress later. Everyone worked even harder. They knew failure meant hunger. Victor rode off on his snowmobile, leaving quickly. The two men were left confused. They never knew where Victor actually kept his snowmobile. Will Victor keep his promise and bring back food? Victor is planning a massive scheme. He wants to wear down their patience first. Then he will secretly mix rat poison into the food in batches. He just needs the right moment. This will be the perfect ending. They don't have much time left to live. They are already short on food and clothes. After a whole day of hard labor, they must be completely exhausted. A twisted idea grows in his mind. He is looking forward to seeing how they will react after working all day, only to find the food is not there. They will fall into total despair and madness. Soon, Victor carries several large bags of food and arrives back at his building. Everyone is curious how he managed to get so much food. Victor explains that he went to a very distant place. The further the distance, the more dangerous the trip. He claims he took big risks to feed them. Then he calls the other building leaders. He tells them to send people to collect the supplies. A moment later, 3 people arrive. The others wait outside at the entrance. They are doing this to prevent Victor from wiping them all out at once. Victor then starts distributing the supplies. He asks them to come forward one by one to collect the food. After distributing the supplies, he makes a point to emphasize something. He tells them to relax and not be so nervous. He makes many empty promises to them. This is to lower their guard. Finally, he tells them to go home first. He tells them to rest well, as they have work to do tomorrow. They leave satisfied after hearing this. Little do they know, everything is part of Victor's plan. After a busy day, Victor returns home. The first thing he does is take a nice shower. He knows this situation won't last long. Right now, he only thinks about one thing. He wants to eliminate all those troublemakers. Then he will find a way to leave this place and start everything over. Just now, King's lackey received the supplies. King can't wait to open the bag. As agreed, he finds the cigarettes hidden in the food. Seeing this, his lackeys also want to smoke. Seeing how desperate everyone is, King gives each of them one cigarette. In the end, he only has one left for himself. It shows that having many people isn't always good in the apocalypse. Then he begins distributing the food to the people in the room. Everyone except him begins to eat. He waits because he wants to verify something first. He wants to see if Victor poisoned the food. They enjoy living for free. They only need to keep the others in the dark. They just want the clueless minions to keep working. The next day, Victor is woken up by arguments outside. The clueless crowd finally notices something. They worked hard the previous day, but they didn't receive the promised food the next morning. The building leader makes excuses, accusing them of being lazy. Sarah is also confused by the noise outside. But Victor pretends not to know anything. His plan is working even faster than expected. He warns Arthur. The food in other buildings is not enough to share. A riot will break out soon. He tells Arthur to be extra careful. Then he rides his snowmobile out to find supplies. Soon, he returns with several large bags of food. The people receiving the food even thank Victor. They say the food he provided is delicious. Without it, they would have had to resort to cannibalism. Hearing this, Victor knows exactly what happened. The leaders kept all the food for themselves. He simply tells them he is glad they enjoyed it. In his mind, this is their last meal. It should be as lavish as possible. Finally, those who didn't get food realize the truth. A massive internal riot begins. The next day, he goes out as usual. He sees many corpses lying in the snow. He checks and finds people who jumped from the building. Those who didn't die instantly were severely injured and left in the freezing cold. They were tortured by the cold until they died. Looking at the bloodstains all over the building, he deduces that last night's fight was brutal. He deduced last night's battle was brutal. Arthur asked if they still had to work today. The answer was a definite yes. Victor stated that if they wanted to eat, they must work, unless they wanted to end up like the dead. Everyone broke into a cold sweat. They then went to work obediently. Then Arthur noticed that people from other buildings weren't out working. Victor explained the reason. It was because they simply had no time to work. Last night's conflict was only the beginning. The main conflict is between the building leaders and the ordinary residents. Unless they solve the food distribution problem, one side must be completely wiped out. Since there are so many people, they couldn't all be killed in one night. All they have to do now is wait for them to destroy themselves. Victor also told the leaders group chat that if they didn't show up tomorrow, he wouldn't guarantee food or cigarettes. The next day, as usual, Victor watched the workers from high above. He monitored them from his vantage point. Compared to yesterday, the number of workers had decreased by 1/3. Arthur asked a question. These people know the food will never reach them. So why don't they fight back? To earn a chance to survive? Victor gestured for him to look at the people carrying away the corpses. Aren't they solving their food problem right now? Victor patted Arthur on the shoulder and spoke solemnly. People won't risk their lives if they have other options. Most creatures naturally seek benefits and avoid danger. After saying that, Victor prepared to look for supplies. Suddenly, Vivian appeared and stopped him. She said the reason she came was to discuss cooperation again. You? What could you possibly discuss with me? Victor asked. She argued that even if Victor brought back enough food, others would just steal it by force. If the community continued like this, it would eventually collapse. Victor thought to himself that this was exactly what he wanted. He then asked her, and then? Vivian began painting a grand vision for him. She said that since it was the apocalypse, and order had collapsed, they could build a kingdom. Victor would be the king, and she would serve as his advisor. As expected of a professional salesperson, her pitch was very smooth. Victor approached Vivian and asked her one question. You've used this same pitch to trick many people into working with you. In the end, their families were destroyed. I bet there have been many such cases. How do I know I won't be the next victim? Then Victor threw Vivian over his shoulder, slamming her down. He left her with one sentence. You are the ones who will die. Don't count me in. Then he walked away calmly. After dealing with Vivian, he went to the work area. The people from Sterling's building surprised him. There had been no casualties so far. They were still cooperating with each other. Victor's arrival caught Sterling's attention. Victor curiously asked how he managed it. Besides them, other buildings fought over food distribution. It had turned into a brutal bloodbath. Victor wondered how he hid the news from them. Sterling explained he didn't hide anything. He told everyone the negotiation results from the start, regardless of the amount of food. It was always distributed fairly. But Victor thought he was being too clever. In the end, the result would be that they would all starve to death. No one would survive. Victor's words exposed his concerns. But Victor still gave Sterling a suggestion. With his current power, he could easily recruit those most likely to survive, share the benefits, and save himself. But Sterling was too indecisive. He was too greedy, but lacked the ability to protect everyone. Doing that was as good as a crime. Everyone understood the logic, but he was helpless in this environment. Then, Victor turned around to chat with Darius and Cain. These two were now Victor's loyal followers. It was no exaggeration to call Victor their provider. Although Victor and the two men seemed as close as brothers, none of them would have a happy ending. Because the Reaper's scythe was about to swing, Victor distributed the food as agreed. But the other building leaders also demanded that Victor bring them cigarettes. They felt that giving them only to Darius and Cain was unfair and that he shouldn't show favoritism. With everyone chiming in, Victor had no choice but to agree. From tomorrow on, as long as the building leaders needed, Victor agreed to provide cigarettes to everyone. However, the people in his own building were unhappy. They felt the others were being too greedy. To their surprise, Victor didn't think it was too much. He said their request was reasonable. He insisted on not showing favoritism. He told his people to just let it go. His neighbors remained resentful. They worked themselves to death just to survive. They barely had enough to eat. Why did those other people get to live so well? This situation made Victor realize that it was finally time to start his plan. Internal fighting had already killed about 400 people. The survivors were unlikely to fight each other again. They had also let their guard down. Waiting any longer would only be disadvantageous. He decided to end everything tomorrow. The next day, he went to the supermarket. This time, he prepared a lavish feast. This would be their very last meal. Victor then mixed rat poison into the food. He also poisoned the wine and cigarettes to ensure he wiped them all out at once. After finishing the preparations, he felt a sudden sense of unease. Everything was going suspiciously smooth. He suspected the enemies were staying quiet because of a mole inside Building 25. A moment later, he dismissed his worries. As long as his weapons and the bastion remained, they could not do anything to him, no matter what they planned. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes were meaningless. It was time to distribute supplies again. Victor called the others to come down and collect. Soon, Everyone arrived as scheduled. Victor's plan was almost a success. He began handing out items to the other buildings. When it was Building 21's turn, the unexpected happened. While Victor's back was turned, Kane reached into his pocket and pulled out a pistol, aiming it at Victor. By the time Victor realized, it was too late. Kane fired 3 shots in a row. Luckily, Arthur arrived just in time and blocked the bullets for him. Now, the armed crowd surrounded Victor. Someone grabbed a machete to attack him from behind. Victor quietly pulled out a submachine gun. He opened fire and sprayed them with bullets. He needed to deal with these traitors and avenge Arthur. They scrambled to flee from the gunfire, but none of them could escape. Every single one of them was killed. Victor tossed aside the empty gun. He then pulled out 2 pistols to avenge Arthur. He planned to kill every last one of them. Only a few building leaders remained. They actually tried to make excuses, but Victor didn't listen to a word. He responded only with bullets. After finishing off Kane and Darius, only Vivian was left. As Victor approached, Vivian pulled out her underage daughter to use as a shield. She begged Victor to spare her life. With the sound of a gunshot, Vivian fell to the ground. "Sorry, I'm not in the habit of letting enemies go." Behind him, corpses were strewn everywhere. Blood stained the white snow red. Suddenly, he heard Arthur's voice. Victor immediately went to check on him. "Arthur, Arthur, are you still alive?" He took out an adrenaline shot and injected it into Arthur's body to help ease the pain. He then called the people nearby to help. He told them to bring Arthur to his house. But on the way, Victor encountered another problem. It was Arthur's wife, Grace. When Grace saw Arthur's condition, she immediately began blaming Victor. Victor told her to stay calm. He would do everything he could to save Arthur. Then, Grace suddenly handed her child to Victor. She said that if Arthur died, she wouldn't want to live anymore. She begged Victor to look after her child. Seeing this, Victor expressed his confusion. "Arthur isn't dead yet. Why are you in such a hurry to settle his final affairs?" She denied Victor's words. She immediately explained herself, claiming she wanted her husband to survive. But when Victor turned away, she showed her true intentions. She didn't actually care about Arthur. She only saw him as a carefully chosen meal ticket. Since he took a bullet for Victor, she intended to make Victor pay a heavy price, or at least make him suffer. After arriving at Victor's house, Victor told Grace she could go home. Her staying there wouldn't help anyway. Suddenly, Grace fell to her knees. She knelt beside Arthur, insisting on staying with him. She refused to leave no matter what. Victor glanced at Arthur to save him in time. Victor didn't care about anything else and opened the door. Grace finally entered the house of her dreams. There was heating, fresh food, and even a fireplace. She felt she would be able to enjoy all of this from now on. She walked into the kitchen as if she owned the place. She helped herself to water like it was her own home. She even asked Victor if he had any milk powder. This greedy behavior made Victor furious. "What did you say? Say that again." Grace quickly tried to smooth things over. She said Arthur cared for his child very much. Victor told her to get over and help immediately. Otherwise, he would throw her out. He put the clutter in the room into the dimension void. Then, he took out a surgical bed. Grace was stunned by his actions. She thought he was performing a magic trick. Victor told Sarah that she must save Arthur at all costs. Sarah didn't say a word and got to work. She cut open his clothes to check the wound. After the examination, she found that Arthur's condition was very grim. If the bullet had damaged his internal organs, he might not survive under these conditions. Hearing this, Grace began to sob. Victor told her to shut up. He didn't want her to disturb the surgery. He warned her that if anything happened to Arthur, she would have to face the consequences. Grace suggested that she leave the room. She claimed she couldn't help with the surgery. However, Victor saw through her true intentions. She actually wanted to go outside to eat and rest on the sofa. She felt that staying in the room was just suffering. Victor told her that this surgery involved her husband's life. He ordered her to stay and help by wiping sweat and passing tools. He said even if she did nothing, her presence would encourage Arthur. He warned her to stay put and behave. Then, Victor gathered everyone in the building. He was ready to execute a major plan. Because the neighbors were treacherous and seriously injured Arthur, Victor decided to launch a counterattack tonight. The group was worried because they were outnumbered and lacked weapons. But Victor was already prepared. He pointed to some gasoline barrels and old clothes. He told them he would deal with the enemies inside the building. The others just needed to keep watch outside. If anyone tried to jump out of the building to escape, they were to kill them immediately. He then began to give everyone their orders. He told them to surround Building 20. He instructed them to keep a close eye on the windows. This was to prevent anyone from jumping out to escape. Then, he entered the building alone. Meanwhile, the people inside the building noticed Victor's movements. Some felt that they could never defeat a monster like Victor. Others believed that since this was their territory, they could easily trap and kill him if he entered. But they didn't realize how dire the situation was. After Victor entered the building, he took out a large pile of flammable materials. He drenched everything in gasoline. He then trailed the gasoline all the way to the exit. He did this because the weather was freezing. Since he considered himself a kind man, he couldn't bear to see them suffer in the cold. He decided to start a fire to warm them up. The flame followed the trail of gasoline, igniting all the flammable materials. Instantly, a massive fire erupted behind Victor. He walked back outside as everyone watched in confusion. He pointed to the building now covered in thick smoke. "Now it's your turn to act." he said. By now, the people upstairs were choking on the thick smoke. The bad news was that the windows were frozen shut and couldn't be opened. But even if they broke the glass, the toxic smoke would still get in. They could only flee in panic. Watching the massive fire, Victor recalled a bonfire party from college. But this fire was much larger and far more reckless. As the fire intensified, some couldn't bear the heat and chose to jump to escape. Only then did those below realize Victor had turned the building into a cage. Those inside could only wait for death or be killed at the exit. As time went by, more and more people jumped. The injured begged for help, but no helping hands reached out. Instead, they met sharp daggers. Even women who once feared killing chickens faced the half-dead enemies and finished them off ruthlessly. Looking at the massive fire, Victor thought the flames were beautiful. He wished he could see this more often. People in other buildings saw this and feared Victor would use the same method to deal with them. They hoped he only targeted his enemies, since they weren't involved, so he would have no reason to come for them. After clearing one building, Victor led his team and marched to the next target. He arrived at building 26. The residents upstairs shouted down, saying their leader, Darius, was already dead. They claimed this had nothing to do with them and told him not to kill innocent people. But Victor knew the people in this building to have survived this long. Everyone had at least 5 lives on their hands. Besides, whether they were good or not didn't change the fact that they all had to die. As time passed, the 5 buildings involved in the sneak attack were all burned down by Victor. Everyone was now in a total state of panic. However, Victor stopped setting fires. He felt that finishing everyone in one night was a bit too exhausting. He decided to put on an act before ending the round. He took out a megaphone and announced to the remaining buildings, "Don't worry, everyone. I, Victor, only settle scores with my enemies. I will never hurt the innocent. Those who are friendly to me won't be targeted. You have nothing to fear." Hearing this, the people finally breathed a sigh of relief. After speaking, Victor told his men they could go home to rest, but they were too obsessed with the fire to leave. To keep the fire from dying down, they even threw the corpses in as fuel. They used the bodies to keep the flames high. Victor walked over to Benny's corpse. He didn't understand. He had treated them well. Why did they betray him in the end? Victor took the phones from their bodies. He checked the chat history. Everything finally made sense. So that was the reason. After burning Building 5, Victor returned to his home. He checked on Arthur's recovery. According to the monitors, Arthur was finally out of danger. This was all thanks to Sarah's medical skills. At that moment, Grace asked Victor for food. She stood aside and demanded something to eat. Victor thought this woman was very greedy, but since she was Arthur's family, he couldn't let her starve. He took a pack of instant noodles from the Dimension Void. Then he and Sarah went back to the room to rest. Grace was not happy with the instant noodles. She was very dissatisfied. She said she saw eggs in the kitchen, and there were even chicken bones in the trash. She complained about only getting noodles. Take it or leave it. Facing Victor's attitude, Grace had no choice but to shut up. After returning to the room, Sarah felt that the house now had another source of trouble. Victor squeezed Sarah's foot and said it wouldn't be a problem. Then he asked about Arthur's condition. Sarah described a strange occurrence that happened during the treatment. Arthur was severely injured, and they had no blood bags to use. She was about to give up on treating him. Victor was curious about how Arthur was eventually saved. Sarah's answer shocked him. His heart rate had almost disappeared, but suddenly his body seemed to undergo a change. His cell activity increased rapidly, and the bleeding decreased significantly. Hearing this, Victor thought of something incredible. He remembered the cause of the Great Frost. The gamma ray burst from space. His own power was a gift from it. If the gamma ray burst affected more people than just him, other humans might have awakened powers too. Arthur's current condition is exactly like Victor's state when he nearly died. He has likely awakened a superpower. Then Victor thought of another issue. Since being near death is a condition for awakening, if the person cannot heal their injuries afterward, they will still die. If Victor hadn't treated Arthur, he definitely would have died. Victor ordered Sarah to give Arthur a daily dose of muscle relaxants or sedatives. He planned to restrict Arthur's movements. Sarah also realized that Arthur might have awakened an ability. Victor confirmed her suspicion. The reason he was doing this is because they have no experience with this. If Arthur wakes up and loses control, he might destroy the entire house. So, he had to take this precaution. He then let Grace take care of Arthur. He told Grace to look after him. Sarah was worried if Grace was reliable, but Victor knew that although she was annoying, she knew that if anything happened to Arthur, Victor would kick her out immediately. He walked out of the room and told Grace to stay with Arthur. This would make it easier to care for him. Just as Victor expected, Grace stopped causing trouble. She obediently went into the room. After settling Arthur, Victor decided to deal with the traitor. Fully armed, he arrived at a door. He used his pistol to force open the lock. The moment the door opened, Crystal lunged at him with a weapon, but her strike hit his riot shield. The impact sent the kitchen knife flying from her hand. Victor entered and saw her dismembered friend. He finally understood how she had survived this long. She was truly a vicious woman. Seeing that Victor was still alive, Crystal cursed and called those men useless. Victor confronted her with all the things she had done. This led to the scene shown at the beginning. Victor was done talking. Considering Crystal's actions, Victor showed no mercy. He decisively let go of her. Crystal plummeted from the building. After flipping twice in the air, she hit the ground and splashed into the snow. The hateful manipulator Crystal was finally dead. Dying like this was far too good for her. The next day, Victor went to check on Arthur's recovery. Sarah told him that Arthur was recovering very well. His healing speed was 10 times faster than a normal person's. If nothing goes wrong, Arthur was about to wake up. The weight on Victor's heart was finally lifted. He asked Sarah to take good care of him and make sure he fully recovered. Meanwhile, Grace still hadn't learned her lesson. She asked Victor to go to her home to get a charger and diapers for the baby. Victor vaguely remembered that people in a coma could still hear voices, so he didn't make things difficult for her yet. Once he finished dealing with the outside matters, he would deal with her. After leaving the room, Victor thought it was finally time to get rid of this annoying woman. He then continued clearing the remaining buildings. By the end of the day, no one left could threaten him. There was no longer a need to continue the purge. Just then, a man noticed Victor. He approached Victor while he was alone. He claimed to have some very important information. This caught Victor's interest, since the entire neighborhood was already under his control. What could possibly be considered important? But the information was truly unexpected. The man mentioned the son of Jiangnan's richest man. Sterling had spent $1 billion to build a doomsday shelter. Victor became very interested. He asked if the man knew the location of the shelter. To avoid being seen, they decided to talk somewhere else. After they reached a safe place, the man explained the details of the intel. Sterling's shelter is actually located in Skyline Manor. His villa there is worth $250 million. Victor interrupted him. He felt the man's explanation was reasonable, but he asked why the man was sharing this news. The man patted his chest firmly. He explained his motive. He wanted to follow Victor and become his subordinate. He wanted them to work together to take down that shelter. Victor laughed out loud. A top-tier shelter is not that easy to take. What the man said next made Victor furious. The man continued his story. He said Sterling had contacted him. Sterling wanted him to lure Victor into a trap. The goal was to steal his supplies and snowmobile, but the man claimed he refused. He said no one there dared to cross Victor. Victor suspected he was being tricked. He pointed his gun at the man's head. "I will shoot you dead right now." Facing the gun, Benny was terrified. Victor pulled the trigger. After the gunshot, Benny fell to his knees. But the bullet didn't hit him. Instead, it struck the wall, just 3 centimeters from his head. To save his life, Benny swore that he was telling the truth. Victor gave him a chance to prove it. He had to prove he wasn't working with Sterling to set a trap for Victor. Benny then described his past experience working for Sterling. Although they were both from wealthy families, due to their family business status, Benny was forced to be Sterling's lackey. He had to be completely submissive, and even had to give up his 8 girlfriends for Sterling's entertainment. Because of this, Sterling made him the laughingstock of Skyline City. Benny was determined to get his revenge. Victor asked him what his plan for cooperation was. Benny said he could act as the middleman with Sterling. He would pretend to lead Victor into a trap to make Sterling open the door. With Victor's power, killing him would be easy. Then, Victor asked about the shelter's security situation and the specific layout of the traps and weapons used for defense. But Benny was no fool. He said that until they agreed on a deal, he wouldn't reveal anything. Victor gave a cold smile. If he had nothing to say, then his life was worthless. Benny quickly explained that the shelter's intel was his only hope for survival. Finally, Victor agreed to work with him, but there were a few conditions that Benny had to follow. First, Benny had to explain every single detail regarding the situation inside the shelter, especially the security systems and the firepower available. Benny said that wasn't a problem. He had toured the shelter after it was built, so he knew the general layout. The second condition was for Benny to help kill someone Victor couldn't personally kill. Benny nodded frantically, saying he would handle it. Victor told him to wait upstairs while he went to get something for him. A moment later, Victor appeared with a briefcase. He then said he would reveal his true identity to Benny. Benny then thought of Victor's perfect marksmanship and his ruthless, cold-blooded nature. Benny guessed Victor was a top soldier or a professional assassin. He was secretly glad, thinking that following Victor would guarantee his survival. But Victor soon shattered his fantasy. Victor took out a syringe. He explained that during his time as a mercenary, for those who were stubborn or had bad intentions, he used this common tool, a slow-acting poison. The effects would only start after a week. Without the antidote, death was certain. If they successfully captured Sterling's shelter together, Victor would give him the antidote. This explains the scene at the beginning, where Victor was seen injecting him. This was the only way to ensure that they were both in the same boat. Finally, Victor signaled for him to head back. Victor watched Benny's trembling back as he walked away. He felt relieved that he hadn't blown his cover. In truth, the poison was a complete fake. Everything he did was to gain better control over Benny. This minimized the risk of Benny lying or betraying him. After dealing with Benny, Victor returned to his safe house. He saw on the monitor that Grace was up to something. She was whispering into the ear of Arthur, who had just woken up. The moment Victor opened the door, Grace quickly moved away from Arthur's ear. She stood aside as if nothing had happened. After Arthur woke up, he asked Victor about the situation outside. Victor told him that for now, he only needed to focus on resting and recovering. With him there, nothing else would be a problem. Grace also expressed her gratitude for Victor's special care of Arthur. She even had the nerve to suggest that Victor should take care of her whole family from now on. Victor readily agreed to her request. Hearing this good news, Grace showed a devious smile of success. She didn't realize this was all part of Victor's plan. Grace then asked Victor to watch the baby, while she went home to get some daily supplies. After dozens of stabs, Grace was finally dead. Benny reported to Victor that the task was complete. Victor smiled upon hearing the news. That annoying woman was finally gone. Next, it was time for Victor to maintain his image. He suggested to Arthur that Grace and the baby should stay at Victor's house. Once Arthur's injuries healed, and the baby was older, they could move back. Arthur felt bad for bothering Victor. He simply thought Victor's supplies were limited. Adding 3 more people would double the amount of coal needed for heat. Arthur was truly too kind. Victor patted his shoulder and told him to rest well. They would worry about the future later. Suddenly, the baby seemed to sense something and burst out crying. With no experience taking care of babies, the 2 men were overwhelmed. Victor could only shove the baby into Sarah's hands. Victor handed the baby to Sarah. It was time for a diaper change. Victor took diapers out from his dimension void. He told her to look after the child for now. He had something more important to do. First, Victor went to Arthur's room. He asked if Arthur felt any changes in his body. Arthur replied that besides feeling weak, his wounds felt itchy, and something felt wrong. Feeling guilty about the sedative injection, Victor wanted to hide the truth. He changed the subject and mentioned Grace was still out. Arthur immediately began to worry. He begged Victor to go check on her. He was terrified that something had happened to her. Victor then told Sarah to take care of Arthur and the baby. He was going out to check the situation. He fully armed himself in his room. He put on a bulletproof vest and grabbed a submachine gun. He even prepared a riot shield. What he was about to do was very dangerous. He posted an announcement in the group chat. He told everyone to gather in room 1301 on the 13th floor. He was going to distribute supplies and decide the division of buildings in Ualu Heights. It would be first come, first served. He then sent a private message to Benny, telling him to stay home if he didn't want to die. Just stay there quietly. A moment later, everyone gathered in the agreed-upon room. They were discussing how to follow Victor and make him provide food and protection. But Victor thought these ideas were just a pipe dream. He mocked them for dreaming even at death's door. Without a word, he threw 2 grenades into the room. Before anyone could react, there was a loud, violent explosion. Victor had prepared a riot shield to avoid the blast. Then, he slowly walked into the room. Inside, there were only bloodstains and severed limbs. Unexpectedly, one person had survived. Looking at Victor with hateful eyes, he asked Victor a question. Why, after they helped him so much, did he still want to kill them? Victor did not agree with him. Victor felt that he was the reason they lived this long. With a few gunshots, he ended the man's life. Victor felt extremely relieved, because all his enemies from his past life were gone, except for Benny. He had dealt with everyone else. Now, only 5 people remained in Building 25. They were Victor, Sarah, Arthur, Grace's son, and Benny. From now on, no one in Ualu Heights could ever threaten him again. Victor planned that after this, his next step was to take Sterling's shelter. Then he would disappear and live a carefree life. Back home, Victor acted sad as he prepared to tell Arthur the bad news about Grace. He lied and said the neighbors, wanting his house and supplies, conspired with people from other buildings. Although he killed the traitors, some managed to escape. Fearing Victor's revenge, they had killed Grace first. Arthur was devastated and full of guilt. He punched the bed in a fit of rage. Victor hurried to comfort him, blaming himself for not noticing sooner. He noticed the deep hole in the bed and realized that Arthur had awakened a strength core. It perfectly complemented his own ability. Then Victor told him he had already dealt with them all to put her soul at peace. Arthur agreed that those people deserved to die. Victor had done so much for everyone, yet they still betrayed him. Victor admitted he was also to blame. He hadn't expected them to be so heartless. Finally, Victor told him to stand up like a man. He promised to find him a beautiful wife later. Arthur blushed and said he preferred someone more mature. Victor put his hand on his shoulder and said it would be easy. He would find someone Arthur was satisfied with. A new love would soon erase his sadness. Just then, Sarah ran out with the baby. The baby wouldn't stop crying, and she was at her wit's end. Victor looked at her chest and joked that the baby was hungry. Sarah playfully punched his chest, telling him not to be ridiculous. She wasn't nursing, so she didn't have any milk. Victor suggested that they weren't suited to raise a child. They needed an experienced person to help. By providing enough baby supplies, they could find the baby a good home. Then he took his gun. Carrying the baby, Victor walked outside in -200 degrees. People in the neighboring building were confused. They wondered if he was there to kill them. Victor fired 2 shots into the air. He shouted for Sterling to come out immediately. After receiving the message, Sterling quickly appeared before him. Seeing how readily he came out, Victor was a bit surprised. He smiled and asked Sterling, "Aren't you afraid I'll kill you?" Although Sterling was scared, he knew fear was useless. He noticed Victor was carrying a baby. Based on Victor's personality, he wouldn't come to kill someone like this. Victor praised his insight and explained his purpose for coming. He was there to give him the baby. Since Sterling's building had the most survivors, Victor would spare them in exchange. He then provided diapers and milk powder. Finally, he gave a stern warning. Since he was the one who delivered the child, If Sterling failed to take good care of her, the consequences would be dire. Sterling promised he would take care of the baby. He would never let anything happen to her. Then, in front of Victor, Sterling handed the baby to a wet nurse. After a moment, Victor asked about the situation in Sterling's building. Since the rebellion, Victor had not provided them with any food. Sterling said 66 people remained in his building. Even without Victor's help, they would find a way to survive. They all believed that there was always a way out. As long as they were alive, there was still hope. Then, Victor gave him a suggestion to solve their problem. He mentioned the people he had burned next door. Their remains could serve as rations for a while. But Sterling did not want to go that far. He believed that once they made a wrong start, their ultimate end would still be destruction. He would rather die with his dignity intact. Victor realized that even in these times, some people still stayed true to themselves. It was truly rare. He genuinely admired Sterling. The two began to complement each other. Sterling felt he was nothing compared to Victor. Even during the apocalypse, Victor had the power to make sure he and his people lived comfortably. Sterling was about to make a request, but Victor immediately stopped him. Sterling wanted Victor to provide food for the entire neighborhood again. There were only about 300 people left now, totaling roughly the same as when it all started. But Victor left without looking back. He felt that everyone must face their own suffering. He was no savior and could not save everyone. Even if he helped them, many would repay kindness with betrayal. Who could guarantee he wouldn't be backstabbed? Finally, Victor waved goodbye. In such a chaotic world, just taking care of oneself is difficult enough. Victor's ultimate goal was simply to live his own life well. To those of you watching this, I wish you all a long and safe life. He gave them many plant seeds as a parting gift. Victor believed that even in the apocalypse, a glimmer of humanity still remained. He told them to try and grow the seeds, so they could feed themselves. They could even eat the seeds if they wanted. It was up to them how to use them, while others doubted they would grow. Professor Grant stepped forward. He took the seeds and carefully tucked them away. He believed that if he could successfully grow them, there might still be hope. They would be able to survive. After hearing Professor Grant's words, Sterling also stepped forward to pick up the seeds. Their chances of surviving the apocalypse improved slightly. Victor returned home after finishing his business. Sarah offered to cook for him. Looking at her curvaceous figure, Victor was in a great mood. He decided to have a deep interaction with her. They both stayed busy until the next day. Benny asked when Victor was coming over, but Victor told him to come to his house instead. Soon, Benny arrived at Victor's warm home. Victor gestured for him to sit and talk. After sitting down, Benny asked for his advice on how to deal with Sterling next. But Victor's next move made him tremble with fear. Victor demanded that Benny hand over his phone. He suspected Benny might be hiding something. Benny looked at him in disbelief. Victor reached out his hand. "That's right. I want to see your chat history with Sterling." Benny was very hesitant and reluctant. Victor immediately pointed a gun at his head. Benny tremblingly handed over his phone. He explained that he had said some bad things about Victor to Sterling, but he claimed it was only a smokescreen. Victor snatched the phone. Based on the chat history, they had been in contact for 2 weeks. There were many complaints about Victor's actions. One message caught Victor's eye. "I can't handle him alone, but together we can." He demanded an explanation for this. Benny immediately swore an oath. He claimed he only said it to deceive Sterling. Victor thought for a moment. In the chat logs, Benny hadn't revealed Victor's identity or abilities. Sterling only knew this place had plenty of supplies and was a base with snowmobiles. Victor could use this information gap to set a trap for them. He then ordered Benny to tell him the details of that shelter, especially the weapons and defenses. Benny revealed that the shelter was made of spacecraft materials. Unless it was hit by a nuclear missile or a long-term heavy assault, there was almost no way to break in from the front. Although there were no heavy weapons inside, it had sleeping gas sprayers. At the entrance, they had also installed 2,000-degree flamethrowers. With such a high level of defense, even a legendary warrior might not escape unharmed. After hearing this, Victor planned his retreat. Sterling's goal is his snowmobile and his supplies. If Sterling can't get those, killing Victor would be pointless. So Victor decided that upon arrival, he would immediately hide the snowmobile. The benefit of doing this is that, even if he is captured, he won't be killed, because Victor's life means nothing to Sterling without the goods. After analyzing Benny's intel, he realized the shelter's biggest threat was the traps in the entrance tunnel. Benny strongly agreed with Victor's plan. He suggested pretending to work with Sterling, while Victor pretends to be captured. Then Victor proposed a safer method. He could pretend to be knocked out by the gas. Once they pass the traps, he and Benny will strike from both sides. Benny began to flatter Victor's genius. "Once we're there, you pretend to be caught. Then I'll find a chance to stab him. I'll kill him." Despite this plan, Victor remembered he had a gas mask. Victor decided not to let Benny know yet. One can't be too careful with others. His talk with Benny gave him inspiration to handle the fire and gas threats. An idea flashed through his mind. He realized he could use the Dimension Void in actual combat. If he could unlock its potential, the results would be incredible. He dismissed Benny, wanting to develop his power alone. He first considered how to use his ability to block Sterling's shelter attacks. He lit a fire to simulate gas and high-temperature flame attacks. Very easily, He absorbed the fire into the dimension void. What happened next was even more amazing. Everything in the dimension void is in a state of absolute stillness. By summoning the objects back out, he could send an incoming attack back the way it came. This was the absolute reflection he envisioned. He succeeded on his first attempt. Victor jumped up in excitement. Using the dimension void this way was the ultimate defensive skill. Now he only needs to master this skill. Then any long-range attack will be useless against him. But then he had an even bolder idea. If he used this ability on a person, what would the effect be? He decided to find a living person to experiment on. He found an unlucky man and tossed him a weapon. Victor told him if he could hit him once, he would get a piece of bread. Although the man was terrified, Victor's offer was too tempting. He braced himself and attacked. As the ability activated, the weapon was first sucked into the dimension void. The man tried to run, but it was already too late. Victor sucked his entire body inside the dimension void. Victor observed the man's state and deduced that once a person enters the dimension void, they fall into a state of complete suspension. Even their breathing and heartbeat stop. Victor then released him. The man gasped for air as he came out. It seems if they stay inside too long, anyone inside will surely die. Victor asked him how he felt. The man said he felt like he entered a vast world of pure white. There were mountains of supplies inside. He felt like he had been there for a century. Victor suddenly realized the truth. Time in the dimension void is countless times slower than the outside world. The longer a living being stays inside, the higher the risk of a mental breakdown. A terrifying thought crossed his mind. He suddenly pulled out a knife. In an instant, he sliced off two of the man's fingers. He wanted to test if he could store severed living parts. As the fingers were absorbed, he found there was no problem storing them. This puzzled him even more. Victor told him to treat his wound, then ordered him to throw things at him. After several more attempts, he finally got the data he needed. There is a range limit for collecting items. He cannot collect objects under strong external force. It also remains ineffective against living humans. His ability can open a portal, connecting reality and the dimension void, while absorbing incoming attacks. He can also reflect them back by adjusting the direction. Now that I understand my ability, the next step is to deal with Sterling's shelter. The man who helped him practice was still eating the food Victor gave him. Victor walked over to him. He thanked him for the cooperation. He expressed his gratitude for the help. But in the next second, a sharp blade slashed across his throat. The man collapsed before he could react. In Victor's eyes, he no longer had any value. But before he died, a smile appeared on his face. In this cruel world, death is a form of release. Victor planned to find more people over the next few days for combat simulations. He wanted to be fully prepared for the final assault. 3 days later, Victor told Benny it was time to go to Sterling's place. Even though Benny had good food and shelter, he looked like he was about to die. Victor realized it was caused by the psychological suggestion he gave him. He offered to first give Benny an antidote shot. This would ease his symptoms. Hearing this, he immediately rolled up his sleeves. He urged Victor to give him the shot quickly. Victor lied to him again, saying the antidote only lasts for 5 days. After 5 days, he would still die from the poison. He told Benny he better pray that this mission succeeds. Otherwise, things won't end well for either of them. Benny told him to rest assured. He wouldn't joke with his own life. From now on, he was fully committed to following Victor. Victor kissed Sarah and then left the house. Sarah was left behind, blushing at the memory. Outside, he and Benny prepared to set off. But before leaving, Victor tied Benny's hands together. This would make Victor feel more secure. And when they met Sterling, being tied up would look more believable. Then, the two drove toward their destination. Soon, they arrived at Skyline Manor, facing the river, and backed by a mountain. Even the feng shui was masterfully planned. Compared to other villa districts, this place was on a whole different level of luxury. As Victor stepped onto the snow, he noticed that due to the terrain, this area was a natural shelter from the blizzard. The snow here is much shallower than in other places. It seems even in the face of the apocalypse, the rich are still favored by fate. Benny kept trying to flatter him. Victor told him to stop and just lead the way. The two of them walked toward the villas. Everything they did was being watched from a nearby building. A red-haired woman was inside. After seeing Victor's snowmobile, she assumed he must have plenty of food. Her own supplies had completely run out 3 days ago. She could only pin her hopes on this outsider. She seemed to be planning something. Meanwhile, the two arrived at the shelter entrance. Victor pointed his gun at Benny's head and ordered him to open the door. Benny approached the gate. He prepared to open it. Through the security camera, their images appeared on the monitor inside. Sterling grew suspicious when he saw them. They were supposed to meet tomorrow. Coming a day early meant they were definitely up to no good. Plus, he didn't see the snowmobile anywhere. After a few minutes of stalling, Benny still hadn't opened the door. Victor warned him not to play any tricks, or he would just shoot him dead. Benny desperately pleaded for help toward the camera. He told Sterling they had worked too hard to let everything go to waste now. Sterling listened and pressed the button to open the door. He thought that if Victor tried any tricks, he would roast them like suckling pigs. The door slowly opened. The two of them walked inside one after the other. Once inside, Victor saw the luxurious decor. He thought being rich really allowed one to do anything. Benny pointed to the door ahead. He told Victor that once it opened, they would be inside the shelter. When they reached the middle of the corridor, Sterling knew the fish had taken the bait. He activated a trap in the hallway. Hundreds of small holes opened in the ceiling. Hundreds of small holes opened in the ceiling. Before they realized what was happening, from the holes in the ceiling, white gas came spraying out. Both were instantly engulfed in the gas. However, Victor did not pass out. He had secretly put on a gas mask. Sterling, watching the monitors, didn't know this. He only heard the arguing through the gas. After hearing 2 gunshots, he naively thought the people inside were dead. He then opened the security door. Victor had tricked everyone and was planning his move. He intended to shoot Sterling the moment he walked out. Surprisingly, the person who walked out wasn't Sterling. Victor had to stay on the ground and play dead. A strange man walked up to them. Victor recognized him from the corner of his eye. It was the movie star, Vance. Rumor said he and Sterling were close friends. Vance threw them over his shoulders and carried them away. They were brought inside the house. Vance was feeling very smug. He thought it was effortless to deal with them. He tied their hands and feet while talking. Sterling bragged about his billion-dollar safe house. He said it was more than enough to handle 2 poor losers. Then, the 2 prepared to go back outside. They wanted to find the snowmobile Victor used. But Victor was already awake. He secretly used his dimensional void to release the gas he had just absorbed. After inhaling the gas, the 2 men began to feel dizzy. A moment later, Vance also passed out. Victor cut the ropes on his hands. He stood before them with his hands on his hips. Taking you down really was effortless. He casually tied the 2 of them up. Then he took their golden pistols. Next, he opened the living room door. After entering the living room, Victor was shocked once again by the luxury. He felt like a country bumpkin in the big city. He wandered around the room. Then he discovered a strange door. The sight behind the door made Victor's jaw drop. As expected of a billion-dollar shelter, the room was filled with growing crops. It was a miniature ecosystem. What a great place. But from now on, it belongs to me. The pet room didn't have cats or dogs. Instead, it was full of women in revealing clothes. This was, after all, a billion-dollar doomsday shelter. Seeing the clothes scattered on the floor and drug syringes everywhere, a woman mistook Victor for her master. She grabbed his leg and begged for more drugs. Looking at her delirious expression, Victor kicked her away. He finally understood what was going on here. These women were all Sterling's kept playthings. He used drugs to control them. Their ultimate fate was the same as the corpse in the next room. They would all be played with until they died. Victor then fired 3 shots, ending their suffering early. A moment later, he arrived at the security room. Seeing the dense array of machines, he deduced that this must be the core of the entire shelter. However, the countless, unfamiliar buttons left him completely confused. He wished he were a computer engineer. Through the monitors, he discovered an underground sports facility in the shelter. This place was perfect for a shooting range. To test his powers later, he continued to explore the shelter. The facilities truly had everything. Game rooms, pet rooms, and even waterbed rooms. But he soon encountered a new problem. He found that many doors required identity authentication. He could not open them on his own. After several attempts, he realized that to learn how to operate the entire shelter, he had to ask the owner, Sterling. Victor splashes water on their faces. The freezing water wakes them both up. Sterling is confused after waking up. He wonders how Victor managed to tie him up in his own home. Victor simply smiles. He says that to survive the apocalypse, one must have some special skills. He points the gun at Sterling's head. He wants to discuss something else. He tells Sterling to think carefully about how to cooperate with him. This is the only way for Sterling to save his own life. Victor reveals his true goal. He says he only wants a safe place to survive. He tells Sterling the shelter is huge, so one more person won't matter. Sterling asks him repeatedly if he only wants to move in and doesn't want to kill him to take over the shelter. Victor says he doesn't kill people without a reason. He even wants to become friends. He believes the blizzard will not last very long. Once the disaster ends, society will return to its former order. For a commoner like him, if he is lucky enough to befriend a billionaire like Sterling, then with Sterling's future support, Victor can rise to the top of society. After Sterling heard Victor's real goal, he promised to make Victor a powerful man. He naively believed this was his life-saving charm. He then asked Victor what he wanted from the house. Victor said he didn't want much. He only wanted Sterling to hand over the manual for the shelter system. Sterling felt a surge of tension. He asked if he handed over the instruction manual, could Victor guarantee their lives? Victor's answer reassured Sterling once again. He said he doesn't kill innocent people. Furthermore, after the blizzard, Victor still hopes to be good friends with him. Sterling decided to take a gamble and agreed to his request. The two then went into the control room. Victor finally obtained the manual. Then, right in front of Sterling, he declared that from now on, Victor is the official owner of this shelter. Since he got what he wanted, Sterling asked Victor to untie him. Victor told him to wait a moment. Then, he took out a small knife. He plunged the knife into Sterling's throat. He slowly sliced the blade to the right. You might feel a bit dizzy at first, Victor said, but that is perfectly normal. Soon, you won't feel any more pain. Sterling could no longer speak a word, but his heart was full of confusion. He had done everything Victor asked. Why did Victor still kill him? Victor seemed to read his mind. He answered the dying man's question. I'm sorry, but I have no reason to keep a worthless piece of trash like you. Don't you agree? To ensure his future comfort, Victor began cleaning the blood off the floor. He looked at the unconscious Benny. Killing him now would be incredibly easy. However, Victor chose not to. A moment later, Benny woke up. He saw Victor cleaning the bloodstains. He realized Victor had successfully taken the shelter. Looking at Sterling's body, Benny's respect for Victor reached a new peak. He began stomping on the corpse frantically. He was venting years of suppressed resentment. Just then, Victor points to a backpack nearby. He says it is a reward for him. He tells Benny to open it and see. After opening the bag, it is packed full of food. While eating a chicken leg, Benny says he will follow Victor from now on. But things are not as he imagined. Victor says he has checked the shelter's remaining supplies. Except for the canned food Sterling left behind, nothing else remains. Moreover, the energy to keep the shelter running will only last for 5 years. Therefore, Victor cannot give him much. Benny looks panicked. He seems to understand the hidden meaning. Victor gets straight to the point. He tells Benny to take Sterling's leftovers and survive on his own outside for a while. Benny thinks Victor must be keeping the good stuff for himself. And now Victor wants to kick him out. He stands up abruptly. He sternly condemns Victor. He kicks away the food Victor prepared. He kicks the bag of food aside in anger. He refuses to leave, saying the info about the shelter was provided by him. Now Victor wants to kick him out? Not a chance. Then, he begins to threaten Victor. If Victor dares to betray him, he will expose that Victor occupied this place and reveal his secret superpowers. He wants others to come and kill Victor. Victor's face darkens upon hearing this. Without a word, he pulls out a pistol and shoots Benny several times in the heart. Benny dies in extreme pain. I planned to let you live a bit longer, but why did you have to seek death? Next, Victor begins to consider his plan. He intends to return to his original home, to bring Sarah here for some private time. Since he cannot put his old safe house into the dimension void to take with him, he decides to keep it as a backup base. He will give the house to Arthur and let him live inside. This way, he repays Arthur's kindness and has someone to guard the location. It is a win-win situation. As for his promise to Arthur about finding him a new partner, there is no need to rush. He pours a glass of 1982 vintage wine. He turns on the TV and finds he can actually watch foreign channels. It is well known that the blizzard blocks signals. Even mobile phones have very limited reception range. But here he can watch TV programs from all over the world. He soon found the answer. Sterling had set up a series of servers in his home. Although the technology is unclear, Victor judged based on the signal strength he received. The network system in this shelter is incredibly powerful. Its signal transmission capacity even reaches a global level. This means Victor can use the network to access information from around the world. Then, he checked the global situation after the freeze. What he found was shocking. Under the impact of the blizzard, the global population has dropped from 8.5 billion to around 2 billion. If this continues, only 1 million people might remain. Not only that, he also found reports about mutants. Aside from the few who gained powers, most were affected by the gamma ray burst. The radiation caused physical deformities and twisted them beyond recognition. He realized that although globally, the number of mutants isn't very large, but there are definitely others hiding their powers just like him. This confirms that the outside world is extremely dangerous. So he decided to stay in this shelter and focus on growing his strength in secret. After assessing the situation, he prepared to go back to the safe house to get Sarah. Just as he was about to leave, someone called out to stop him. Being naturally cautious, Victor pulled out his pistol. But the person standing before him was a woman with red hair. Victor recognized her immediately. Melody was one of the biggest superstars in the country in recent years. She was the dream woman of countless men. She told him that she hadn't eaten for 3 days. She just wanted Victor to take her with him. But Victor demanded a good reason to help her. Her reason was very simple. As long as she could get some food, she would agree to any of Victor's conditions. No man could refuse such a beautiful woman. And Victor was no exception. He was instantly captivated by Melody. He allowed her to follow him, and the two arrived at the shelter entrance. Melody was still feeling confused. As far as she knew, this was Sterling's shelter. Moments later, they entered the house. Melody then asked about his relationship with Sterling. Victor asked her instead if she was close with Sterling. He was curious about their connection. Melody replied that although he was rich, they only saw each other at public events. Most of the time, he didn't take celebrities like her seriously. Victor told her not to worry about Sterling anymore. She only needed to remember that he was the owner of this place now. He then handed her a cup of hot water. They toasted, reaching a silent agreement. Then Melody asked to use the bathroom for a shower. Victor gestured for her to go ahead. In the bathroom, she took off her clothes. She finally took a long-awaited hot shower. She felt lucky about the decision she made when she first met Victor. She thought that for a man like him, even staying with him for a long time would be worth it. She felt glad about her choice. To stay there, she was willing to do anything for him. She realized that to stay, she needed to show her resolve. She thought of it as just a transaction. She needed protection, food, and a comfortable place to live. Once the blizzard was over, she would cut ties with Victor immediately. As long as no one found out, she would still be a famous star. She then made her request to Victor. Victor, can you let me stay here? A weak woman like me, in such a harsh environment, can hardly survive alone. I need a man to protect me. She told Victor not to worry. She would leave after the blizzard ended. No one else would ever know. Victor pulled his hand back. He said meaningfully, "Leave after the blizzard?" He felt Melody was being too naive. Even if the blizzard ended, the world would never be the same. But Melody stubbornly believed things would return to normal. If not, all her years of hard work would be wasted. Her words were full of resentment. Victor stopped arguing after hearing this. This saved him a lot of trouble. He finally agreed to let Melody stay. Then he pulled her into his arms. He stated that in his house, she must obey his every word. Melody nodded obediently. Victor then let his instincts take over. The two of them shared an intimate moment, such as life. Since she couldn't resist, she decided to enjoy it. Afterward, Victor reached into the dimension void. He took out new clothes for her to wear. He told her it was just a little trick. Melody blushed deeply. She held his hand and asked him not to leave. Victor asked if she hadn't had enough yet. Melody waved her hands to deny it. She only had some serious matters to discuss. He suggested going to the dining room. After she sat down, Victor waved his hand. A massive feast appeared on the table. He said his house was quite large. It could fit another woman, but she had to be obedient. "You're smart, so you know what I mean." Melody's face turned bright red. She was all too familiar with this. In the entertainment industry, it's known as the unspoken rules. Melody agreed to Victor's request, but she also set her own conditions. First, their relationship would only last during the blizzard. If they ever parted ways, he must not reveal what happened between them. She was a public figure. If people found out, she would have to leave show business forever. Victor readily agreed. He promised not to say a word. Second, he couldn't force her to do things she didn't want to or make strange demands. Without her consent, Victor grabbed her by the waist. He reminded her that she was the one who had come to him first, so she shouldn't look so victimized, even if they were just using each other. She was a famous star. He hoped her acting would stay top-notch. That way, he would be more satisfied, and it would be better for Melody as well. Victor lifted her onto the table. He told her that he didn't have any strange hobbies. She could rest easy. The next day, Victor decided to go out. He was going out to bring someone back to live with them. Before leaving, he asked Melody if this place was home to many wealthy people and stars. She confirmed that it was. This was Skyline City's most elite neighborhood. Everyone living nearby was worth billions. Then Victor made a request. He asked Melody to introduce him to some of her friends. He said he had a friend who had recently been heartbroken by a bad woman. His friend needed comfort from the opposite sex. Melody said that in the elite district, very few people had died yet. There were still several noble ladies around. She asked if his friend would mind their status. Victor said he wouldn't mind at all. The more mature they were, the better. Then she mentioned Sarah's name. Victor was in disbelief. Sarah was a national star. She was a childhood goddess to countless people. He suggested that if she could be reached, he wanted to talk with her. Melody made the call. Victor was overjoyed. He had found the best possible partner for Arthur. Soon, Melody brought Sarah to the shelter. As expected of a star, her face and figure were top tier. Victor offered her some food. Victor confirmed with her if she knew what to do next. She replied while eating bread, saying she knew Victor found her a new home. He was very satisfied. They were indeed smart people, but he had only one requirement. If he found out that anyone leaked information about this place, she would no longer need to live. Then he took Sarah and left. Meanwhile, in Sioux Town, a group of people were planning something. The man in front tapped on the snow and signaled the others to dig. They brought over a massive ground drill. After fixing it in place, they made the dogs pull the drill and run. As the rope was pulled, the drill spun like a top into the ground. Soon, the thick ice was broken. Many fish floated to the surface. It turned out they were ice fishing. A young man approached to chat. "Uncle, it is so cold. Do you think the city people have all frozen to death?" The uncle said people in the city were all spoiled and soft. They usually relied on others for everything. Those city people used to rely on us farmers. Now they probably can't even get a full meal. Most of them are likely dead by now. But we are different. As villagers, no matter how harsh the weather is, we have food stored at home. We have the strength to work, so we aren't afraid of dying. The only problem is that this cold is terrifying. We don't know when it will end. Just then, the roar of an engine caught his attention. He saw Victor speeding through the snow on a snowmobile. Sarah noticed that dogs were chasing them from behind. Victor was surprised that some people had adapted to this extreme cold. He knew these people were after his snowmobile, and a chase began. He tried to flee while they pursued. There was nowhere to escape. One man raised a trident and threw it, nearly hitting Victor. Victor made a sharp turn, accidentally throwing Sarah off the back of the bike. The villager demanded that he leave the vehicle and the woman behind. Victor also raised his pistol. He signaled that he was just passing through and didn't want trouble. He warned them not to seek their own deaths. One man asked where he got the bike and the gun. Victor replied that they were family heirlooms. At this moment, his snowmobile and the well-maintained starlet became prizes in their eyes. They offered Victor a deal. To pass through, he had to pay a toll. He had to leave the vehicle and the woman behind. Victor asked them if they could not see the gun in his hand. They said they were not afraid, because they had 4 men and 8 dogs. They asked if he had enough bullets, if he left the woman and the bike. They would let him live. Victor glanced back at Sarah. If this dragged on, their reinforcements would arrive soon. Even if he could escape alone, Sarah would be torn apart by the wild dogs. He decided to fight back. While they lowered their guard, Victor pulled out another pistol. He opened fire on them. Someone immediately fell to the ground. The dogs also attacked Victor. This was exactly what Victor wanted. He raised his hand and activated the dimensional gate. All the dogs attacking him were sucked into the dimension void. Then he picked up Sarah. He revved the engine and sped away. The enemies were quickly left behind. He wanted to take this chance. Since those dogs were now in the dimension void, they would soon die from lack of oxygen. He could use them as test subjects to observe the time flow in the dimension void. Meanwhile, Second Uncle arrived at the scene. He saw his men had been shot dead. Even stranger, the dogs were missing. They realized that Victor was no ordinary person. Second Uncle said that regardless of the reason, killing people from East Sioux Village could not be ignored. He decided to ask the village chief to make a decision. Their village also had a mutant. In a room full of figurines on the back mountain, someone was hugging an anime girl body pillow while sleeping. He was drooling and calling out to his wife. The village chief and a group of men burst in. Looking at the room full of anime posters and figures, the village chief looked at the sleeping Dante with total disdain. He said, they introduced many pretty girls to Dante, but he didn't like any of them. Dante said he had no interest in 3D women. A moment later, they sat down to discuss business. Second Uncle explained how they went fishing, and 4 young men were killed. He told them everything in detail. Dante was confused by the deaths. All the surrounding villages had already been forced into submission. Then he received an answer. The killer wasn't from Sioux Town. He was from the other side of the river. The village chief said the man was too powerful. 4 men and 8 dogs were taken out by him in an instant. He feared the man would eventually threaten the safety of their village. He then asked Dante if that man was like him, possessing unusual powers. Dante confirmed it. He rubbed his nose and said, even though I am the only chosen one, to make me even stronger, fate has sent me a destined rival. His delusional speech made everyone present feel extremely embarrassed and awkward. The village chief then said, our people have been bullied. They have to fight back. They must make him pay in blood no matter what. Then he patted Dante on the shoulder. Since this enemy is hard to handle, they can only rely on him. He must not let them down. Dante awkwardly agreed. After several hours of driving, Victor returned to his apartment complex. He signaled Sarah to go upstairs with him. The person he wanted her to meet was upstairs. Sarah understood the situation clearly. In this world, there are not many choices. One simply has to make do. Back at the safe house, Sarah came out to welcome him home. She helped him take off his coat and asked if he was thirsty. She offered him some warm water and asked if he was hungry. She offered to cook some noodles for him. Victor told Sarah to take a seat first. Seeing this, Sarah asked if he liked mature women now. Victor explained she was brought here to care for Arthur. However, regarding the comment about mature women, she wasn't exactly wrong. He then asked about Arthur's condition. Sarah replied that his body had mostly recovered. It was truly incredible. Under normal circumstances, recovery would take at least 3 months. Plus, the muscle relaxants she used were barely able to restrain his strength. Victor felt this confirmed his suspicions. Arthur likely had a physical enhancement ability. He then asked if Arthur's mental state was normal. He had seen online that some people mutated after gaining powers. If that were the case, it would be dangerous. Fortunately, Sarah told him that Arthur seemed completely normal, just like his usual self. Victor decided to talk to him personally. Upon meeting Arthur, he explained everything that happened. At the shelter, Arthur felt lucky to have such a great friend, which was the only reason he was still alive. Victor then got straight to the point. He asked Arthur if he had noticed any changes in his body recently. Arthur pulled up his shirt, revealing 18-pack abs. He said he could feel a clear difference, despite the serious gunshot wounds. His injuries had fully healed in just a few days. Additionally, his strength had significantly increased. Victor looks at Arthur's powerful hands. He marvels at Arthur's incredible strength. But Arthur feels like a monster. Victor comforts him. He tells him not to worry. He explains that Arthur has awakened a powerful ability. He explains the concept using the theory of evolution. Finally, Victor demonstrates his own power. He pulls some food out of the dimension void. Arthur is shocked to see this. No wonder Victor always seemed to have everything, because he is so excited. Arthur lightly taps the bed. The bed breaks instantly. He falls right onto the floor. Victor tells him to take his time to adjust. He wants Arthur to become as strong as possible. Given their friendship, having an awakened ally provides an extra layer of security. Then, Victor tells Arthur more good news. He has brought Arthur a new wife. Sarah and her sister are busy doing chores. Arthur is in complete disbelief. He stares at the woman in front of him. He wonders if it is really the real Sarah. Hello, are you Mr. Arthur? Arthur nods his head frantically. Victor steps in to break the awkward silence between them. Victor breaks the silence and says they are now officially introduced. From now on, they will live their lives together. He tells them to look after one another. They should help each other solve any problems. Victor also tells them that this house will be their wedding home. He and Sarah will move out for now. He doesn't want to disturb their privacy because the house is so valuable. Arthur tries to refuse the gift, but Victor says he has already found a new place. It would be a waste to leave this house empty. It is perfect for Arthur to stay and watch the house for him. He then tells Sarah to pack her things. He will take her to their new home soon. After they finish packing, Victor gives his snowmobile to Arthur. This will make it easier for them to go out and find food. Arthur waves his hands in refusal. It is too much. Victor has given them too much. He worries about what Victor will use instead. Victor says he will just use whatever is available. Then, from his dimension void, he pulls out a four-wheeled snow pickup truck. Everyone present is stunned by this. Only one thought is in their minds. You call this whatever? While driving to the new shelter, an expectant Sarah asks a question. Victor, is our new home beautiful? Victor says it is huge and beautiful. It is much more comfortable than their old house. Much more comfortable than their old house. After hearing this, Sarah understands. She understands why he was so generous. To give the safe house he spent so much effort on. To give the safe house he spent so much effort on. Away to Arthur. Victor corrects her thinking. The safe house is only a temporary loan to him. If they ever need it one day, he will take it back. He also informs Sarah that there is another woman in the new home. He tells her now so she can be prepared. So she can be mentally prepared. Sarah becomes jealous after hearing this. Did you keep her there on purpose? Victor tells her not to overthink it. He is just worried about her. He is worried she will be too busy with daily chores. He found someone to help share her workload. He points out that Sarah was the first person who chose to stand by his side. She is absolutely irreplaceable in his heart. What a smooth talker. Sarah falls for his words. She blushes and leans on Victor's shoulder. I knew you liked me. Victor shows a satisfied smile. It's good that she understands. After all, it's mutual. I don't need a disobedient woman. Suddenly, Sarah notices the snow is getting heavier. The snowfall intensifies in an instant. A blizzard rushes toward them. Victor realizes this snow isn't normal. The blizzard strikes the moving car. He activates his dimension void to resolve the crisis. He uses his power to neutralize the danger. He tells Sarah to hold on tight. This is clearly not a simple snowstorm. A massive tornado appears behind the car. Victor realizes this isn't a natural disaster. It is an attack from a mutant. The good news is, his ability is absolute defense. As long as he doesn't panic, the enemy has no way to kill him. He then deduces something. The enemy's attacks are extremely precise, but every single attack is completely absorbed by Victor's dimension void. This sight leaves the mastermind, Dante, completely baffled. Using abilities consumes a lot of stamina. Dante is clearly starting to feel exhausted. One thing is now certain. Victor is also a mutant. After a few rounds of testing, Dante still hasn't figured out Victor's ability. He decides to retreat for now. Victor notices the attacks have stopped. He deduces that the previous attack was a massive drain on Dante's energy. Victor puts on his thermal goggles. Now it is his turn to counterattack. Using the thermal vision, Victor locates the three men. He steps out of the car, aiming at the distant snowbank. He fires a rapid burst. One of the enemies is hit and falls. With his last breath, he tells the others not to save him. He warns them that Victor has an assault rifle. How can he hit a target from so far in this heavy snow? Because the distance was so great, the power of the shot was weakened. Victor then releases the attack he just absorbed. Dante recognizes the familiar move. Though confused, he counters with the same move. He uses his own technique to fight back. The two forces clash against each other. Finally, they both dissolve into melted snow. Victor shouts to the distant enemies, I will let you go this time. It is safer not to pursue a desperate foe. Besides, that area is the villager's territory. Anything could happen if he goes deeper. Besides, Sarah is still in the car. He cannot risk going too far. Finally, he leaves them with a warning. If you have the guts, come find me for revenge. Otherwise, next time, it will be on my home turf. After Victor returns to the new shelter, he decides to introduce Sarah to Melody. Based on the order of arrival, Melody has to call her sister. He tells Melody to get dressed and come see him. As a top star, Melody is reluctant to live with another woman, but she refuses to back down. A woman's charm is her best weapon. The battle has just begun. She begins to apply her makeup carefully. When Victor goes downstairs, he sees Sarah is also quietly doing her makeup. The two women are secretly competing. A moment later, Melody slowly walks down the stairs. She looks glamorous and stunning, but when they see each other, they realize they are acquaintances. Sarah excitedly walks toward them. You two know each other? She is my cousin. It turns out they are more than just friends. Judging by their expressions, there is some tension between them. Melody whispers into Victor's ear. She asks him not to mention their secret deal to Sarah. Victor asks for clarification. Melody blushes and explains. She is referring to their private transaction. She then explains her relationship with Sarah. It turns out her mother is Sarah's aunt. Both families come from a prestigious scholarly background. Their relatives are successful in many fields, especially in medicine. Sarah points out that, because Melody joined the entertainment industry, many elites in the imperial city have been mocking their family. They believe she disgraced herself for fame, which brought shame to their name. Sarah was also frequently teased for having an actress as a cousin. All of this is why she is so angry. Melody says she truly enjoys acting. She loves being the center of attention. She believes she has done nothing wrong. Sarah says just one thing. That leaves Melody speechless. She points out that Melody only became famous for her body. Why she became popular is very obvious to everyone. Victor listens and thinks Sarah has a point. Victor steps in to stop their argument. He tells them there are no high-class ladies here, and no top celebrities. They are simply neighbors surviving a disaster together. He takes them to the greenhouse and tells them to manage the garden and crops. The two women stop bickering and agree to Victor's instructions. He tells Sarah to go upstairs and tidy the bedrooms. Melody then approaches Victor. She thanks him for not revealing their secret relationship. She feels guilty towards Sarah, so she asks Victor to keep Sarah from finding out about them. Victor places his finger on Melody's lips to signal her to stop talking. He says he will respect her wishes. However, he thinks to himself that with only 3 people in the large shelter, keeping it a secret will be very difficult. Melody then offers to cook a meal for Victor. Victor is surprised she knows how to cook. She says that although she is a star, she is not useless in daily life. She likes to cook to relieve stress when she is bored. When she enters the kitchen, she finds that there are no ingredients. Suddenly, Victor leans in and whispers into her ear. This action makes Melody step back in surprise. This is the kitchen, not the bedroom. Victor says he was only teasing her. Then he raises his hand. He takes a pile of ingredients from the dimension void. Melody is stunned by the sight. There are all kinds of delicacies. Victor says they will always eat like this from now on. He gives her a playful pat on her backside. He tells her to get to work. He tells her not to worry about wasting food. Soon, Melody prepares a table full of food. Victor brings Sarah downstairs to eat. But Melody is still worried. She wonders if Sarah noticed what happened earlier. Sarah takes a small bite of the food. She complains that the food is too salty. Melody remembers being startled by Victor. She really couldn't control the seasoning. Both women eat in awkward silence. Victor thinks this is a good situation. As long as the cousins are not united, he can benefit from their rivalry. He picks up some food for Sarah. Sarah opens her mouth to accept Victor's care. She says in a spoiled tone, "It tastes much better when you feed me." She gives Melody a triumphant look. Melody sees this and gets upset. She turns her head away and continues eating. As expected, competing for a position is the best way to motivate employees. As night falls, Sarah and Victor prepare for bed. Before sleeping, she asks Victor a question. Between her and Melody, who is better? The answer he gives is definitely her. Then Victor pinches her cheek. He says he and Melody are just putting on an act. He kisses her forehead and tells her not to overthink. He tells her not to doubt her place in his heart. Touched, Sarah hugs Victor tightly. "I knew you loved me the most." But Victor doesn't think so. To him, love is useless. Everyone is just taking what they need. This thing called love is nothing more than a disease of irrationality. But is that really the case? A few days after Victor moved into the new shelter, he is practicing archery. As an arrow hits the bullseye, his phone rings. When Victor sees the call, he finds it very strange. Could an acquaintance still be alive? But he still hangs up the phone decisively. Even if it is a friend, he has no intention of helping. He then blocks the number. Then, something strange happens. The number he just blocked calls him once again. Because it is so eerie, he feels he must not answer. Victor thinks he made a mistake and failed to block it properly. He blocks the number a second time. However, the phone rings again. This time, it is even more bizarre. The call actually connects by itself. A man's voice comes from the other end. "Why won't you answer my calls?" Victor realizes that if the caller is a hacker, they could easily do this. He finally responds to the caller. "Who are you?" But the caller immediately recites Victor's personal information. Victor, from Golden Bay District, Skyline City. Resident of Building 25, Ualu Heights. Room 2401. Born in the year 2025. 25 years old this year. Victor is certain he is dealing with a top-tier hacker. Indeed, the caller knows much more than that. He knows Victor is now living in room 101, Skyline Manor. That house belongs to Sterling. The caller asks if Victor has already killed him. "Who are you? And what is your purpose for finding me?" Surprisingly, the caller reveals he is Victor's neighbor. He also lives in Skyline Manor. He warns Victor not to get any clever ideas. Otherwise, he can expose him at any time. He threatens to leak Victor's information. He demands that Victor provide him with supplies. Victor argues that he isn't anyone important. It wouldn't matter much if his info was leaked. If the caller isn't afraid of death, then he should go ahead and leak it. But unexpectedly, the caller uses the theft at the South City Warehouse District to blackmail Victor. Victor's heart skips a beat when he hears this. How could he possibly know about that? Victor still tries to play dumb. "What are you talking about? That warehouse theft was massive. The supplies of an entire giant warehouse were lost. You don't think a lowly supervisor like me did it, do you?" But the caller is no fool. He says that in such a large warehouse, even if Victor only stole one shelf of goods, it would be enough to last him a year. He insists that even if Victor isn't the mastermind, Victor must have a massive amount of supplies in his hands right now. Finally, he reveals his identity. He asks Victor, "Sterling, you've heard of this name, right?" Victor was in disbelief. The tycoon of the country's top IT group was actually his neighbor, Sterling. Just then, he thought of a much more serious problem. If Sterling could control his phone, and the entire shelter is controlled by a supercomputer, could it have been hacked already? After Victor calmed down, he dismissed this idea. Since Sterling is also trapped here, he lacks the necessary equipment to breach the shelter's server room. If he had actually succeeded, he wouldn't just be making a phone call to show off. Once his thoughts were clear, Victor decided to continue playing dumb. He expressed admiration for Sterling hacking his phone. Sterling sounded very proud on the other end. He said he only did it to survive. Then, he mentioned Victor's current supply situation. Since Victor can support 2 women, supporting 1 more man shouldn't be a problem. If Victor agrees to his demands, he will keep Victor's secret. He even offered to maintain Victor's network security, so that he would never be hacked again. Victor smiled after hearing this. He said he was just a small supervisor. He didn't have that much power. Sterling said through Victor's phone network. He had obtained a lot of intel on him. He was certain that Victor had the supplies stolen from the warehouse. Victor thought to himself that he must kill him. He asked Victor to confirm if he would agree to the demands. Victor knew clearly that this guy could spread the news. If left alone, the consequences would be unpredictable. If those hiding in the apocalypse knew about the supplies he held, or even his space-type ability, then there would be big trouble. Finally, he decided to provide some supplies. The condition was that he must not leak a word. If he had any bad intentions, Victor would definitely kill him. Sterling told him not to worry. This secret will stay strictly between the 2 of them. Then he gave Victor a list of supplies. He told him to prepare them and deliver them to the door of Villa 302. He warned Victor not to play tricks, or he would suffer the consequences. After hanging up, Victor thought that Sterling must die. There was no other option. He then went to find Sarah. He took the cup from her hand and finished the water. He told her he had something to discuss. Sarah immediately leaned in. Victor said, "This is the situation. Someone has discovered our location." Sarah pointed out that this person was very smart, but had no morals. Victor wanted to kill him, but feared he might have a backup plan. If he lived, he would blackmail Victor forever. Sarah knew that if the information leaked, it would be very bad for Victor. That would be even worse. She mentioned a story about a certain official who hired an assassin to kill an executive he worked with, but in the end, the official was exposed online. The executive had stored evidence on a cloud drive and set a program to release it automatically. If he died, the evidence would spread across the internet the next day. This was Sarah's biggest concern. Even if they killed Sterling, it might not stop the information from leaking. While they were worrying about this, Melody appeared. After Victor told her everything, she found the situation very familiar. It is easy to spread a rumor, but very difficult to disprove one. People in the entertainment industry suffer from this often. Victor suddenly realized the solution. Melody explained that Sterling spreading his info was just like a celebrity scandal. Although some people would definitely believe Sterling, the information wasn't concrete evidence. Since he couldn't stop the leak, he would treat it as a fake rumor. Both were curious about what Victor would do. Victor said he needed to prepare first. He first called Sterling. He told him that if it wasn't for the evidence, he would have killed him already. The arrogant Sterling revealed his secret. He said that if he died, within 24 hours, Victor's information would be automatically sent to every phone in Skyline City. Having learned the time frame, Victor pretended to be scared. He promised to send Sterling supplies. The premise of creating a rumor. He had to muddy the waters. He began typing rapidly on his keyboard. Soon, a flood of rumors was written to bury the truth. The best way to hide the truth is to bury it deep, within a mountain of lies. Even if it didn't fool everyone, it would make most people believe that it was all nonsense. Sterling's message, if mixed in with all this fake information, would naturally be distrusted. This would greatly reduce the risk of him being discovered. Only those within Skyline City could reach him in this frozen environment and become a threat. This was all he could do for now. Whether it worked or not was up to fate. As for Sterling, in Victor's eyes, the man undoubtedly had to die. 10 minutes earlier, Victor followed his agreement with Sterling. He placed the supplies at his door and messaged him that they had arrived. But Victor did not leave. Instead, he took out his Barrett rifle and aimed at the bag from a distance. He planned to wait for Sterling to come out, then shoot and kill him. But after waiting for 10 minutes, there was still no movement. Victor wondered if he hadn't received the message. He considered contacting him again, but his logic stopped him. He couldn't contact him from here. If he called or messaged Sterling now, it would prove he knew Sterling hadn't retrieved the supplies yet. That would essentially expose his own location. So, he could only continue to wait. Sterling was willing to risk his life just to contact Victor and get supplies. There was no way he wouldn't come out. After waiting for another 2.5 minutes, the door finally opened. Sterling walked out with a smile to get the supplies. At that exact moment, Victor pulled the trigger. The bullet pierced through Sterling's head. Victor then rushed over and fired several more shots into Sterling to make sure he was dead. After finishing Sterling off, Victor entered his home. He planned to destroy the computer to eliminate any future trouble. But since the computer might contain other important data, he chose to store it in his dimension void instead. This would also prevent any information from being sent out. Now his next step was to return home and spread misinformation online. By doing this, even if information about him leaked out, it would still create enough confusion to keep anyone from suspecting him. When he returned home, Sarah had thoughtfully prepared some ox whip and kidney stew for him. She clearly wanted to boost his stamina, but Victor wasn't interested in that right now. Instead, he asked if they had received any messages. Melody took out her phone. She had received many notifications regarding the Southern Regional Warehouse supplies. Although they didn't know if the news was true, they felt like something was being hidden. Victor explained those were just smoke screens. Over the next 48 hours, hundreds of additional messages would be posted on all Skyline City forums and sent to everyone's phones. Victor realized that since he couldn't stop Sterling from leaking the info, he would use a massive amount of useless data to bury the truth. Both women were still confused after hearing this. They were worried that hyping up this topic would easily attract attention and make people even more suspicious. But Victor believed this was unavoidable. Whether he sent the messages or not, Sterling would definitely send them anyway. So spreading these smoke screens would help confuse everyone. He didn't believe that in this world, people had the energy to verify every detail. Furthermore, the messages he spread mentioned several official organizations and the major corporations in Skyline City. This made it less likely that he was acting alone. Melody praised Victor for being so smart. It was like an entertainment scandal. If a bigger star gets into trouble, the previous news is quickly forgotten. She felt that the man before her was not only handsome and powerful, but also very clever. Sarah then asked a new question. These messages are all sent from this computer. If someone tracks the IP address, won't we be caught immediately? Victor believed that unless the world became primitive, it was impossible to hide all tracks completely. He just wanted to ensure that most people would not suspect him directly. As for organizations with strong cyber capabilities, meeting them was inevitable. Victor had already prepared for this. If it weren't for Sterling, this would have happened much later. But they now faced a new problem. The location of the shelter would eventually be discovered. The good news was that unless a top-tier military force arrived, no one could pose a real threat to them. Melody felt relieved after hearing that. Victor told her not to celebrate yet, even though he was confident in his defense. He didn't want Melody to be idle. Looking at her face, she was clearly overthinking things. Victor snapped her back to reality. He asked both women to help build traps. Although the house had incredible defense, it was built for nuclear war and natural disasters. It wasn't designed to handle human invaders. The shelter lacked effective counterattack weapons, so he planned to set deadly traps around the building. If anyone dared to attack, they would never leave alive. The two obedient women said they would do anything. Victor then stood up. From his dimension void, he took out nails and boards. He began explaining how to make traps, telling them to listen carefully. They must remember the locations to avoid being injured by accident. Nails alone in the snow won't stop anyone. They must be fixed to the boards. When buried under the snow, they will pierce through any foot. He also used steel nails. Steel nails have better penetration, and screws will add more damage. Understood. He then showed them bear traps. These can instantly cripple someone. He also considered one detail. If placed on the outer edge, people could find them with sticks. So, they must be placed inside the nail boards. The two women only needed to make these two types of traps. Victor would handle the rest himself. There were two main paths to the building. From the armory, he had found two landmines. He would bury them in those two paths. By doing this, so when they go out in the future, they must be careful to avoid them. These things are extremely powerful. They can easily destroy tanks and armored vehicles. Victor also realized these traps are most effective the first time they are used. But if someone uses tools to clear the nail boards, he would need another way to deal with it. After finishing the traps, Victor took the girls to the perimeter and explained the trap layout. He ordered the nail boards not to be placed too far apart. The best result is when someone steps on one, falls, and then gets impaled by another. If it pierces the chest or face, it can kill them instantly. The boards don't need to be buried deep. Since it is still snowing, the traces will be completely hidden. After explaining everything, Victor shoveled snow alone. He dug a small hole and placed a landmine inside. Then he covered it with some snow. With more snow falling later, it would leave no trace. Next was a device to prevent them from clearing the traps. He set up a layer of tripwire grenade traps on the perimeter. This way, if someone kicks the wire, or even if they use tools, it will still trigger an explosion. After working for a while, all the traps were set. This should be enough for now. The outer traps, the 10-meter passage, the sleeping gas, and the high-temperature flamethrowers. These were all his hidden cards. As for the final line of defense, it was Victor himself. After returning to the shelter, Melody was actually looking forward to it. She wondered when the enemies would come. Victor was speechless. He hoped the enemies wouldn't come at all. He would rather his efforts be for nothing. What was this woman thinking? He slumped down on the sofa. He knew the enemies wouldn't arrive so soon, because anyone with a brain wouldn't attack easily at a time like this. Those who have survived until now are not simple people. Now he had to install 2 more locks on the door. His cautious approach earned Melody's admiration. She felt that although Victor was playing it very safe, he would definitely live longer than most. After installing the 2 locks, Victor sighed. He wished he had a computer expert by his side. Melody heard this and mentioned a girl named Ivy. Sarah then asked if Ivy was still alive. Ivy was Melody's cousin. At a young age, she won every international computer award. She was also a secret top-tier hacker, but she had polio as a child, which left her paralyzed from the waist down. She could only move in a wheelchair. If Victor wanted someone trustworthy and skilled with computers, she was the only choice. Victor became interested. He asked if they could find her. The bad news was, she had been missing for a long time. Melody tried many times to contact her, but received no news. Victor thought that with her skills, She would find a way to contact them if she were alive. If she couldn't be reached, she was likely dead. But Victor considered another possibility. Maybe Ivy just didn't want to talk to Melody. After all, everyone in her family was a genius. They were all much smarter than Melody. If they were in danger, they wouldn't ask her for help. This made Melody jump in anger. Victor thought if that girl Ivy was still alive, adding her to his team would be a good choice. Since she was paralyzed, she wouldn't be much of a threat to him. Also, Sarah and Melody were both beautiful, so Ivy's looks would surely be great too. Victor shook his head. He felt it was a pity the more he thought about it. Melody asked what they should do next. There is only one thing we need to do, and that is to wait. Just as Victor expected. Shortly after Sterling was dealt with, information about Victor was leaked. Meanwhile, it was drowned out by the spam he had planted. It didn't cause any stir, but he knew, if someone could find the truth and track him down through the fake data, they wouldn't be an ordinary organization, or they had a computer expert. He then continued to develop his power. Victor pulled out an arrow. A blue light glowed on the arrow. With a whoosh, the arrow shot out. It hit the bullseye. Victor was very satisfied. After half a month of practice, he had further developed his power. By coating weapons and projectiles in energy, their range and power would double. He named this skill Precision Shot. But the development of his power didn't stop there. If he covered his whole body in energy, his speed would more than double. Melee combat also became much easier. This speed boost also made escaping much safer. Although his power seemed simple, it had infinite potential. Suddenly, his stomach growled. He took a Snickers bar from the Dimension Void. He ate it to regain his energy. Although the new ability was impressive, its energy consumption was massive. Food is the ultimate source of strength. Skipping a meal makes one feel weak. Based on his situation, even superhumans need to eat to maintain their stamina and power. He realized something unexpected. The deciding factor of a superhuman strength was actually the amount of food they possessed. Realizing this, he knew he was invincible. So in a battle of attrition, Victor would not lose to anyone. Because inside his Dimension Void, there is enough food to last 10 lifetimes. But his peaceful days were coming to an end. Inside the West Hill Defense Camp's underground shelter, a secretary was reporting to the leader. She spoke about the information spreading online. Most of the messages were sent from Villa 101 in Skyline Manor. However, they discovered that one of the messages came from Sterling's phone, the chairman of Jiyun Tech. The leader became thoughtful. He asked for a detailed report regarding Victor's background. Victor has always lived in Skyline City. He was a supervisor at the Southern Regional Warehouse. The current investigation shows no social connection between him and Sterling. The leader was dismissive. He thought Victor was just a minor supervisor. He couldn't be the mastermind. Even if he gained some benefits, the amount wouldn't be significant. He speculated that Victor probably stole supplies during his employment. He hid the stolen goods in his home, which is how he survived until now. He concluded it was all a foreign conspiracy. They must have noticed something wrong before the gamma rays hit, so they stockpiled supplies in advance. Now they're making up ghost stories. It's pure self-deception. The secretary began to flatter him, praising the leader's brilliance. Those punks were seen through long ago. She asked if they should investigate Victor. The leader told her to send people there later. They hadn't searched that area yet. They might find some supplies there. The leader wasn't the only one suspicious. Dante in Sioux Town also noticed something. He was still dwelling on his last failure. Just then, his phone received many messages. Looking at the messages, he realized something. If he checked Victor in the Southern Regional Warehouse, he might find useful information. He immediately started searching on his computer. He actually found something strange. He discovered that except for one message, almost all the others came from the same IP address. He felt that Victor was extremely suspicious. He paced back and forth in the room. He wondered if anyone could really empty a multi-billion-dollar warehouse overnight. He soon thought of a possibility. If someone had a spatial ability, they could easily do it. It would be like an infinite capacity portable vacuum cleaner that could store a massive amount of items. Dante recalled their battle. His attack had suddenly vanished, only for Victor to release that same attack later. Controlling the timing of reflected attacks at will was like putting the attack into another dimension and then letting it out. He suddenly realized the truth. He was certain Victor had a spatial ability. All the goods from the Southern Regional Warehouse were likely in his hands. This also explained why Victor had a luxury snowmobile. Dante was actually quite smart. After reaching this conclusion, he felt even more dejected. He went back to bed and sulked. Dante was very envious of Victor for having a spatial ability. Compared to his snowdrift, it was clearly on a whole different level. This huge gap made him feel like Victor was the main character, while he was just a villain. Like a mini-boss in a video game. He looked tougher than a normal monster, but he was actually just there to provide experience points. His abilities were completely countered by Victor. He was no match for him at all. He made a decision right then. He could never make an enemy of Victor. It would be best to become his friend. He also needed to warn the whole village, never to provoke him. He immediately went to discuss this with Third Grandpa. He nervously said he had something important to tell him. After some frantic gesturing, he finally got to the point. He told Third Grandpa, we must never have a conflict with him. But Third Grandpa's focus was on the billions worth of missing supplies. He repeatedly confirmed if they were in Victor's hands. Dante confirmed that they were. Third Grandpa was shocked at first. However, he thought to himself, if they could get those supplies for the people of East Sioux Village, they would last for many years. Dante realized what he was thinking. He quickly warned Third Grandpa not to target Victor, but he refused to listen. He even called Dante a coward. With thousands of people in Sioux Town, how could they not handle one person? Dante still felt it was too dangerous. Third Grandpa spoke of his glory days. Back then, from East Sioux Village, all the way to Shushi Village, he fought without blinking an eye. For the survival of East Sioux Village, the Sioux family was ready to risk their lives. Inside Skyline Manor, Victor and his two partners were enjoying themselves in the warmth. Melody ate her steak, thinking this carefree life was actually quite nice. Just then, a scream came from outside. Victor grew alert, knowing a trap was triggered. Someone was here. He told the women to keep eating. While he went to check, Victor looked out from a high point. He saw a massive crowd of people nearby. Sioux Town's people arrived faster than expected. He pulled out his Barrett. He knew ordinary people couldn't threaten the shelter. The only ones he needed to worry about were the mutants from the village. If they appeared, Victor would take the opportunity to kill them all. Since you all want to die, then come at me. On the Sioux Town side, the villagers were amazed. So close to their village, there was actually such a luxurious house. While one villager was distracted, he stepped on a hidden trap. He let out a scream of agony. Others heard him and went to check. A man pointed out that there were traps under the snow. The villagers cursed Victor for being despicable, for hiding traps in the snow. Third Grandfather realized Victor was well prepared. He ordered the villagers to advance slowly. They used sticks and branches to probe the path, clearing out the traps as they went, using their numbers to their advantage. They began clearing the area around the shelter. Seeing this, Victor realized it was time for the second wave of traps. Just then, one of the men felt something under his foot. Looking closely, he saw a black wire. In the next moment, Victor saw an explosion in the snow. A large group of people was blown away. Now, the others realized there were bombs. One man looked at his companion and saw his face and body covered in blood. The companion opened his jacket to check his wounds. He had been hit by the previous blast. He began rolling on the ground in agony. By pure misfortune, he rolled right onto another black wire. Boom! Another bomb was triggered. The villagers finally realized that the path ahead was a minefield. They couldn't move forward anymore. They never expected to face such a situation. Watching from the high ground, Victor felt something was wrong. The Ice-type ability user still hadn't made a move. He was now less than 200 meters from the villagers. As long as the target is within 2 kilometers, he can easily kill them. He was just waiting for that ability user to show up. Someone suggested to the village chief that he should call his grandson, Dante. They wanted Dante to use his powers to clear the traps. Facing the villagers' pleas, the chief felt stuck. Dante had previously begged him not to attack this place. At the time, the chief bragged that he didn't need him to take over the shelter. But now, they had heavy casualties before even reaching the gate. But as a grandfather, he couldn't bring himself to beg his grandson. What are you afraid of? Even without Dante, are we completely useless? While boosting the villagers' morale, he cursed Victor for being incredibly vicious. He complained Victor set too many traps around the house. Even though they were the invaders, he still acted like the victim. He pointed at the shelter nearby. He said the target wasn't going anywhere. There is nothing to fear. Not only that, he pulled out a pair of binoculars. He told one man to look closely at what was actually inside the villa. The man took the binoculars and looked. He was shocked by what he saw. He saw 2 beautiful women enjoying fine food in a warm room. He couldn't believe his eyes and let the others look as well. They all saw that it was a paradise. But the problem facing them now was the snow in front of them was full of traps and bombs. They still hoped Dante would come. If he used his power, he could easily clear the entire snowfield. The chief was furious when he heard this. He cursed the men for being cowards. You're all spineless cowards. He told them to leave if they were scared. He didn't want them shaming the Sioux family name. The men quickly denied being cowards. They claimed they weren't weaklings. Their morale was instantly boosted. The village chief was satisfied. He called the traps child's play. He ordered them to continue advancing slowly. They began throwing snowballs ahead of them to trigger the traps hidden in the snow. This method was actually quite effective. The chief praised their progress. He urged the villagers to keep going. Once the traps were cleared, food, drinks, and women would all belong to them. Now, over 1,000 villagers were getting closer to the shelter. Victor was impressed by their progress. He realized the wisdom of the masses was strong. Their careful searching could indeed bypass most of his traps. But he wasn't worried at all. He still had a backup plan ready. Meanwhile, the chief made another move. He ordered the shotgun team to move up. If Victor started shooting, they were to return fire immediately. At the same time, the 2 women inside the house saw this. They couldn't help but feel worried. Melody worried if the enemies would break in, but Sarah was concerned about how many people would die this time. As the one who had been with Victor the longest, Sarah teased Melody for her lack of courage. She asked how Melody could stay by Victor's side. If she was this scared, Victor also took action. He first turned on the villa's noise reduction. Then he pressed the mine activation button. On the snow near the shelter, violent explosions erupted. Most of the villagers were blown away. After the explosions, no one was left in one piece. Severed limbs and organs were scattered everywhere. Seeing this, Victor actually felt pity for them. He wished he had more of these mines. That way, he could kill them all instantly, to save them from suffering. Sarah and Melody saw the bloody scene and couldn't stop vomiting. Seeing the victims struggle in the snow did not make Victor feel any mercy. He only hoped they would die faster, to end their suffering in the freezing cold. The village chief trembled at the sight. The surviving villagers suffered immense psychological trauma. They're dead. They're all dead. They were blown to pieces. Arms, brains, everything is shattered. Seeing the severed limbs before him, the village chief could no longer take it. He collapsed onto the snow. To him, Victor was undoubtedly a demon. His mind was on the verge of collapse. He's not human. He's a devil. He couldn't understand why, for just wanting supplies, Victor would kill hundreds of them. On the other hand, Victor had no intention of letting them go. He took out his compound bow and arrows, ready to show them true despair. After half a month of practice, and with the help of his ability, he didn't even need to aim for a triple shot. 3 arrows infused with power were fired. They hit 3 people's heads perfectly. These arrows never missed. They gave the targets no time to react. In the blink of an eye, they were shot dead. The gunman in the back noticed something was wrong, but they couldn't find where the shooter was. Before they knew it, they were dead too. Everyone began to flee in panic. Even with such heavy snow, the arrows could still reach them. The village chief felt helpless. He kept apologizing to the villagers. If only he had listened to Dante, it wouldn't have come to this. He slapped himself repeatedly to ease his guilt. He was the one responsible for this mess. He became Victor's next target. Since you're here, you might as well stay. Victor pulled back his bowstring. Suddenly, something happened. A snow tornado appeared from nowhere. Victor lost sight of his target. He knew they finally couldn't hold back. The mutant from East Sioux Village acted. Using his ice and snow ability, he blocked Victor's vision. Under Dante's cover, the villagers began to escape. Dante decided not to run this time. He had to buy them some time. Victor saw this and realized he couldn't get a clear shot. He took out his body armor and gear, ready to see who was stronger. After a while, Dante was relieved Victor didn't pursue. But things didn't go as planned. He heard the roar of an engine in the distance. It was Victor driving his snow cruiser, charging straight toward them. He switched to autopilot and leaned out of the vehicle. He opened fire with a machine gun. Those who were slow were immediately shot down. Among the crowd, Victor spotted the ability user. He fired at him without hesitation. Due to the heavy snow, the bullet missed Dante. Instead, Dante managed to escape on a dog sled. Victor knew this was the best chance to kill the enemy ability user. He couldn't let him get away. Since Dante kept using his ability to interfere with Victor's aim, Victor decided to target the others first. After a hail of gunfire, Victor killed those lagging behind. Because the ability user's range was limited, Dante could protect himself, but not the others. If he only focused on self-preservation, Victor would kill all the villagers. Moments later, many villagers were shot and fell. The snow was stained red as they collapsed. Dante told the others. They dumped the bodies off the vehicle to escape quickly. Even though these bodies were their own relatives, they had to abandon them to save themselves. After driving past the corpses on the ground, Victor fired another shot. The bullet hit another pair of villagers. The others urged Dante to come up with a plan. At first, he looked helpless. But then, an idea came to his mind. He raised his hand and activated his ability. Cracks began to appear in the ice. The cracks grew wider and wider, until Victor's speeding snowmobile got stuck in them. This forced Victor to come to a halt. He didn't expect Dante's power could split the ice. Left with no choice, Victor stood on the roof of his vehicle. He fired a shot toward the distance. But the people from Sioux Village had already vanished into the blizzard. Victor realized he shouldn't fight them on the ice again. If Dante's ability had been stronger, or if the ice had been thinner, Victor and his vehicle would have fallen into the freezing water. Eventually, he decided to head back home. After returning home, Sarah asked if he caught the Esper who attacked them last time. Victor explained that the guy was very slippery. He refused to face Victor in a head-on fight. His ability to escape was very annoying, making him difficult to kill. Just then, Melody asked. She asked a thoughtless question. Victor, you've killed so many people. Aren't you afraid of being held accountable later? You know that murder is against the law. Victor didn't give her a direct answer. He just stepped forward and pinched her cheek. What do you think? Then he asked Sarah to cook for him. He wanted to eat brains, blood tofu, and intestines. Hearing about these organ dishes, Melody couldn't help but gag. Victor leaned in closer and asked if she wanted some to nourish herself. Melody's mind was now filled with the organs he had just blown apart. She couldn't eat anything and felt suffocated. Dante also felt overwhelmed. He thought awakening an ability would make him a legendary hero. Instead, endless trouble kept finding him. Now, he just wanted to live a quiet, lazy life. Just then, he noticed a girl smiling at him. When he walked closer, the girl asked if he was Dante. After Dante confirmed his identity, she began to introduce herself. Her name was Lily. She came there to express her gratitude to him. If Dante hadn't stepped in, her father would have died there. Hearing this, Dante scratched his head. He modestly said it was just what he should do. At that moment, the guilt in his heart vanished. He now felt like a hero, instead of a sinner. Facing Lily's constant praise, Dante became increasingly bashful. After they parted ways, his heart was racing like crazy. Although he didn't know Lily well, He felt like he was falling in love. He decided he would protect this home. He had to give her and the child a safe environment. Because of the villagers' actions, Victor was likely furious. He might come to attack East Sioux Village and wipe everyone out. Dante had promised his grandpa to protect the village, and now he had also found love. He couldn't let Victor destroy his happiness. But the biggest problem was, he couldn't win in a head-on fight. Victor would kill him in seconds. Finally, Dante made a decision. He would negotiate with Victor. They would stay out of each other's way. This was the best strategy. He felt like a genius for coming up with such a bold idea. To protect the entire Sioux family. And Lily, he dreamed of a better life with her. While turning on his computer, he planned to message Victor for peace talks. Meanwhile, on Victor's side, he was repairing the broken traps in the snow. He needed to prepare for the next wave of enemies. As for that mutant, Victor decided he had to kill him. If that man grew any stronger, he would become a huge problem. Since they couldn't be friends, he would treat him as an enemy. He had to eliminate him as soon as possible. After Victor finished the repairs, he lay down on the sofa to rest. His two women were very considerate and started giving him a massage. Just then, his phone rang. The sound startled Victor. After Sterling's previous threat, he didn't know who would call him now. The caller was Dante. After introducing himself, he said he wanted to talk to Victor. Dante said he wanted to make peace. And in the conflict between them, Victor burst out laughing. They were clearly the ones who started the trouble. They want to make peace now that they're losing? That's not how the world works. Hearing this, Dante immediately changed his tone. He said he hoped for forgiveness and admitted they were wrong. Everything was the village's fault, given that the villagers had suffered heavy losses. He asked Victor to spare the village. To show his sincerity, Dante said if Victor had any conditions, he should state them. Victor asked if he could negotiate on behalf of East Sioux Village. Dante gave him a definite yes. But Victor asked him, by what authority? Who are you to the village? When Victor heard the answer, he was shocked. He realized the person he was talking to was the Esper he had already fought twice. Victor confirmed with him, if I agree to make peace, will East Sioux Village meet any request? After getting a confirmation, Victor realized there was only one thing he wanted. It was Dante himself, because Ice-type powers were extremely powerful in this environment. If he could recruit this Esper as a subordinate, he would be very useful. However, Dante misunderstood his meaning. He claimed he was straight. Victor scolded him after hearing that. He said he was only interested in his power. Finally, Victor told him that if he was truly sincere, he should come over in person, so Victor could see if he was qualified to negotiate a truce. Otherwise, after being harassed repeatedly, Victor would no longer tolerate it. Once he crossed the river, wiping out their entire village would be easy. Dante hurriedly tried to calm him down. Please don't get worked up yet. Let's talk. Keeping East Sioux Village alive is also beneficial for you. East Sioux Village and Skyline Manor are close neighbors. If enemies attack in the future, they could help each other. Victor said one sentence. That left Dante speechless. Enemies? Aren't you my biggest enemies right now? In Victor's eyes, they try to take everything when they can win, and beg for peace when they can't. Yet they still don't want to pay any price. They want to have the best of both worlds. Finally, Victor said, only Dante is qualified to talk to him. Whether he comes or not is up to him. But whether I attack his base depends entirely on Victor's mood. Dante heard this and immediately agreed to the negotiation. Victor set the meeting for 2:30 p.m., as it would be slightly warmer then. He then hung up the phone. Dante collapsed in exhaustion. He knew that by agreeing, it would likely be a suicide mission. His lucky streak was probably over. Meanwhile, Victor faced a dilemma. He wasn't sure if he should kill Dante. If Dante's ice abilities grew, they would have limitless potential. His powers might even surpass Arthur's strength core enhancement. Victor decided to test him first, before deciding whether to kill or spare him. Feeling exhausted, Victor went to his room to sleep. Melody then entered the room and offered to rest with him. Victor refused, saying he had work in the afternoon. However, he said he lacked a proper pillow. He then laid his head on her soft lap. Although Victor's mouth said no, his body was being very honest. But his body was honest as he buried his face in Melody's lap. He told her to wake him at 2 o'clock. Melody's body couldn't stop trembling. Perhaps it was because Victor was enjoying himself. Soon, it was 2:30 p.m. Through his scope, he saw him. Dante arrived as agreed. Victor thought to himself, once he enters my shooting range, I can take his life instantly. Victor watched him through the scope. He saw Dante keep tripping and falling as he walked. Victor figured he was just a fool. He finally decided to meet him. After a brief conversation, Victor realized Dante didn't hate him at all. Since no one in the village respected Dante, he felt no connection to any of the villagers. Therefore, he felt no resentment toward Victor for killing the people of East Sioux Village. Instead, he actually admired Victor. Victor set a condition. Dante must obey all his orders and never refuse any of his demands. Then, Victor took out some anime figures. As long as Dante remained loyal, Victor promised him plenty of figures, pillows, and video games. Dante could not resist his love for anime, so Dante chose to become Victor's subordinate. Victor then drove him to a specific location. He told Dante to clear the snow in front of them. Victor wanted to test his new subordinate's ability. Dante activated his power. The snow began to disintegrate slowly. Moments later, the snow was completely cleared. A gas station was buried deep under the snow. Dante was the perfect assistant for this. It would be much easier to gather resources now. After Victor collected everything from the gas station, he highly praised Dante's work. He even gave him a backpack full of food. Dante's loyalty soared instantly. He opened up and explained how he awakened his powers. When he was on the verge of starvation, he had relieved himself over 20 times. He awakened his power right as he was about to collapse from exhaustion. This was truly an eye-opener. Victor never expected someone to awaken powers that way. When Victor returned home, he celebrated the successful mission at the village. He drank with the two women until they passed out. While staying close to Sarah, Victor and Melody discussed the origins of humanity together. A few days later, Victor had a new concern. If his shelter's network was ever hacked, the consequences would be terrifying. Just at that moment, he found the two women whispering in a room. He decided to go in and investigate. From their conversation, Victor learned that Melody's family had contacted her. She begged Victor to help rescue them. For safety reasons, Victor didn't want to risk going out to save a complete stranger. But then he learned the person to be rescued was a female hacker named Ivy. She was exactly the person who could solve his concerns. She was a highly skilled network engineer. To convince him, Sarah and Melody offered themselves as a reward. They suggested they all study together as a trio. Victor finally agreed to help. Melody told him that Ivy was trapped at Azure Academy. Because the school warehouse had plenty of food, she had been hiding in the cafeteria. That was how she managed to survive. Since the extreme cold had paralyzed communications, and the distance was quite far, Melody could no longer reach her. Victor thought that by using the shelter's computers, there might be a way to solve this problem. As expected, they successfully contacted Ivy, but on the other end of the call, they only heard Ivy's cries for help and the roars of terrifying monsters. Judging by the sounds, it was the sound of limbs and bones being torn and devoured. Victor panicked after hearing it. The sound was incredibly chilling. Then the call was cut off. Victor realized the situation was much worse than expected. He reminded himself that he hates trouble. The two women saw through his thoughts and leaned closer to him. To please them both, Victor promised to rescue Ivy. He was confident because he had two mutants as helpers. While it might be troublesome, if they worked together, it wouldn't be a hard task. Victor recalled the sounds. Those eerie cries were likely from genetic mutants or other mutated creatures. He called Arthur to go to Azure Academy for the rescue. He also contacted Dante. Since Ivy, a paralyzed girl, survived there for a month, it meant the threat wasn't something that three mutants couldn't handle. After calling his teammates, he began to limit his food intake, as eating too much would hinder his movement. If he used too much energy, the Dimension Void had plenty of food and water to replenish. Not only that, his weapons and gear were all preloaded and stored in the Dimension Void. He also prepared pistols with more firepower than before. He could not afford to be careless against mutants. Then Dante called, saying he had arrived near the shelter. Victor had one last thing to do before leaving. He told the two girls to stay in the basement. On the surface, it was for their safety. But Victor actually worried Ivy's message was a hoax they had fabricated together. He locked Melody and Sarah in separate rooms. There was plenty of food and water inside. Before leaving, Victor promised that as long as Ivy was safe when he arrived, he would definitely bring her back unharmed. If possible, Victor didn't want to distrust those close to him. But times were tough. If he wanted to survive, he had to be cautious about everything and never let his guard down. Next is the mission to rescue Ivy. I took in the world's only ice superpower user as my subordinate. But this guy is a total shut-in otaku. He is also a terminal chatterbox with nothing to do at home. He sends me hundreds of weird messages every day. It's as annoying as harassment calls from debt collectors. I couldn't take it anymore, so I set our chat to auto-reply mode. People like him were probably outcasts in society before. Since I treat him a little better now, he wants to give me his whole heart. But people like him are the easiest to handle. After he sends a dozen messages, the system auto-replies with "oh," and that's enough. Somehow this makes me feel like a total jerk. After dealing with Fat Sue, I went to the control room feeling relaxed. On the monitor, my second wife, Melody, was carefully watering the vegetables. Since moving into the new home, Melody has been managing the garden. Because of her, even in the apocalypse, we have fresh vegetables to eat every day. I am truly satisfied with this supercomputer. It controls the entire shelter. Without its existence, the Bastion would be paralyzed in minutes. The Bastion would be paralyzed in minutes. But this is exactly what worries me the most. If the Bastion's network ever gets hacked, the consequences would be unimaginable. Looking at the strange buttons on the control panel, I look very worried. How can I solve this problem? Meanwhile, in Sarah's room, Melody went straight inside after returning from the garden. Melody's voice came from inside the room. "Sarah, you must help me with this. You have been with Victor longer than I have. He will listen to you more than he listens to me. After all, Ivy is also like a sister to you. We can't just leave her to die." Hearing this, Sarah looked troubled. "I understand how you feel, but I know Victor too well. He will never do something so dangerous. Besides, we don't even know the situation over there. He is an overly cautious man. That is how he has kept us alive in this apocalypse. So he definitely won't help." Although Melody knew Sarah was telling the truth, she still had a determined look on her face. "If we don't try, how will we know it won't work?" She steeled her heart and pulled at her clothes. A woman's best weapon is her own body. At most, the two of us can go to him together. I don't believe he could refuse us both. Looking at the determined Melody, Sarah gave a playful smile. Simply put, you want to use your charms to seduce him, right? Don't think I don't know what you two have been doing in secret. Actually, I was just pretending to be asleep that day. Wasn't it exciting doing that right next to me? It's one thing if you do it yourself, but now you actually want me to join you and do those shameful things together? I absolutely refuse. As the two were scuffling, Victor pushed the door open and walked in with a smile. Why aren't you two sleeping in the middle of the night? What are you doing in bed together? Thinking Victor hadn't heard their conversation, Melody hurriedly tried to explain. It's nothing, since Sarah and I are cousins. We were just talking about some family matters. Tell me, I hope there are no secrets between the three of us. Do you have relatives far away who want to take you away to live with them? Hearing Victor's question, Sarah knew he had the wrong idea. She quickly explained, it's not like that. Since the blizzard started, I've lost contact with my family. I don't even know if they are still alive. But Melody gritted her teeth, deciding to take this chance to confess everything to Victor. It's not about Sarah. My family actually contacted me, but their goal isn't to take me away. It's that she is in danger and wants me to save her. Hearing this, my expression turned cold. I see. I said I didn't want any secrets between the three of us. But you two discussed this in private, deciding to treat me like a sucker. You want me to go save a complete stranger? Seeing me leave in anger, Melody grabbed my arm. Just this once. She is the only family I have left. I really don't want to lose her. Seeing my silence, the usually rational Sarah also stepped forward. Hubby, I know this has nothing to do with you, but she is our relative after all. If we just watch her die, we will feel guilty for the rest of our lives. Faced with their pleas, I remained unmoved. Don't you know what it's like outside right now? Ordinary people can't even move 100 meters from home, let alone travel a long distance to save someone. Besides, my information has already been exposed. I don't know how many people are eyeing my supplies. And the Doomsday Bastion. Leaving this house means taking a risk. Do you think I'll risk my life for a stranger? I stood up and prepared to return to my room. But the two women clung to me like pitiful human ornaments. To make me agree, the bashful Sarah gritted her teeth and whispered in my ear, if you agree to save her, after this, no matter what you ask, I will satisfy you. I'll even join my cousin Melody tonight and share a bed with you. My firm resolve shattered instantly. Are you serious? Seeing a turning point, Sarah's face turned red. Yes. So do you agree? Melody, who had been silent, let out a sigh. Ivy's legs have always been bad. In this freezing weather, I'm afraid she won't last long out there. Thinking of this, my heart bleeds. Hearing the name Ivy, I froze. I remembered what Melody mentioned. About her sister. An 18-year-old paralyzed computer genius. A genius computer programmer. I need her to protect the shelter from hackers. A network engineer I've been dying to find. She is exactly the specialist I need. This is like being handed a pillow just as I'm getting sleepy. It's killing two birds with one stone. I took both their hands with a solemn look. Enough, say no more. Since she is your sister, she is like my own sister too. I can't just stand by while she is in danger. In Sarah's eyes, I was practically glowing. Someone who always puts safety first actually agreed. My husband really does love me. Melody was much more rational, but my image in her eyes had clearly grown much greater. Before, she stayed with me, just to survive. Now, she truly sees me as someone important. I took the chance to give another speech. I dropped my usual cold rationality and acted like a hero fighting for love. Both of them were now deeply moved by me. Melody told me she would definitely repay me for this. I grabbed her hand and joked. Just once. You underestimate me. The thought of having both sisters was exciting. After a long night together, I asked Melody the next morning about her sister's situation in this frozen world. Even as a space-type mutant, I couldn't afford to be careless. After spending the night together, the two women had become even closer. My lead wife, Sarah, stepped aside and let Melody explain the details. Ivy is trapped